Hey everyone, if you're enjoying my RM audiobooks, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that hype, and maybe check out my Patreon if you want to support the channel even more. Your support means a lot and helps me keep these coming. Now, sit back and enjoy the story.
Chapter 28. Author Note. Hey, I'm back with a new chapter. Narvergy, glad you like this version of Freya, and with how she gets Rhea to join them at the end at the last chapter. Anime fan 13579, yeah, the part with the one-eyed black dragon in the anime was interesting, but it felt more like an extra filler for me. The Rekia arc in the anime felt like a side story that wasn't really relevant except if you consider how Belle tells Hestia that they won't end up together. But well, we'll see how it goes. Guest, I did consider making Ishtar a pseudo-servant, but that would make less sense. As you mentioned, there isn't anyone who is like Rin. Ghost Iced, I shall try to be more descriptive with the combat scenes. As for the PM function, I don't really use it because I have the email notification switched off, so it'll be hard for me anyway. Ankalock. Calamity Zero King. Well, here it is. Roland Teeps, glad you liked me including Achilles. Now that Belle has both Atalanta and Achilles, he can pull off this one thing I saw on YouTube, where this dude mixes and mashes noble phantasms from FGO called Dual Noble Phantasms. Ninjafong 1331. Thanks, here's another chapter. The quotable Patella. We'll see more drama during the Xenos arc, I promise you. Otaku 97. To be frank, I wasn't really focusing on Haraheim in this arc. It was more Aisha than anything. And here, Belle has sort of grown strong enough that the Ishtar Familia isn't a problem for him. So I get where you're coming from. Cody White 162, glad you liked how the chapter was done. Having the Ishtar Familia will definitely be good during the Xenos arc for Belle, but we'll see. Anyway, here's the newest chapter. I rewatched the final episodes of Season 2, and I decided I'd try my hand at the Rekia arc. So here it is. XXX. A few days later, Belle and the rest of his familia were having breakfast. Aisha grinned as she took a bite from her bowl of noodles. Our Lord Hero sure can do everything, huh? Never thought you'd be one to cook. Harahan nodded, swinging her tail blissfully as she enjoyed her own food. Cranel-sama is amazing. With a lot of effort from Belle, the boy had managed to convince Hestia to transfer the two to their familia, while the rest stayed in the Ishtar familia. They had informed the guild of their arrangements, and now almost everything in the entertainment district belonged to the Hestia familia through the Ishtar familia being subordinate to them. Hestia and Artemis had agreed that they would be allowed freedom in terms of their business at their brothels, but financial decisions, dungeon-related decisions, and anything that usually would go through Ishtar would have to be approved by Hestia, Artemis, Lily, or Belle. Hestia snorted as everyone else ate their food. Don't get too used to it, okay? The Amazoness chuckled. Well, that's one more thing I should be glad about for transferring over. Huh? Makoto asked, are you really okay just leaving your old comrades? Aisha snorted. I got over it. Besides, it's not like we're not seeing each other anymore. We're just under new management. She spared both virgin goddesses a glance. Strict management. Artemis snorted. Be glad we're allowing the brothels to stay. If it were us back on Tenkai, they'd be abolished in an instant. The Amazoness scoffed. Yeah well, not that it's any of my problems anymore. Hestia nodded. Exactly, you have nothing to do with that anymore. Another one of the conditions the goddess had was that Aisha had to stop being a prostitute. Considering Aisha always only slept with men who proved to be stronger, it wasn't a huge change for her unlike her fellow members of the Berbera. Putting that against being able to stay with Haraheim in a much better environment, the choice was easy. Haraheim smiled as she devoured her food at a very humane pace, happy with their new living arrangements. Welf looked at Belle. You gotta teach me how to cook, man. The boy just shrugged with a smile, and Daphne sighed. But to think we would have Andy and Ira in our familia, and now two people who can boost levels. The redhead looked at Belle and Haraheim, pretty sure the other gods would throw a fit when they find out. Hestia grinned. Oh, someone definitely did. Loki was pissed when she found out about Haraheim Kuin's Jujitsu. Haraheim looked guilty at that, sorry. Artemis snorted. Don't be. That's just how they are. Lily spoke up. Speaking of which, Belle-sama, you leveled up, didn't you? Belle nodded. Yeep, just this morning. I'm a level 3 now. Cassandra smiled. Congratulations, Belle. Daphne nodded. Congratulations. Welf laughed. About time too, considering you defeated the Apollo Familia and the Ishtar Familia on your own. Lily nodded. Agreed. Aisha snorted. Can't believe you kicked my ass as a level 2, but considering you had your own form of level boosting, I can't say I'm too mad. The Familia captain chuckled. I guess. Artemis looked at him. So I'm assuming you'll be heading to the guild to report it then? Belle nodded. Yes, I'm due for another meeting with Ina-san too. And I'm supposed to meet Rhea-san for training later as well. Hestia raised an eyebrow. Oh? She's not coming over? The boy shook his head. No, not today. I'll be training with the others as well this time. I think Lafia-san and Tiona-san are coming too. The goddess of the hearth narrowed her eyes. I see. Aisha grinned. Mind if I tag along? We've been dealing with moving in and all the paperwork for the past few days. I'm itching for a good fight. Belle nodded. Sure, I don't mind. I can come back after my meeting with Ina-san later. The Amazoness smirked. Great. The boy smiled. Just be ready. Aside from Lafia-san, everyone there is at least level 4. Aisha's smirk widened. Now you're just making me more excited. Lily palmed her face. First we have a familia captain with a hero complex, then a blacksmith with a fetish for drop items. Now we have a bloodthirsty Amazoness. What is our familia coming to? Wellf looked offended. Hey, I don't have a fetish for drop items. Everyone laughed at that, and Daphne commented, but well, most of the stronger and well-known familias all have their quirks. I like to think we're heading towards that direction. Hestia grinned. I certainly hope you're not wrong on that end. Belle chuckled. All right. We can talk about all that later. If you don't finish your food now, it'll go cold. Everyone laughed again and went back to eating. Line break. A short while later, Belle was in the guild building in a meeting room with Aina. The half-elf let out a breath. Seriously, Belkuin, you're gonna give me a heart attack someday. First you get captured by the Ishtar familia, then they end up becoming a subordinate familia to your own. The boy laughed sheepishly. Well, one thing led to another. Aina shook her head in exasperation. But still, I'm happy for you. It shows that you're making progress. Belle scratched his neck, I guess. The half-elf nodded. Speaking of which, when are you planning to head back down to the dungeon? The boy leaned into his seat. Not anytime soon. We're still sorting out everything we got from the Ishtar familia. I think Hestia-sama and Artemis-sama aren't really keen on having to deal with the stuff from the entertainment district. Aina hummed. That sort of makes sense, considering the kind of goddesses they are. Belle nodded. So we're probably gonna just either have Lily keep an eye on them and just leave them as it is. But dungeon diving will be a different thing. The half-elf nodded, I suppose. But considering Phryne and Thomas are now declared Kia, the manpower you gained isn't exactly a lot. The boy smiled. I think it's okay. We got Aisha-san and Samira-san. They're both pretty strong in their own right. Aina hummed. Antianira and Bite. I suppose so. That means you have 2 level 3s in your familia now. Belle paused, before quickly remembering the reason he was here in the first place. 3 now, actually. The half-elf paused. Wait, what? The boy smiled. I just got to level 3 this morning. Aina gaped. You what? Belle's smile strained. I got up to level 3 this morning? The half-elf blinked again, and she blinked again, before closing her eyes. You know what? I'm not even gonna question it. The boy blinked. Thanks. Aina took a deep breath. I suppose congratulations are in order then. I know a lot of adventurers who are still stuck at level 2 even after years. Belle nodded. I guess so. The half-elf shook her head. Seriously, I didn't need that second headache when you came in announcing that the Ishtar familia would be under yours. Now you come in and tell me you level up. The boy giggled sheepishly. Sorry. Aina sighed. It's not your fault. People just need to stop giving me paperwork to sort out. Belle tilted his head in confusion. Is it really that bad? The half-elf grumbled. Don't get me started. Recently the Kingdom of Rakia announced they're waging war on Oreo, and I have to deal with all the paperwork to find a familia that's strong enough and willing to deal with them. The boy blinked. War? But if we're going to war, shouldn't people be panicking? Aina snorted. I say war, but it's more of a skirmish than anything. See, the Kingdom of Rakia is mainly made of members of the Ares familia, but they don't go into the dungeon. Belle caught on. I see. So they're not as strong. The half-elf nodded. Most if not all of them are level 1s, and only a handful of them make it to level 2. But the problem is their numbers. They have hundreds, if not thousands of men. The boy hummed. I see. So you need a familia strong enough to take them on, someone who can handle numbers. Aina nodded. I managed to convince Reveria-sama to ask Loki to lend us Elgarm and the Sword Princess, but it's still not enough. Belle blinked in surprise. Not enough? You're saying Ace-san and Gareth-san can't deal with them? The half-elf shook her head. They can, but the enemy is coming from 3 directions. The both of them can easily handle any one of them, but we're still missing the last section. Belle blinked. One last direction. Aina nodded, and well, the Freya familia isn't interested, and none of the other familias are willing. The boy hummed. Then, how about we go deal with this 3rd direction? The half-elf blinked, and she blinked again. Wait, you're willing to do that? Belle nodded. Of course, if what you're saying is true, then the most we're up against are just level 1 and level 2s. I'm sure my familia will be good to take care of them. Aina blinked again, before she asked, but you'll be going to war against people. It won't be like the dungeon. The boy smiled. It's not my first time fighting against people, you know? The half-elf furrowed her brows. A lot of familias are not willing to do that for what we'll pay you for. Belle's smile widened, and I said we can help. If it'll solve your problem, I'll go even if it's just myself. Aina fell silent, before she nodded. All right, I'll let my boss know the Hestia familia will take on the last checkpoint. The boy nodded. Great. When do we need to leave? The half-elf took out her ledger and flipped through it. At this point of time, the Rakia forces are still preparing. They'll march towards Oreo in 4 days, allegedly. So we'll need you to be there by the day after tomorrow. Belle nodded. Done. Aina looked at him. So we'll go through the overall forces of the Rakia kingdom tomorrow and what you can expect. Then you can leave in the afternoon. Will that be okay? The boy nodded. Sure. The half-elf nodded. There's a village near the area that you can use as a base, and they've already agreed under the condition we protect them. Belle hummed. Good to know, but I'll have to let my familia members know too. So we can look at the details tomorrow? Aina nodded. Of course. Thank you so much for this, Belkuin. The white-haired rabbit smiled. Anytime. He stood up. But anyway, if that's all, I really just came here to catch up and report my level up. Aina nodded. Sure, I'll make sure to put that in the records. Belle smiled. Thanks, Aina-san. The half-elf closed her ledger and books. You're welcome, and thank you. You have no idea how much time you've saved me. The white-haired boy just smiled. I'll see you tomorrow then. Aina nodded and went for the door, something mirrored by the young adventurer. Yes, of course. Line break. A short while later, Belle and Aisha were walking towards the hostess. The Amazoness was grinning ear to ear. So you decided to accept a request from your advisor to go to the war against the kingdom of Rakia? Belle nodded. Yep. Aisha laughed. And you didn't bother to consult our goddess. I like it. The boy smiled dryly. Yeah, well, one thing led to another. The woman snorted. You will find no complaints from me. Hell, the two of us can go alone. More fun for me. Belle just chuckled. I'll bet. Aisha just grinned. Before she asked, so, this group of training friends of yours, would they happen to include that elf I saw before? The boy blinked. Elf? The Amazoness nodded. When your goddesses and Freya of all people came in, there was an elf with them. Belle, you mean Ryuu-san? Yeah, she's actually the one who I've been training with all this while. Aisha raised an eyebrow. Is that so? The boy nodded. Yeah, honestly a lot of what I've learned, aside from what I got from my inherited memories, were mostly from her and Aina-san. The Amazoness hummed. Interesting. But before the woman could speak more, a familiar voice reached their ears. Belle-san. The pair turned to see Lafia and Tiona, followed by Loki and Riveria. Tiona beamed. Hello. Argonaut-kun. The goddess grinned. Why, if it isn't the heir to the throne himself. I heard you got the Ishtar Familia under you now, but never thought you'd have one of them with you. Enjoying yourself? Eh? Aisha chuckled. Unfortunately, no. I'd love to, but our goddess is nothing if not prude. Loki cackled. I knew it. This is the biggest joke in history. A virgin goddess now owns the red light district of Oreo? Belle and Lafia's faces reddened when they realized what the goddess was talking about, and Riveria sighed. Enough, Loki. We were just here to accompany Lafia and Tiona. The red-haired goddess pouted. Way to ruin my fun. Loki looked at him with a smirk. But look at you now, king of heroes. Eh? Belle chuckled. I'm getting there. The goddess snorted. Of course you are. But watch yourself now, will ya? You own the chains of heaven, so many of the other gods are gonna be wary of you. I hate to say it, but you're stepping into the realms of gods if you keep going. Riveria raised an eyebrow. Is it that serious? Loki scoffed. You children have never seen how much the oldest king of pan-human history can do, and this brat here is going to inherit more heroes as he gets stronger. I'd be surprised if he doesn't get strong enough to match a god without their arcanum restrained. Lafia gaped. That's just insane. Tiona laughed. That's awesome. I knew Argonaut-kun is amazing. Aisha snorted. Tell me about it. Belle smiled awkwardly. Well, I'll do my best, I guess. The goddess of mischief laughed softly. Well, don't get too stressed. That's probably quite some ways away. Loki looked at the hostess at a distance. So, mind if we sat in and watched your little training session? I want to get a drink while I'm at it too. Aisha grinned. We don't mind. The more the merrier, as they say. Belle blinked. W8, Wadash. Loki cut him off. Excellent. The goddess pointed at the pub. Then off we go. Belle blinked. W8. Loki and the others turned to him, and the goddess narrowed her eyes. What? The boy blinked again in awkwardness. Before he cleared his throat. Actually, there was something I wanted to talk to you about, Loki-sama. The goddess raised an eyebrow. Oh? Now what is it? Belle took a deep breath. Load. Gilgamesh. The aura of a king appeared around the boy, and a single portal appeared before him. You and your familia have helped us many times, and I heard from Hestia that we owe you a favor of sorts from before. The goddess nodded. That would be the case. Belle nodded. Considering you also extended a helping hand with what happened recently, I thought it'd be proper if we brought you a gift in return. Loki raised an unimpressed eyebrow. A gift. Her eyes widened when she realized which hero the boy had equipped. Wait. You for real? The boy smiled as he pulled out a golden jug. Of course. And well, I couldn't think of anything specific, but I heard you liked wine. Belle extended the jug to her, before summoning a pair of golden cups, and take these two. Loki's eyes gleamed as she accepted them gingerly. By the gods. You are officially my favorite brat outside of my familia. Hell, you probably beat a lot of my kids already. Riviera sighed. You had to give her alcohol. The goddess glared at her. Shut up, mama. You have no idea how divine this wine is. It's probably even better than that shit Soma makes. And I mean the good shit. The high elf sighed. Really now. The boy felt a surge of smug pride in his back, and he took it as a sign to release his hold on Gilgamesh's powers, taking a deep breath as he did. Loki grinned as she held the jug and cups preciously, before she looked at Belle with stars in her eyes. If you need anything, anytime, just tell mama, okay? I'll come for you anytime. Hell, if you want to convert, we welcome you anytime, any day. Belle backed away, feeling awkward from how the goddess was reacting. Riveria saw fit to stand between them. Enough. Loki. You're making a fool of yourself. The high elf glanced at the young hero, and no need to take her seriously. Belle. She goes crazy over alcohol all the time. Belle nodded. All right. Lafia sighed. That was a mistake. Belle? The boy smiled forcefully. I hope not. Tiona laughed. It definitely is. Aisha smirked. By the gods. I know I said it before, but you're one terrifying man. Belle just chuckled awkwardly. Let's just go to the hostess. Soon after, Belle and their small group entered the courtyard of the hostess. Mia sighed as she looked at the group of people gathered before her. You know, Belle, I know I said you could bring some friends from your familia over to train, but did you have to bring Loki and her familia over? Belle smiled sheepishly. Well, we were only going to invite Lafia-san, but Mia sighed. You know what? I don't care anymore. Just don't leave any marks. With that said, the dwarf left the area, leaving the rest of them. Aisha grinned as soon as Mia left. So, I heard from Belle that all of you here are level 4? Ria nodded. Yes, that would be correct. Lafia blinked. Wait, so all this time? Anya cackled. Yep. Chloe looked at Belle with a dry smile. You told her, Naya? The boy laughed softly. She asked, and well. The cat person chuckled. Well, what's done is done. Belle cleared his throat. Before speaking, anyway, this is Aisha-san. She converted from the Ishtar familia after they became a subordinate familia to ours. Syr covered her mouth with a betrayed look. You went and got the entire Ishtar familia for yourself. Rio and I aren't enough for you. The boy spluttered. What are you talking about? Ria's face reddened at her words. Syr? The impish waitress hid a mischievous smile. Before the look of mock hurt returned. Even after I convinced Rio we would share, you still. What a sinful man. Lafia looked outraged and disgusted. Is that what this is about? I'm so disappointed, Belle. Belle blinked, and he gaped, unable to find words to argue. Aisha and Loki both laughed, and the Amazoness grinned at Syr. I think you and I will get along just fine. The red-haired goddess gave her thumbs up. 10 out of 10 Syr tan. Anya cackled. Syr is the best, Naya. Chloe giggled. I think you just broke him, Syr. Lunmore sighed. Seriously. Riveria sighed as she palmed her face. Not another one. Tiona just patted the boy on the back. Good luck, Argonaut-kun. Belle just threw his hands up. I give up. Aside from Lafia and Riveria, everyone laughed at his reaction. Syr giggled and looked at him, before she decided to spare him any more embarrassment. Oh, and congratulations on your level up, Belle-san. Anya cackled. Right? You ranked up, didn't you, Naya? Ria nodded but refused to look at him. Congratulations, Belle. Chloe giggled. Another record than Naya? Loki looked at him with amusement and annoyance. You had to break A-Stan's record. Did you? Lafia, on the other hand, was baffled. W8. So we're at the same level now? Tiona laughed loudly. This is awesome. Argonaut-kun. Belle chuckled with a sweat drop. Thanks, everyone. Lumor smiled. So, who's going first? Syr spoke up. Belle-san should go first. I want to see that new hero he inherited. Ria hummed. I won't lie. I'm interested too. Aisha clicked her teeth in annoyance. Yeah, well, I already fought that one once, so I'll sit this one out. Belle smiled dryly. So I guess I'm going first? Tiona beamed. I want to go first too. Lafia blinked. W8? Tiona-san? Aisha smirked. Oh, so the Amazon wants to go first. I want to see how this ends. Loki grinned, as she nudged Riveria. Don't you want to join him? The high elf snorted. I'm good. Besides, this place isn't suited for my style of combat, and considering how versatile Belle's abilities are, I have no doubts I'll have a hard time against him. The goddess pouted. Party pooper. Riveria just chuckled. I think you'll find Belle fighting Tiona to be just as entertaining. Anya spoke up, gaining their attention. All right. We'll have Tiona against Belle for the first round then. Everyone give them some space. Everyone went to the side, as both of them went to stand at the center of the courtyard. Tiona grinned as she brandished her urga. Now show me how far you have come, Argonaut-kun. Belle smiled. All right. Just try to hold back, but not too much. He took a deep breath. Load. Achilles. The aura instantly formed around him, and everyone watched with interest as the spear appeared in his hands. Tiona's grin widened. A spear. So you're gonna fight like Finn? A warm feeling grew on his back, and Belle smiled. I'm not sure I'll be anywhere close, but I can certainly try. The Amazoness giggled. So who is this hero you're using? The boy spun the spear in his hand. Achilles, a hero from the ancient country of Greece. He was a great warrior who could single-handedly take on an army. Tiona's smile widened. You have to tell me about it later. Belle smiled. Of course. The Amazoness charged. All right then. Here I come. The girl dashed forward, swinging her sword at the boy. In response, Belle used the shaft of his spear to redirect the slash. Not one to miss the chance, Belle moved his spear and thrusted his spear forward in his right hand, only for the Amazoness to pull her sword back to block it. Tiona laughed as she threw a right hook, and Belle instantly threw his left arm up to block it. To everyone's surprise, the boy didn't so much flinch at the impact, and instead let go of his spear. Then, the barrage started. Right hooks, left swings, uppercuts, roundhouse kicks from left and right, and knee strikes. The boy sent out a constant flow of blows at the Amazoness, and the speed at which he struck quickly overwhelmed the young girl. The only thing keeping him from punishing Tiona any further was the fact that she was a level 6. At one side, Ryu was astonished at the way Belle was moving. Is this another skill he gained from inheriting this hero? Loki watched with folded arms. Achilles, a Greek hero who fought and played a massive role in a war in his country. I should have known he would learn Pancration as well. Lunmar asked with interest, Pancration? The goddess grinned. It's a Greek style of hand-to-hand combat. Basically an ancient form of boxing and wrestling. Bloody efficient too. Everyone watched in understanding as the two fought. Riveria asked, can you tell us what you know about this hero? The group watched as Tiona quickly recovered her bearings as she started to match the boy blow for blow. Every few strikes Belle would land, Tiona would land one in return, and both of them quickly abandoned their weapons and turned the match into a fist fight. It was clear that the boy had the advantage in terms of skill, but the girl evened the field with experience and her strength. Loki hummed, I could, but well, I think it'll be more interesting if you saw it for yourself. And saw it they did, for Lafia quickly noticed something. W8, Belle's not getting hurt at all? Everyone noticed it as well, for despite receiving so many blows in return, Belle wasn't looking any worse for wear. Chloe asked, what is going on, Naya? Loki smirked. It is said that Achilles' mother, the goddess Thetis, loved him so much that she wanted him to be blessed with immortality. Faunas weren't a thing in his time, so she sought to bless him through other means. Lafia asked, wait, so what happened? The goddess of mischief shrugged. Who knows? Some say he was bathed in the river Styx in the underworld. Some say he was warmed in holy flames to grant him the body of a god, and I mean an unrestrained god. Either way, that gave him invulnerability. Anya gaped. That's overpowered, Naya. Loki cackled. Oh, it is, but there is a weakness to it. Riveria raised an eyebrow. Oh, and that is? The red-haired goddess grinned. We're among friends here, hopefully, so I can tell y'all. Ever heard of Achilles' heel? Aisha blinked. Wait, you mean? Loki nodded. I reckon now that Belle has inherited Achilles' existence, he would also inherit his soul weakness. If you strike the heel, it will be fatal, or at the very least weaken him by a great margin. Not sure how it'll work for him, though. The women all fell silent at the information, and the goddess decided to change the subject, but there's probably another reason Belle is doing so well against Tiona. The group watched as Tiona slammed her right fist into Belle's face, sending him skidding across the ground, only for the boy to bounce back almost instantly. Loki spoke. Achilles was also well known for having killed the Amazonas queen, Penthesilea. Aisha blinked. Penthesilea. Wait, that's one of the heroes he used to fight Phryne. The goddess cackled. Oh, the irony. Ryuu asked, Lady Loki, would you explain why? Loki grinned. Because in their battle to the death, Achilles defeated her, but humiliated her by calling her beautiful when he won. She looked at the other Amazonas present. I guess he probably did something similar? From what I can tell, if you consider his personality in the legend of Achilles, Belle wouldn't be able to leave you to die or something. Aisha's lips thinned. Belle's words that night ringing in her mind. I see. Loki cackled. Well, honestly, it could have been worse for you. The Amazonas blinked in confusion. What do you mean? The goddess smirked. See, him inheriting all these heroic spirits also gives him a terrifying ability. Ever heard of conceptual weapons? Syr shook her head. Can't say I have. Everyone also looked confused, and Loki sighed. Guess I'll give you another lesson then. Conceptual weapons are items that have an accumulated history within them, and they can sometimes, if not always, have some sort of effect. Usually things like having increased efficiency at killing something. Everyone caught on, and Lafia asked, wait, so does that mean that Belsan has a natural counter for almost everything? Rhea's eyes widened, that time with the black Goliath. Loki grinned. Let me guess, he inherited David? The elf looked deep in thought. He used some sort of stone magic, and it blew the whole upper body in half. The goddess cackled. Yep, that'll be David. So you've seen it in action then, Rhea Tan. Aisha asked, but what does that have to do with me? Loki smiled at her darkly. Your magic. Your chant invokes Hippolyta? Yes? The Amazonas blinked. Yes. Why? The goddess looked back at the fight. Belle has already inherited the hero Heracles. For context, Heracles was the one who slayed the Amazonas queen Hippolyta for her sash. Realization struck Aisha as she remembered her full chant. So if he had fought me using that hero, he might have killed me? Loki shrugged. Perhaps, perhaps not. But well, I've broken the fourth wall enough for today. You can talk to him about it later. I think they're finishing up. Everyone watched as Belle and Tiona retrieved their weapons, and the boy bent down into a thrusting stance. The Amazonas grinned as she readied herself, watching as Belle gathered magical energy into his spear. The white-haired hero lunged forward and thrusted the spear forward. In response, Tiona swung her sword at him, striking the divine spear head-on. The clash sent out a shockwave, and Belle was sent flying backwards before he quickly regained his footing. Tiona grinned happily. You're awesome. Argonaut-kun. Belle smiled. You too, Tiona-san. I still can't defeat you, can I? The Amazonas hefted the sword on her shoulder. I'm sure you can. You were holding back, weren't you? The boy laughed softly, like you weren't. All right, I think that's enough. We're not here to kill each other. Riveria's voice reached their ears, and Belle nodded. Yeah, we're not. I think we can call it a draw. Tiona giggled. I'm happy with that. Loki grinned. So who's next? Rhea hummed. I think I'll have a go. The other waitresses backed away, but they didn't have to, for Aisha spoke up. Then it's my turn too. I've been wanting to try fighting you. The elf raised an eyebrow. Oh? Aisha smirked. Belle here speaks highly of you, you see. Rhea hummed. Is that so? The Amazoness brandished her sword. If our dear Lord Hero thinks you're good, then you've got to be the real deal. The elf stared at her, and for some reason, Freya's words rang in her mind. Very well, then I shouldn't disappoint. Chloe whispered to Lunoir. Rhea Naya is pissed Naya. The other waitress nodded. I wonder why. The pair glanced over to Belle, who was blissfully unaware, or rather choosing to ignore the animosity between them. The two women drew their weapons and then dashed at each other. And soon after, Mia came in and banned them from ever having another group training session in the hostess courtyard. Line break. Meanwhile, back at the Hestia Familia home, Makoto and Haruheim were in the onsen baths. The samurai let out a loud sigh of pure bliss. This is heaven. The blonde Renard giggled as she too dipped into the hot water. You really had to have Hestia-sama build an onsen bath, did you? Makoto grinned. Hey, she offered, and I'm sure she likes it too. Haruheim smiled. As long as you're happy. The brunette nodded, before she asked, so, how are you finding living here? The Renard nodded with a smile. Everyone is kind. It is honestly way better than my old place. Makoto chuckled. Let's be honest. When you can eat Beldano's cooking every day, indulge in heaven like this, there's not much that can top it. Haruheim chuckled. That is true. The samurai asked, so, what do you think of everyone here? The blonde looked at the steaming water. Hestia-sama and Artemis-sama are kind. Despite being prostitutes, they let Aisha-san and I be in this familia. Makoto nodded. Well, Beldano tried very hard, and those two can never refuse him. Haruheim giggled. I see. The brunette continued. What about the others? The Renard smiled. Lily-sama and Daphne-sama are harsh, but kind too. They helped a lot. Cassandra-sama too. I think we get along pretty well. Makoto nodded. I see. That's good. Haruheim nodded. Welf-sama is nice too, but I haven't really talked to him a lot. The samurai nodded in understanding. Welf-dano spends a majority of his time in his forge, so I suppose. The Renard smiled. Yes, that's true. Makoto then asked, what about Beldano? Haruheim didn't respond for a moment, and the brunette blinked. Haruheim-dano. The Renard answered, Cranel-sama is kind. He is amazing. He is the heir, fated to inherit and succeed all those legendary heroes. Makoto listened as Haruheim continued. I will be eternally grateful to him. He helped us. He saved Aisha-san and freed me from my fate. But I still don't think I am worthy to be in the same familia as he is. The brunette hummed. Before she spoke, I see. So, you see him as a hero. The Renard smiled. Of course, Cranel-sama is, without a doubt, a hero. He's just like the heroes I love to read about. Makoto chuckled. I see. I think he'll be glad to hear that. Line break. At the same time, Lily, Hestia, and Artemis were in the Balit Babili. Ishtar sighed as she looked through the paperwork before her. You sure know how to rub it in, huh? Leave everything as it is, but everything related to money and combat will always have to go through you. Lily nodded. Unfortunately, none of us know the first thing about running a brothel. I doubt Hestia-sama and Artemis-sama are willing to even look at them. Hestia nodded with her arms folded. Damn right. Artemis simply kept silent, and the goddess of sex sighed, of course. The prum nodded. So I'll be in charge of looking at the finances, and anything else will go to Hestia-sama. Ishtar snorted. All right, you made your point. You have access to the bank records anyway, and it's not like I can charm either of them. Hestia nodded, and even if you charm anyone else, we'll just sick Gilgamesh on you. The goddess of fertility scowled. Don't you dare. I've had enough of that king for this whole lifetime. I'd rather kill myself and go back to Tenkai. Artemis looked amused. Well, as long as you don't piss Belle off, I think you'll be fine. Ishtar sighed. Whatever. She asked, so, how's Aisha and Haruheim? Hestia answered, they're doing great. Aisha-kun and Belle-kun went to train with some friends today, and I believe Haruheim-kun is at home. Ishtar nodded, I see. Artemis asked, why? Do you feel remorse for what happened to them? The goddess of fertility scoffed, no, I don't regret what I did to them. But regardless, they are, well, were my children. Lily snorted, so you do care. Ishtar scowled at her, of course. She grumbled, anyway, it's not like I can do anything else. You two have command spells, 6 in total, and I'm sure your little hero has a lot more where those came from. Hestia grinned smugly, as long as you understand. Ishtar glared at her, whatever, if you have nothing else you need, get lost and let me sulk in peace. Lily nodded, and we will, we just came here to confirm if you understand our arrangements. Artemis nodded, Lily, you can go home first. Hestia, and I still have something to talk to Ishtar about. The prum nodded, okay. I'll wait for you outside. Both goddesses nodded, and Lily left the room. Ishtar frowned, now what? Hestia took a deep breath. Look, I'm mad you targeted Belle-kun just to get back at Freya. But aside from that, we really don't have any other reason to hate each other. The goddess of fertility scoffed, really now? You want to mend bridges? Artemis nodded, to be honest, this is a little too much for us. We have zero desire to run the entertainment district, all we really want dash is for Belle Cranel to flourish into a true hero and build a strong familia, am I right? Ishtar cut them off, and both goddesses nodded. The Mesopotamian goddess ran a hand through her hair. Seriously? First Freya, and now you too. That brat really has the devil's luck, or should I say, hero's luck. So many goddesses watching over him. Ishtar sighed. All right, I'll play nice for now. Happy. Hestia smiled. Yes, definitely. Maybe we can also go out for tea sometime. The goddess of fertility scoffed. Don't push it. I'm still pissed, but it's not like things have become unbearable. So I'm tolerating it. Artemis chuckled. Say that again when we get Bel with Gilgamesh here. Ishtar glared at her, and then I'll go back to Tenkai. That's all there is to it. Hestia giggled. Don't worry, we won't go that far yet. The darker-skinned goddess sighed. All right, now scram. I'll let you know if anything happens, along with my weekly reports or something. Artemis nodded. Thank you. We'll see you later, Ishtar. Ishtar just waved it off as the two virgin goddesses left the building. As soon as they left, Ishtar leaned into her seat, scoffing to herself. I guess I only have myself to blame. She stood up and walked towards the other exit of her room. She needed to find a man to let out her frustrations, then she had a lot to think about. XXX. So that's the chapter. The next one will be the actual war, and we'll probably see the village as well. Until then, read and review please. Chapter 29. Author note. Hey, I'm back with a new chapter. Narvaraji. Yep, Freya definitely lit a fire in Ryuu. As for the pairing, it's not really decided yet, but it is still leaning on Ryuu. Cody White 162, the quotable patella, now the part with Ishtar and Evelys. It'll be an interesting thing for me to write, considering Ishtar mainly dealt with them for money and resources as well as the use of Gnosis. So you'll just have to find out. Anime fan 13579, I didn't say the Black Dragon info to be filler. Just that how they presented the information in the arc felt like a filler arc. And remember, the relationship between Bel and Ace in this story is different. They're not as close as canon, but they do have some form of bond over the fact that they're both similar in the sense that Ace is a half-spirit and Bel is pretty much inheriting heroic spirits. But the fight with the Black Dragon will come later, so we'll see. As for the part with the wine, you're right in how Gilgamesh would see it a good trade. Plus he literally has unlimited supply of everything. Aaron X71, glad you liked what I've done so far. Here's another chapter. XXX. You what? Bel grimaced at Hestia's reaction after he told her about the request to fight the Rakia army. Artemis sighed. Hestia, calm down. Hestia snapped her head at her. Calm down? How can I calm down? The goddess of the hearth looked at her first child. We just finished a war game. Then you went through all that bullshit with Ishtar, and now your advisor wants you to fight a war. Is she insane? Are you insane? The other children of the Hestia familia wisely kept their mouths shut, with Aisha mainly enjoying the show. Bel's smile strained. It's not as bad as it sounds. Hestia glared at him. And pray tell, how is it not as bad as it sounds? The boy chuckled awkwardly. Most of the soldiers of Rakia are at level 1, and only a handful of them are level 2. Gareth-san and Aisha-san are going to take on 2 fronts on their own, and dash. The goddess cut him off. First off, I don't care about them. They're Loki's kids, she can decide. And second, they're both level 6s, you're a level 3. Bel spoke up. It's not like I'll be going alone. I'll be taking Aisha-san and Samira along at least. Besides, you said it before, we beat the Apollo Familia in a war game. Hestia stared at him. You mean to tell me, you want to go fight a war against hundreds of level 1 and level 2 adventurers with merely 3 people? Welf spoke quietly. They're soldiers, not adventurers. Most of them don't really fight much. And Ares doesn't really dash. The goddess glared at him. You. Shush. The blacksmith wisely backed down. Sorry. Hestia took a deep breath. Even if I forbid you to go, you'll still go anyway, won't you? Bel nodded. Yes. The goddess let out a frustrated screech. HHH. Everyone in the room grimaced, before Hestia took a deep breath. All right, fine. We'll go fight a goddamned war. Everyone sighed in relief, before Lily asked, wait, we? Hestia nodded. Yes, we. I'm not letting Belkuin go to a bloody war alone. So we're all going. Bel smiled awkwardly. Sure. I guess. The goddess of the hearth glared at him. When did you say we're supposed to leave? The boy answered. Ina-san said we can leave at the latest by tomorrow afternoon. I'll be going through the details with her in the morning. Hestia let out a breath. All right, then we'll have to get ready then. Aisha laughed. Does that mean we're good to go fight the war? The goddess of the hearth massaged her temples. Yes, it does. The Amazoness grinned. Great. I hope they have strong men there. Welf smiled wryly. Yeah, I think you'll be disappointed. Aisha looked at him with a raised eyebrow. Really now? The blacksmith nodded. Fortunately. Yeah. The woman folded her arms. Guess I'll have to see for myself then. Daphne sighed. Anyway, if that's settled, then we'll have to get our supplies ready. Lily nodded. We'll need to stock up on potions and stuff. Bel nodded. Definitely. Can I leave that to you, Daphne, Lily? The red-haired woman nodded. Of course. The familia captain nodded. Great. And Welf dash. The blacksmith nodded. Yeah, magic swords, right? Bel shook his head. No, not that. He paused, before speaking again. We'll talk about that later. Welf blinked in confusion, before he nodded. Sure. The White Rabbit looked at Cassandra. Cassandra, I hate to ask you this, but can you take care of our supplies if we have to camp out? The healer blinked in surprise, before she nodded, of course. Makoto added, I'll go with her. Bell nodded, awesome, thanks, you too. Haraheim spoke up, Cranel-sama, what about me? The boy looked at her, Haraheim. We don't really need any more people getting supplies. Bell quickly remembered something, right? There is something I'll need to take care of, you can come with me for that. The Renard looked confused, oh okay. Artemis asked, so is everything sorted out then? Bell nodded, yeah, pretty much. All that's left is for everyone to get their own equipment. Hestia hummed, all right, that's enough for me today. I'll be in the baths if anyone needs me. With that said, the goddess left the room, and Artemis sighed with a smile after a short moment. You need to take it easy, Bell. Bell chuckled, I know, sorry about that, everyone. Daphne snorted, a little too late for that, don't you think? Lily laughed, well, Bell-sama is our familia captain, and I'm pretty sure no one here is mad. The boy smiled, I know, it's just Hestia-sama worries. Makoto nodded, definitely, but well, I think she's forgetting the fact that you're not exactly limited to your status sheet. Aisha snorted, tell me about it. Bell chuckled, all right, let's get to work. We haven't got all day, and we need to leave tomorrow. Everyone laughed and went off to do what they needed to do, leaving Bell, Haraheim, and Welf in the room. The blacksmith asked, so what did you want to talk about? Bell glanced at Haraheim. Haraheim, do you mind if I spoke to Welf alone? The Renard nodded, of course. The blonde left the room, and the redhead looked confused. Okay, now what's so important you had to talk with me alone? Bell looked out of the window. Welf, you're from Rakia, aren't you? The blacksmith blinked. Yeah, why? The boy let out a short breath as he looked back at him. You'll be fighting against your countrymen? Are you sure you'll be fine? Welf blinked again, before he chuckled. Oh. I see shit, man. Am I really that easy to read? Bell smiled. No, not really, but inheriting Gilgamesh has given me a lot to work with. The blacksmith leaned into his seat. Damn. Welf took a deep breath. You're right. He looked at the table. Look, it's been years since I left Rakia, and looking back, the memories I have of the place aren't the best. Bell nodded. You want to talk about it? Welf chuckled. Might as well. He took another deep breath. What do you know about the goddess Phobos? The white-haired boy hummed. Not much. Welf nodded. Phobos-sama used to be my patron goddess. The Phobos Familia was one of the few subordinate familias under the Ares Familia in Rakia. Bell raised an eyebrow. Used to? The blacksmith nodded. See, when it was revealed that my magic swords don't break on one use, all of the people I knew wanted me to reclaim the pride of our family name. The white-haired hero nodded, and they tried to get you to forge magic swords to do that. Welf nodded. I hated it, as you can guess. Phobos-sama saw that, and she helped me escape the country. Bell hummed. I see. What happened then? The redhead sighed. Ares, well, he wanted to use my magic swords to make their army stronger. Obviously that didn't happen, so he sent her back to Tenkai. The boy fell silent. I see. Welf nodded. Point is, I don't have that many memories of Rakia. Good ones, at least. But. Bell nodded. There's still people you grew up with. The blacksmith nodded. Yeah. The white-haired rabbit spoke. If you don't feel comfortable, you can sit this one out, you know? Welf blinked, before he smiled. I appreciate it, but no. The blacksmith stood up. You know what? I think I have my answer. My family is here now, with you, with all of you. I'm not going to sit back while the rest of you go out there and fight. Bell looked concerned, but you'll be up against your blood relatives. Welf scoffed. You well, all they ever talked about was using my magic swords to restore their honor, so fuck them. Besides, I think I want to see their faces when they see my magic swords used against them. The boy asked again, are you sure? The redhead nodded. I'm sure. Bell nodded. Gotcha, but if anything comes up, you tell me, okay? Welf chuckled. By the gods, since when did you worry so much? The boy smiled. Since today. The blacksmith laughed softly. All right, but thanks, Bell. I think I needed to let that out eventually, or the magic swords I'll forge later would have probably ended up like crap. Bell nodded. Anytime. Welf opened the door. I'll be in the forge then. Let me know if you need anything. The boy nodded as the blacksmith left the room, and he stood up. All right, I should get going too. He left the room to find Haraheim waiting for him. Sorry for the wait, Haraheim. The Renard smiled. It's quite all right, Cranel-sama. Have you sorted out what you needed with Welf-sama? Bell nodded. Yeah, we're fine now. The blonde asked, so, where are we going? The boy answered, we're gonna pay Ishtar a visit. Haraheim blinked. Eh? Bell nodded, before he quickly added, only if you're comfortable with that. We'll need to get Samira and anyone else that can fight to join us. The Renard fell silent, before she nodded. It's okay, I can come along. Besides, Cranel-sama will be with me. The boy smiled. All right, let's go then. The two left the mansion, and as they walked, an awkward silence fell over them. Bell simply walked, while Haraheim just felt uncomfortable as she simply followed behind him. Until the boy spoke up. Hey, Haraheim? The Renard looked up at him. Yes. Bell asked, why do you call me Cranel-sama when you call everyone by their first name? Haraheim blinked. Because it's proper? The boy raised an amused eyebrow. Proper? The Renard nodded. Yes, Cranel-sama is the heir to the throne of heroes. You're someone who will inherit the legacy of legendary heroes. Belle smiled. Haraheim, I want to be a hero, but I'm still a normal person, you know? Haraheim shook her head. But still, someone like me should not call you by your name so casually. The boy was about to refute her statement, but before he could, he realized they were already at their destination. Belle let out a breath. We can talk about that later then. I still want you to call me Belle though. The Renard just kept silent as they entered the Balit Babili. Soon, the pair reached Ishtar's room, and the goddess' expression soured almost immediately when she saw them. The goddess asked, So, to what do I owe the pleasure? Belle greeted, Hello, Ishtar. Ishtar took a deep puff from her pipe. Belle Cranel, and I see you brought Haraheim with you. Shame. I thought you'd have fun with many of the women you have recently gained. The goddess snorted. But then again, you have Hestia and Artemis for goddesses, so I shouldn't expect too much even if you're the heir to the throne. The boy studied her expression for a moment, before bringing out a pouch and placing it on the table. Ishtar raised an eyebrow. What is this? Belle stepped back. A peace offering. I wasn't sure what you liked, or if you liked wine like Loki, so I chose jewelry instead. Ishtar pulled open the pouch, and she saw a small collection of necklaces, rings and earrings, all with precious gems. The goddess sighed. All right, out with it. What do you want? Belle smiled. We're going to fight forces of Rakia, so I was hoping to see if I could bring some of adventurers from your familia with us. Ishtar raised an eyebrow. You don't have to ask me. You know that, right? The boy nodded. I know, but it just felt better to do this. And well, I know my goddesses don't like you, but despite my memories from Gilgamesh, I was hoping we could start fresh. The goddess fell silent. And you think some gems and jewelry will make up for it? Belle smiled. To be honest, no. But it's a start. Ishtar sighed. I see. Let me guess. You got that from Zhuge or some strategist. The boy chuckled. Definitely not Gilgamesh. The goddess scoffed. Perhaps, perhaps not. That ancient king can prove to be generous at very rare times. But I wouldn't know now, would I? Ishtar took the pouch. All right. I told Hestia and Artemis I'm tolerating things. But if you're making an effort to make things better, I'm not one to complain. Belle nodded. Thank you. The goddess of fertility snorted. Don't thank me yet. Ishtar let out a puff of smoke. Anyway, the others are at their usual stations. Since you have Haraheim with you, she'll know where they are. The goddess looked at the Renard. You do remember where those are, yes? The blonde nodded. Why, yes. Ishtar nodded. Then that's settled. Belle nodded. Thanks again. We'll talk more after we get back from our quest. The goddess just nodded. Sure. Before the pair could leave, Ishtar spoke up. Haraheim. The blonde blinked. Why, yes. The goddess asked, Do you hate me? Do you hate the others in this familia? Belle raised an eyebrow, but chose to stay silent, and Haraheim answered, I honestly don't know how to feel about you, and everyone else. But I don't hate you, Ishtar-sama. Ishtar blinked. You don't. The Renard nodded. Yes, I don't. Regardless of what happened after, you were the one who took me in, gave me a place to stay. The goddess fell silent. I see. With that said, the pair left the room, and after a while, Ishtar sighed to herself. What a pain. The goddess massaged her temples before deciding to think about the situation later. With Belle and Haraheim, the pair made their way through the brothel until they managed to find the commons area. Fortunately, they also found who they were looking for. Samira scowled. Look who showed up. Lena turned to see Belle and Haraheim. Oh. She beamed. Hello. The boy nodded. Hi. Lena giggled. Are you here to have fun? Belle blushed. And no. I'm not here for that. The girl pouted. Ah. The older Amazonis glared at them. What do you want then? Or have you come here to gloat with Haraheim? The Renard didn't meet her gaze, and Belle took a deep breath. I need you to gather everyone who is combat ready. Samira raised an eyebrow. Why? The boy looked her in the eye. Tomorrow, the Hestia Familia and Ishtar Familia will be taking on a request from the guild to fight against the Rakia army. The Amazonis blinked. The Rakia army? Lena's eyes gleamed. Really? Belle nodded. That's right. Though I say we'll be fighting the Rakia army, we're probably only going to face a third of their forces. Samira's lips thinned. I see. The white-haired rabbit looked at her. Can I count on you to get everyone ready? The Amazonis sighed. Fine. It's not like I can refuse. Belle shook his head. No, I'm not forcing anyone to go. Samira blinked. Ha. The boy nodded. If anyone doesn't wish to participate, I won't force you. The Amazonis narrowed her eyes. What are you playing at? Belle answered. Nothing. I promise you. Samira glanced at Haraheim, who simply stayed silent, but just one look at the Renard told the Amazonis what she wanted to know. The white-haired prostitute sighed. All right, I'll ask the others, but I won't make any promises. Belle smiled. Thank you. Meet us at the Hearth Mansion tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. then. Samira nodded. Sure. Was there anything else? The boy shook his head. No, that's pretty much it. The Amazonis stared at him for another moment before she stood up. All right then, I'll bring whoever is willing tomorrow. With that said, Samira turned to leave the room, and Lena blinked. You're going. The white-haired Amazonis nodded. Yes, we need to see if the others want to join. No? Lena blinked again. Oh, right. Belle smiled. Thanks again, Samira-san. The woman didn't bother to respond and instead just walked off, and Lena quickly chased after. I'll see you tomorrow then. Belle looked at Haraheim. All right, we're done here. The blonde nodded. Before she asked, Cranel-sama, was there a reason you brought me along? Belle blinked. Well, I thought they wouldn't have agreed so easily, so I was hoping that bringing you along could have helped. Haraheim blinked. Before she looked down, I see. In that case, wouldn't Aisha-san be a better option? The white-haired rabbit chuckled. Maybe, but well, what's done is done, so we'll just have to wait till tomorrow. The Renard nodded. Yes, that is true. Belle walked towards the door. Come on, let's go home. I'll quickly make dinner for everyone, then I have to leave for the night. Haraheim blinked. Huh? Oh, okay. The pair walked out of the room, and the boy asked, so, anything you want me to cook for dinner? The Renard blinked. WL? I mean, anything you make is good, actually. I really don't have any preferences. Belle hummed. Really? Then I'll make Japanese tonight then. I think we should still have chicken and enough ingredients to make teriyaki. Haraheim blinked. Japanese. The boy smiled. All right. I never did explain it, did I? Japanese, or well, Japan, is a distant eastern country. I guess you can say it's similar to the Far East. The food is pretty much the same too as far as I'm aware. The Renard blinked and nodded slowly. I see. Soon, the pair reached the exit of the building. Anyway, I'll have to see if we have enough ingredients later. Both Belle and Haraheim started walking back towards the Hearth Mansion until they noticed a familiar face in front of them. Finn smiled. Hello, Belle, and I don't believe I've had the pleasure of meeting this young lady. Haraheim quickly recognized the prom. Pleased to meet you. I'm Haraheim. The prom nodded. Well met. Belle asked, what are you doing here, Finn-san? Finn looked at him. I was looking for you, actually. The boy blinked. Me? The leader of the Loki Familia nodded. Yes, and I was hoping I could speak to you in private. Belle was slightly surprised. Before he nodded, okay, sure. He glanced at Haraheim. You can go home first. I won't be long, hopefully. The blonde looked unsure. Are you sure, Cranel-sama? Belle smiled. Yeah, Finn-san's a friend. I'll be fine. The Renard nodded, before she quickly made her way towards their Familia home. Finn cleared his throat. All right, let's find a place more suited to talk. Belle looked confused, but followed the prom. They quickly reached a cafe, and Finn brought him up to a private room. The prom gestured to the table. Have a seat. I've already ordered some tea and cakes earlier. It'll be my treat. Belle nodded as he sat down. Thanks, Finn-san. The boy asked, so, what was it you wanted to talk about? Finn sat down, and he chuckled. Straight to the point, huh? Well, that's not a bad thing. Belle smiled. Hey, we're friends, right? No need to beat around the bush. The prom laughed softly. I suppose so. Finn shook his head with a smile. But well, I heard you gave Loki some pretty good wine. Riviera wasn't really happy, but Loki's been singing nothing but praises for you. Belle chuckled. She's exaggerating. The prom snorted. When it comes to wine? I think you underestimate our goddess. Belle smiled. All right, fine. Don't tell me you want a bottle too? Finn shook his head. Nah, I'll pass on that. Thank you. The door opened, and a waiter came in and brought in some tea and cakes. After the waiter left the room, Finn spoke again. I was looking to talk to you about your new, shall we say, companions. Belle blinked. Companions. You mean the Ishtar Familia? The prom nodded. Tell me, Belle, how much do you know about Evolus? The boy thought about what he knew. Not much. Just that they were a group of familias that wreaked havoc in Oreo a while ago. Finn took a sip from his tea. I see. I suppose you wouldn't know much, considering you only came to Oreo a few months ago. The prom explained. The Evolus, as you said, are a group of familias that caused trouble in Oreo 7 years ago. Myself included, various familias participated in bringing them down. Belle nodded in understanding. I see. Finn put down his cup. Unfortunately, whilst we managed to bring down a majority of the main members, there are remnants. That caught the boy's attention. Are you saying the remnants are planning something? The prom nodded. Yes. Unfortunately, I haven't discovered what exactly it is they're after. He looked Belle in the eye. But Ishtar, that familia you just made your subordinate? They had dealings with Evolus. The boy blinked. Are you serious? Finn chuckled. A while back, we ran into them outside of Oreo, and they've been involved in a few incidents after that. His smile dropped. Incidents that cost us a lot. Belle fell silent, understanding the implications, before he asked, do you wish to get revenge? Finn snorted. Hardly. Whilst they were involved, they weren't directly responsible. The boy asked, then who's the one responsible? Are they still? The prom's lips thinned. No, unfortunately, she got away. Finn took a deep breath. To be honest, I don't want to involve people outside of my familia in this. Plus, you are still young. Belle looked down at the table. I see. The prom looked at him seriously. But anyway, just be careful. We're still on a lookout, but the enemy may reach out to Ishtar. If that happens, I want you to be ready. The boy nodded. Okay, I understand. Thanks for telling me, Finn-san. Finn chuckled. That's all right. He leaned into his seat. Speaking of which, I hear you'll be participating in the war against Rakia. Belle nodded. Yeah, it was a request from my advisor. Finn nodded. I see. Well, I'm sure you'll do fine. You managed to hold your own against me, and you defeated the Apollo Familia. The boy smiled. I guess I shouldn't disappoint now, should I? The prom laughed. I certainly hope not. Finn smiled, but serious talk aside, I hear you've been training with Lafia a bit. Belle nodded. Yeah, we have. The prom chuckled. From what I hear, she's been annoyed at her lack of progress compared to yours. The boy smiled dryly. I think she's a bit too harsh on herself. Finn laughed. Oh, definitely. The prom asked, speaking of which, that prom in your familia, what was her name again? Lilaruka Arde, was it? Belle raised an eyebrow. Lily? Yeah, that's her name. Why? Finn smiled. Well, I guess it's better to be honest about things like this. The boy looked confused, and the prom spoke. I would like to meet her in person, privately. Belle blinked again. I beg your pardon? Finn nodded. Yes, and to be more specific, I want to ask for her hand in marriage. The boy blinked again, and he blinked again. I'm sorry. What? The prom folded his arms. You know how I admire the legend of the Knights of Fianna? Yes? Belle nodded. Why yes. His eyes widened when he realized where Finn was going. Wait. You don't mean Dash. Finn nodded. That's right. Becoming a hero is one thing. But I also want an heir, to make sure my legacy is passed down. Belle hummed. I see. To do that you need your heir to be of pure blood. And you need someone who has heart, who has courage. The prom smiled. I see you catch on. As expected as the heir to the throne of heroes. Finn asked again. So, I hope you can at least arrange a meeting for me, Dash. Nope. Finn blinked. Absolutely not. The prom blinked again. Eh? Belle's gaze was strong and firm. Absolutely not. Finn blinked in confusion. Wait, why? Is it because of this being an interfamiliar relationship? If that's the case, I've already cleared it up with Loki, and this will bring our familias closer, Dash. The boy shook his head. No, it's not that. The prom looked confused, then Dash. Belle cut him off. I do not wish to die. Finn blinked, and he blinked again in realization. Oh. Oh. The boy nodded. If Tioni-san finds out, I will die, and so will Lily. I'm sorry, Finn-san, I really want to help, but that is a line I dare not cross. The prom palmed his face, and he laughed. Right. There was that too. Finn shook his head in exasperation. Fair enough. He looked at Belle. If I promise to make this meeting as private as possible, Dash. Belle cut him off again. Nope, not a chance. I value my manhood, my life and Lily's life far too much to risk that. The prom sighed. All right, then you wouldn't mind if I dash. The boy cut him off yet again. If you want to approach Lily on your own, I will do everything I can to stop you. I'm sorry, Finn-san, but I hope you understand. Finn sighed and shook his head with a smile. All right, I'll drop it. By the gods, you're terrified of her, huh? Belle looked at him blankly. You can only say that 'cause you're the object of her affections. Try being on this side of things. The prom laughed softly. I certainly can't argue with that. The two continued chatting for a while, until they both returned to their respective familia homes in the evening. Line break. Later that night, Bella was at the hostess, finishing with the cleaning with the other waitresses. The white-haired girl approached the owner of the establishment. Mamma Mia, I need the next week off. Mia raised an eyebrow. The next week off? Bella nodded. Yes, I have a request from the guild. The dwarf hummed. Do I want to know what you're getting yourself into this time? The waitress smiled. My familia is going to fight against the Rekia army. Ria blinked it aside. The Rekia army? Bella nodded. Yes, I'm leaving tomorrow. I was going to tell you earlier, but with what happened with Ryu-san and Aisha-san. The other waitresses giggled as the elf shrunk slightly at the look Mia was giving her. The dwarf sighed. All right, it's not like I can say no. Do what you have to do, but make sure you come back alive and in one piece, all right? Bella nodded. Thank you, Mamma Mia. Mia snorted. Don't thank me yet. You'll have to make up for it. Lunwar asked. So that means you'll be joining the war against Rekia, Bella? The white-haired rabbit nodded. Yes, though we're not exactly sure how many men the enemy will have. Syr smiled. I'm sure it'll be easy for you, Belle-san. Anya cackled. Oh, definitely, Naya. Especially that thing you do with that bow and arrow, Naya. Belle nodded. Atlanta's noble phantasm. Yes. But I don't want to be too over-reliant, and anything can happen anyway. Ria nodded. You'll figure out a way. It shouldn't be too different from a war game. Chloe looked at him as she put away some chairs. Just don't overpush yourself, Naya. The boy in disguise nodded. Yeah, I will. Thanks, everyone. The group continued cleaning up the shop, before closing everything for the night. The next morning, after meeting Ina and going through the details of their request, Belle was back in the front garden of their familia home. Before him were a dozen Amazonesses from the Ishtar familia and the other members of the Hestia familia. Samira approached him. These were all I could get to follow. The others weren't keen on fighting a war. Belle did a head count. They were about half of the remaining members of the Ishtar familia that had joined them. The boy nodded. So we'll have a group of 20 to fight against the Rekia army, which number in the thousands. The women from the Ishtar familia all looked worried, but the others from the Hestia familia recognized the look on Belle's face. Samira frowned. I know it's a bit too late to ask, but are we really going ahead with this? Honestly, I was hoping you'd have more people on your end. A few of the other Amazonesses nodded, and Lily spoke up. Bel-sama is here with us. We'll be fine. The other women all looked unconvinced, and one of them spoke up, but we'll still be against the Rakia army. The heir to the throne pulled on the memories from Gilgamesh and Heracles. All right, I know not everyone here is happy with how things are, but I thank everyone for coming. Bel looked at each and every one of them. You may think it's impossible for the mere 20 of us to fight the forces of the Rakia army, and normally it would be. But we're up against level 1S and level 2S. He took a deep breath. Overload. Emiy, Penthesilia. The boy could feel Gilgamesh's displeasure burning on his back, but he pushed it down. Trace. On. Hundreds upon hundreds of weapons appeared behind him, and the visible aura of a hero and queen of Amazons formed around the boy. Bel almost smiled at the shocked faces on some of the Amazonesses. I'm sure you've all seen the war game against the Apollo Familia. We were but 4 people against 100. The swords behind him vibrated with power. I promise you, it will not be any different. We will all come back alive. I swear upon the heroes engraved on my back. The white-haired adventurer looked at them. So I ask this from all of you. Trust your lives with me. Welf snorted and stood forward. You don't need to ask me twice. I'll trust you with my life any day. Makoto nodded and stepped forward. Me too, Beldano. Lily smiled as she stepped forward. I will follow you anywhere, Bel-sama. Daphne sighed. You didn't have to do that whole speech, but sure. Cassandra nodded as she followed the rest of her familia members. Aisha chuckled. By the gods. Well, knowing you, I'd say we'll do just fine. She stepped forward. I already said it before, but I'll tag along for the ride, Bel Cranel. The other members of the Ishtar familia all looked at each other, and even Samira was surprised. Lena whispered to Haruheim, is he always like this? The Renard smiled, I guess. She glanced at her former familia members, and Haruheim could see that most of them were less conflicted. Samira sighed as she glanced at her fellow familia members. All right, you've made your point. When do we leave? Bel looked at her. We leave now. Once we reach our checkpoint, we'll go over what everyone can do, and we'll form a plan of attack. No one objected, and the boy looked at Hestia and Artemis. We'll be heading out then. Hestia nodded. Okay, we'll be waiting. Artemis smiled. Good hunting. Bel smirked. Yeah, thanks. With that said, the group turned and headed out for the gates of Orio. Chapter 30. Author note. Hey, I'm back with a new chapter. Narver I am leaning more on just Rio, but Syr/Freya is highly to be a side thing. So we'll see. Anime fan 13579. Yeah, the part with Finn was hilarious for me, and it'd make more sense for him to approach Bel than in canon considering Bel's considered a close friend of the Loki familia now. Silvercrow, unfortunately Kratos doesn't exist in the Throne of Heroes, so. Njta 2001, the servants don't really possess a class or alignment. I guess they do have alignments in a way like how I had Bel inherit Terra no Kajikyo and Yoshitsune. But here they are more akin to the full heroic spirits rather than a servant, and my main criteria is that they have to be in the Throne of Heroes and not just because of being a vessel. But you'll have to read on and find out. So yeah, here it is. XXX. With Bel and his party, the group of 20 were headed for the gates. As they walked, Aisha asked, So Captain, how are we gonna get there? We're not gonna walk, are we? Bel paused. Eh? Is it not okay for us to walk? Eh? Everyone looked at him, and Welf palmed his face. By the gods. Bel. Lily sighed. Bel-sama. You want us to walk all the way to fight the Rakia army? Samira laughed in disbelief. We're all gonna die. Lena looked at Haruheim. Is this really the person who destroyed the entertainment district? The Renard smiled painfully. He's usually a lot better. Makoto looked at him. Beldano, surely you'd have something with your heroes that can help, right? Bel scratched his head as he thought about it. I mean, I have a chariot, but I'm not sure if it can fit all of us here. Well, if all you need is something to fit all 20 of you, then I'm sure I can be of some help. Everyone turned to see Hermes approaching them, and Lily blinked in surprise. Hermes-sama. The god smiled. Hello everyone. Bel asked, you said you could help? Hermes laughed. Of course. Anything to help my third favorite adventurer in Oreo? The boy blinked. Third favorite. The god nodded. Yep. My number 1 is without a doubt Asfi. Then I'd say the Sword Princess, and then you. Bel smiled awkwardly. I see. Hermes chuckled. Anyway, I happen to have a spare large carriage that we use when my familia goes outside of Oreo. If you're willing to spare me a moment of your time, I'd be more than happy to lend it to you. Soon, Bel found himself in an empty pub with Hermes. The boy looked around the place. What is this place? Hermes explained. This is a pub owned by my familia. We pretty much use this only for ourselves. No one else is allowed in here. Bel hummed. I see. That's neat. The god chuckled as he went behind the counter and poured himself a glass of whiskey. Drink. The boy shook his head. No, I'm still underage, and I have a quest. Hermes hummed. Shame? I'm still having one though. He pulled a stool and sat on it, taking a sip from the glass. Bel asked, so what did you want to talk about? Hermes smiled. You're headed to the mountains to intercept the Rakia army, aren't you? The boy nodded. Yeah, why? The god chuckled. Well, just wanted to catch up before you went on to war, that's all. Bel raised an eyebrow. Really? Hermes raised his glass. Oh, of course. The god sipped on his whiskey again. Anyway, I've got something interesting you might want to hear. The white-haired rabbit blinked. Oh? Hermes smirked. Ever heard of the 3 great quests? Belle looked confused. The 3 great quests? Yeah, I have, actually. Why? The god of messengers swirled the alcohol in his glass. The 3 great quests can be said to be a story about the world waiting for a hero. He tilted the glass, as if cheering at the boy. You've defeated Antares, and I'm not sure if you're aware, but the guild has categorized it to be something close to the beast from the 3 great quests. Belle nodded. Yeah, Ina-san told me. Hermes smiled. Then that makes things easier to explain. The god continued, as you know, the 3 great quests involve the duty of defeating 3 beasts, the behemoth, the leviathan, and the black dragon. Belle nodded. Yeah, 2 of the 3, the behemoth and leviathan, were defeated by 2 legendary familias, the Zeus and Hera familia. Hermes blinked in surprise. Oh, so you knew that much already? The boy smiled. Yeah, my grandfather told me a bit about how they defeated them. He looked at the countertop sadly, but it's unfortunate that they were wiped out when they tried to challenge the black dragon. The god of messengers hummed, an unreadable expression on his face, before he settled for a smile. Well, if you knew that much, then I guess I didn't need to get you here alone. Hermes laughed to himself, and Belle blinked. Eh? Did you really get me here just to tell me about the 3 great quests? The god controlled his laughter. No, not exactly. If you knew that much, then I guess you'd have known that the black dragon is still alive then. The boy blinked. So it's true? The black dragon is still alive? I thought it just vanished. Hermes chuckled. Unfortunately, or well, fortunately, depending on how you look at it. The god downed the last of his drink. That means the world still seeks a hero. Its last hero. Belle nodded. I see. The boy asked, and you're telling me this? Is it because I'm the heir to the throne of heroes? Hermes smirked. Well, considering you defeated Antares as a level 2, I'd say you have a pretty good chance at beating the black dragon, and I'm sure you'll have a heroic spirit who's known for slaying dragons in there somewhere. As if on cue, Belle's back grew warm, but the boy ignored it. The god dropped his smirk. But no, I'm not telling you to go and become the hero to defeat the black dragon. That is a right every adventurer in Oreo has, not just you. Belle considered the thought. I see. Hermes put his glass down. But well, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk to you about. We honestly have no idea if the black dragon will even show itself or not, but just between you and me, I'm betting on you. The god gave him a wink, and Belle smiled wryly. Well, thanks I suppose. Hermes laughed. Anyway, I've taken enough of your time. Come, I'll show you that carriage so you can get on your way. Belle and his group soon found themselves on the road. Samira and the other Amazonesses were all having mixed feelings. The reason? All 20, or rather, 19 of them, were on a large carriage. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was that the carriage was pulled by a chariot, which was in turn pulled by 3 horses. Said 3 horses were Xanthos, Balius, and Pedasos, and on the chariot was Belle himself. Daphne asked, hey, aren't those horses like legendary steeds of a legendary hero? And he's using them to do this. Welf shrugged. No idea. I honestly don't even want to know. Aisha laughed. Hey, if it works, it works. Makoto, Haraheim, Lily, and Cassandra just shared a smile, while the others were just conflicted. The fact that the ride wasn't as bumpy as they thought despite the speed they were going, it didn't help things. Soon, the group neared a mountain area as the trees started to become more concentrated. The people on the carriage all looked around, and Makoto asked loudly, Beldano, are you sure this is where we're supposed to go? Belle glanced back. Yeep. Ina-san told me the village we'll be going to will be in the forests. That's why it's a good place to use as a base. Soon, the forest became so concentrated that Belle had to slow the chariot down, and Lily looked around. Belle-sama, this doesn't look like the right place. Belle smiled. Yeah, of course not. Honestly, Ina-san doesn't even know how they found this place. But apparently it's hidden away so well that if you don't know where to go, you wouldn't find it. Samira asked, then how do you know where it is? The white-haired adventurer glanced at the notes Ina had given him, because they reached out to the guild, and they gave us a map to find them. Apparently they also have a route in case they need supplies from outside the forest. They soon spotted a village ahead of them, and Belle led the 3 horses to a stop. The boy got off the chariot, just as the other adventurers got off the carriage. As soon as they did, Belle spotted an elderly man with a young woman approaching them. The man greeted, hello, you wouldn't happen to be the adventurers from Oreo, would you? Belle nodded. Yes, my name is Belle Cranel. I suppose that would make you the mayor, Carm-san. Yes. Carm nodded. Indeed. And this is my daughter, Rena. Rena looked at the group. Is this all the people you have with you? The leader of the party nodded. Yes, this is all we'll need. The woman looked unsure, and she looked at her father. Father, are you sure? Carm nodded. These are adventurers who've received the blessings of a god. I'm sure they will be fine. The mayor turned. Come, we have prepared a place for you for your base. It's not a lot, but hopefully it will serve as a place for you to prepare. The boy nodded, and they quickly followed Carm and his daughter through the village. As they walked, the adventurers couldn't help but notice the stares they were receiving from the villagers. Samira snorted. I see our presence is quite welcome here. Huh? Karm glanced at her. Please excuse them. Some of them believe that the reason the army of Rakia is even trying to take over this place is because of Oreo, and some think we have no reason to help you, much less plead for your help. The others stayed silent, and they soon reached a small house at the far end of the village towards the direction of Rakia. Karm explained, this house has been abandoned for a while. The owner died a while back. But I've managed to have it cleaned up enough that it should be okay to use. Lily looked at it, and then to the direction where the Rakia army would be coming. I see. So we'll be engaging the Rakia forces from here then. The mayor chuckled. I'd appreciate it if you would keep them away from here. Belle nodded, of course. Karm pushed the door open, revealing a relatively empty house with just the bare minimum like chairs and tables. The elderly man looked at them. We have a map, and some of our men have scouted out where the army will be marching from. Belle nodded as he walked forward, noting the map on the table. Thank you. We'll get started as soon as we can. Karm nodded. I shall leave you to it then. Rena spoke up. If you need anything, please let me know. The boy nodded. Thank you. With that said, the pair left the house, and Lena asked, so, what's the plan? Belle noted the attention he was getting from his party, and the boy looked at the map. Ina-san has told me the gist of where they might be coming from, including the terrain will be based on. He spread the map out on the table. Right now we're on the mountains, and the Rakia army will pretty much be coming from, well, flat plains. Daphne asked, so are you planning to rain arrows on them? Everyone quickly remembered the noble phantasm Belle had used on the Apollo Familia, and the boy shook his head. No, not yet. I have something else I want to try, but it'll be similar. Probably even better. Welf smiled dryly. Do I want to know? Belle chuckled. You'll find out anyway. Samira asked, so what about us? Surely you didn't get us all here just so we could watch you wipe out an army. The white-haired rabbit looked at her, and he answered, no, you're all here for a reason. In the end I am but one person. In the case they survive my noble phantasms, you'll be there to keep them from advancing. He pointed to the map. Welf has brought us a lot of magic swords, so I want everyone to take at least 3 each. Makoto asked, so we'll be doing the same thing like in the war game? Belle nodded, on a larger scale, but this time I won't need to use Zhuge-Liang. Lily asked, wait, why not? The others listened as the boy explained. We pretty much know where the enemy is coming from, and they won't have any cover. If what Ina-san told me is correct, the god of war Ares is not that good of a tactician. Welf smiled dryly. Yeep, she's not wrong. Belle smiled. So if he's gonna march on like an idiot, then we'll just have to make use of that. Aisha asked, then what are we gonna do? The boy gestured to the map. Right now we have the high ground, and if they're dumb enough to try to take the village, I'll bombard them with a noble phantasm first. Belle marked several points on the mountain. Then I want everyone stationed at these 5 points on the mountain. They should give you a clear view of the field. Daphne smiled. I see. If they survive your magic, then we can pick them off one by one. The boy nodded. I'm sure you've all seen Welf's magic swords in action. They have a pretty good range and firepower, so dash. Just magic swords? Is that all you great adventurers can do? Everyone turned to see a few men at the door, scowling at them. Samira scowled. What did you just say? One of the men scoffed. If that's all you have, we might as well be dead already. I knew Karm was an idiot to rely on them. The white-haired Amazoness scowled. Before she smirked, you talk big, eh? Samira started walking forward until she found Belle standing in front of her, blocking her from going any further. The Amazoness growled. What are you doing? The boy looked at her and shook his head. No, we're here to fight the Rakia army, not them. The man scoffed. See, just a look from a boy and dash. Belle turned to him. And you, I know not everyone appreciates us being here, but we're here to fight. If you don't have anything to add or help, please let us do our work. Before anyone could say anything, all of them suddenly found it hard to breathe, and the adventurers quickly remembered Belle still had Achilles' power flowing in his body. The villagers glared at them, before eventually leaving. Welf asked, what's their problem? Belle reigned in Achilles' presence, before turning back to his group. Take an hour to look around. I want everyone to be familiar with the area, then we'll set up our positions on the mountains. No one objected, and soon, Belle was with Aisha and Samira. The boy stared at the map, before glancing at the 2 Amazonesses. What's wrong? Samira frowned at him. Why did you stop me? They're the ones who need our help. We don't even need to be here to fight the Rakia army. Belle let out a breath. True, all of us combined will be more than enough even if we just went and met them head on. The gray-haired Amazoness glared at him, then dash. The boy cut her off. But that's not what we're here for, are we? I asked all of you to trust me with your lives, and if there's a more efficient choice, we'll take it. Aisha asked with a smirk. Is it that tactician hero speaking? Or is it Belle Cranel speaking? Belle chuckled. Hey, if Zhuge-Liang was actually here, it'd be much worse. I may have inherited his existence, but I'm still very much an amateur with it. The boy turned to the door. Anyway, I'll be looking around the village. Give me a shout if you need anything. With that said, Belle left the house and Samira snorted humorlessly. A hero, huh? Aisha sighed. Samira, I know our current arrangements aren't the best, but dash. Her fellow Amazoness scoffed. Easy for you to say. He got his goddess to take you and Haraheim into their familia. Samira stormed off, leaving Aisha alone in the house, and the woman sighed. Well, that went well. Line break. Meanwhile, Bell was walking aimlessly around the village until he heard a familiar voice. Cranel-sama. The boy turned to see Haraheim, and he asked, Haraheim? Weren't you with the others? The Renard smiled. Lina-sama and the others went on ahead, and I didn't feel like joining Lily-sama and the rest. Bell hummed, okay, wanna walk with me? The blonde nodded, if you'll have me. The boy gestured to her to follow him, and they walked around the village. As they did, they noticed a few children playing around, and Haraheim commented, it is very peaceful here, isn't it? Bell nodded, and it won't be if we let the Rakia army reach this place. The Renard asked, but some of them don't seem to appreciate our presence. The boy nodded as they walked, noting the looks from some of the other villagers, mostly young men. Please excuse their behavior. The pair turned to see Rina approaching them, and Bell greeted, Rina-san. The woman smiled apologetically. Not everyone dislikes you being here, but there are a number of people who were against this. Haraheim asked, may I ask why? Rina turned, follow me, there's something I want to show you. The two shared a look before following the woman. Soon, the three reached the far end of the village, and Bell quickly noticed what seemed like an altar. Inside the altar was a huge black oval crystal, with food like fruits placed before it. Bell asked, what is this? Rina explained, a scale from the Black Dragon. Haraheim's eyes widened, the Black Dragon? As in the one from Dungeon Oratorio? The woman nodded, the very same. It is said that the scales fell off of the dragon when it terrorized the world. The white-haired adventurer looked confused, but it looks like you're worshipping it? Rina nodded, that's right. See, our village doesn't have a patron god. We don't have people blessed by gods. She pointed to another altar at a distance. These scales, monsters seem afraid of them, and they've kept us safe for decades. Bell looked around, and he quickly noticed that the altars seemed to span around the village. Haraheim asked, is that why some of the villagers didn't like us being here? Rina nodded, yes, to them, we've been living under the protection of the Black Dragon. Bell understood, and we adventurers from Oreo are those who sought to kill it. Of course it wouldn't sit well with them. The woman nodded, what protected our village all these years were these scales, not gods, nor adventurers. Rina sighed, but still, it doesn't mean that they can act that way. So I do apologize for their behavior. Bell smiled, you have nothing to apologize for, Rina-san. Haraheim nodded, Cranel-sama is right, you shouldn't apologize, and none of us were harmed. The woman smiled, thank you. Rina turned away, I shall leave you to it then, I've taken enough of your time. Bell nodded as she walked away, and he spared the scales one more look, before looking at Haraheim, since we're at the border, let's look at the places we'll be setting up our watch points. The Renard nodded, of course. The two walked away from the village, and Bell scanned the area. Haraheim, I heard you liked hero stories, right? The blonde was caught by surprise. Yeah? I mean, why yes. Bell smiled as he studied the terrain. So you know stories like Dungeon Oratorio? The Renard nodded. Why yes, it's one of the few I read when I was, a child. The boy nodded. Have you checked our library? I did get a number of hero stories when we moved in, but obviously I couldn't get everything from my old home. Haraheim nodded quickly. Why yes. There were a lot of stories I had never read before. They're amazing. Bell chuckled. They are. The blonde asked, but I did speak to Lily-sama and the others before, and I couldn't find any of the stories about the heroes you have. Is there a reason why? The boy smiled. Yeah, they're not really well known in Oreo. Haraheim asked, is there anywhere I can read about their stories? Bell chuckled. Yeah, I have a collection of them back in my old home. Maybe once we're done here, we can find some time to go get them. The Renard's eyes gleamed with interest. Really? The boy nodded with a smile, of course. Bell turned. All right, let's go back. Once we gather everyone, we'll start setting up our positions. Haraheim nodded, and they headed back for the village. Line break. A while later, everyone from Bell's party were in position, and Lily was paired with Daphne. Lily asked, what do you think Bell-sama is going to pull this time? The redhead shrugged, glancing at the 6 magic swords by their side. Who knows? He said it was something new, so I'm sure it'll be something interesting to see. The prum hummed as she looked out from their spot, overlooking a wide barren land as the forest slowly thinned out the further it went. Until Lily spotted the sight of the army approaching, and her eyes widened in surprise. Wait, they're here already. I thought they were marching later. Like tomorrow later. Daphne quickly grabbed a magic sword. Good thing we came prepared then. The prum looked around. I hope everyone is seeing this. The redhead nodded. We'll just have to wait for Bell's signal. Lily nodded. Yes, a red flare. The two were about to continue when they spotted a familiar silver-armored figure leaping out of the trees beneath them. Daphne gaped. Did he just dash? Lily blinked, and she palmed her face. Bell-sama. With Bell, the boy landed on the ground with a thud, and he stood up straight to face the Rakia army. Bell took a deep breath. Load. Gilgamesh. The powers of the oldest king filled his body, and almost immediately Bell felt the overwhelming presence. But this time, Bell didn't focus on the powers of Gilgamesh in his prime. No, what Bell was after was something Gilgamesh gained after he returned from his journey of immortality. A stone slab appeared in his left hand, and Bell waved his right over it. That which floods the earth shall be mine will. In response, a semi-transparent illusion of large city walls appeared behind Bell, circling around the mountain. Set. The soldiers at a distance watched in fear as multiple cannons angled at them. One of the braver ones yelled, "It's an illusion. Don't falter." Unfortunately for him, it wasn't merely an illusion. Malamadinger. The cannons all fired, and everyone behind the walls, including the villagers who came out to watched in as a large rain of magical blasts struck the ground. Ares wanted a war? In the face of these adventurers, Reiki stood absolutely no chance. The rain of fire continued for a good few minutes, and when it finally ended, everyone had their jaws dropped once again. The next few days, the same thing happened again. Malamadinger. And again. Phoebus Catastrophe. And again. The Unreturning Formation, Stone Sentinel Maze. And again. Troya's Tragoedia. Every day the Reiki army would try to advance, but Bell would always take them all out with a single noble phantasm, and they would retreat for the day. Welf sighed in exasperation as he watched the Reiki army retreat once again. I knew Bell was going to stop them, but this is just sad. Makoto smiled awkwardly. Well, considering what happened with the Apollo Familia, I'm not too surprised. The blacksmith shook his head. But seriously, those guys seriously can't take a hint, huh? You'd have thought by the third time they'd have given up. Well, third time's the charm, as they say. The pair turned to see Aisha and Samira walking to them, and Makoto blinked. Aisha Dano, Samira Dano. Aren't you supposed to be in your positions? Samira scoffed. With that monster of a hero out there, do you think it'll make any difference? The swordswoman blinked, before she smiled awkwardly. No, not really. The Amazoness snorted. There you have it. Samira watched as the Reiki army retreated. But seriously, I don't know whether to be impressed that Bell's keeping this up for so long, or laughing at the fact that the Reiki army is still coming at us. Welf scoffed. Yeah, well, Ares isn't the brightest. I wouldn't be surprised if that god showed up himself. Before the group could continue, Bell landed near them with an audible thud, and Makoto greeted, Nicely done, Beldano. How many days has it been since you've been holding the line? The white-haired boy smiled dryly, very funny. Come on, let's get the others and go back to the village. Aisha nodded. I'll go round up the others. You go back first. Bell nodded. Thanks, Aisha-san. The Amazoness waved it off as she walked to get the other members of their party, and Bell and the other three went back to the village. Soon, the four of them reached the village, and many of the villagers greeted them. Another thing that had changed after the few days they'd held the Reiki army back was that many of the villagers quickly came to respect Bell and his group, even the ones who had shown dislike in the beginning. Carm approached them. Good afternoon, Bell? I hope today hasn't been tiring. Bell smiled. Not at all. The enemy forces have retreated for the day. Welf chuckled in exasperation. Pretty sure they'll come back tomorrow. A random villager asked, Why don't you just put them down for good? Surely you have the ability? The boy shook his head. No, they may be at war, but all of them have friends and family waiting for them too. If I can avoid that, then I definitely will. Samira snorted. Normally I'd say that's arrogant speaking, but coming from you. Bell smiled awkwardly. I mean. A few women approached him, and Lord Bell, may we ask you to hold your companions back, please? Another issue that had come up was that a few of the Amazonesses with them had started offering their services, which had in turn gained the ire of several women in the village. Samira scoffed. If you don't like it, then stop them yourself. Nothing is stopping them from accepting. One of the women glared at her. You dash. Bell quickly got between them. I'll make sure I have a word with them later, okay? The Amazoness snorted, while the women begrudgingly accepted his words. As the women walked away, Carm gave Bell an apologetic look. Sorry about that. You didn't have to deal with this when you're already doing so much. Bell shook his head. Don't be sorry, it's fine. The mayor chuckled. It still baffles me how you are humble despite the power you hold. The boy chuckled as they walked. I'm still just human. It's not like having these powers make me above everyone else. Samira snorted as she said under her breath, It kinda does. Makoto and Welf stayed silent, but the expressions on their faces said otherwise. Obviously, that went unnoticed, and Carm asked, Speaking of which, Bell, we have a festival to celebrate and pray for good harvest this weekend. Would you and your group be happy to at least stay for that even if the war is done and dealt with? Bell smiled. Of course, I'm sure everyone'd be happy to. A few days shouldn't be too much of a problem. The mayor smiled. Excellent. I'll let the others know. The elderly man walked off, and Welf asked, a bit jumping the gun, Isn't he? We don't even know if the Reiki army will give up so easily. Makoto nodded. Well, look from their perspective. Beldano has held them off by himself for the past few days. I'm sure they see it as a definite win by this point. Samira snorted. I'd be surprised if they didn't. Bell smiled tiredly. All right, let's go back. We'll help the villagers later. Right now I need some rest. Line break. Some days later, in the Reiki camp, Ares sat in his tent holding a report of their battles. The god looked frustrated. Why? Marius sighed as he read his own copy. What do you mean why? Ares looked at him. Why are our forces losing? We've made absolutely zero progress. Marius took a deep breath, but ultimately gave in to his annoyance. And why do you think we're losing? The god was slightly taken aback, but the prince continued his rant. It's because you insist our forces march on head-on. Ares sat down, shrinking with each word Marius yelled. I told you our forces are weak. We only have numbers. But no. You insisted we march on like true warriors. The prince had his reports rolled into a stick, and the god prayed that the young man didn't start whacking him. His prayers weren't answered. Whack. Ares winced. OW. Mario W. Marius continued. Think Ares think. We are up against the Loki Familia. The prince smacked the god on the head again. Whack. The god cried. Estep. Marius didn't stop, and I told you to stop charging in mindlessly. Did you listen? For the next half hour, the god's cries reached the ears of the other soldiers, much to their amusement and confusion. After a while, Marius calmed down, and Ares nursed his head. The god would forever be traumatized by paper rolled up in a stick. The prince sat in his own seat, massaging his temples. What do we do now? Challenging Oreo? It was a fool's errand. 3 directions, their entire army split equally to march onto Oreo. Yet none of them had shown any success. The 2 directions with the Loki Familia members were a given, but what surprised him was the one with but a single member of the Hestia Familia. Marius sighed. Hestia Familia. That's not a name I'm familiar with. His words caught Ares' attention. Hestia Familia, you say? The god of war sat up with a grin. I have an idea. Marius took a deep breath, and after considering his choices, against his better judgment he nodded. Let's hear it. Ares' grin widened. We'll go challenge them to a duel. Mano a mano. The prince took a deep breath and rolled up the report paper tightly once more. The god's grin dropped. W8, Marius, hold up. We can talk. We can dash. Whack. Oh. Whack. 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 Ahe. The same thing happened again, until Marius calmed down. Now do you have a better plan? Ares shook his head painfully on his throne, and no. The blonde prince tightened his grip on the paper roll, and the god backed away in fear. Then stay there and don't do anything until I come back. With that said, Marius stormed out of the tent for his own, the guards staring at him awkwardly as he did. Chapter 31. Author note. Hey, it's been a while. I've been burnt out and busy with work, not to mention the new Final Fantasy Rebirth, FGO, Honkai Star Rail and Genshin. I have a question. Anyone know how to get tickets for FGO Phase? I'm looking to go this year, but so far can't find anything on it aside from the official website showing FGO Phase 2023. No idea how to get M either. So if any of you have experience, if you can share him, that would be greatly appreciated. Silvercrow, it would be interesting to see Marius using the Torashine Eye on Ares. Maybe we'll see it eventually. Anime Fan 13579, King's Order is something I'm looking into bringing into the story. It will be similar to how Bell uses Yoshitsune instead of Ushiwa Kamara despite them being the same person. But yes, when he inherits Artoria, or Arthur, whichever I choose, he will have access to all of them, including Rangaminiad, which will also obviously have restrictions or not. But anyway, Artoria/Arthur is not coming anytime soon, not yet at least. Axel Allen, glad you like that part with Ishtar. And yes, Marius and Asfi are quite similar, haha. Anyway, here's the newest chapter. XXX. A few more days passed, with the same routine as Bell sent the soldiers of Rakia back. Until they stopped coming one day, and Bell stood on the plains watching the direction where the Rakia army usually marched from. A bird flew down to his side, before transforming into Lily, and the Prum asked, they're not coming today? Bell nodded, seems like it. The part of his mind he inherited from Zhu Guliang was skeptical that they would give up just like that, and Bell took a deep breath, get Samira and a few of her team to scout out the surrounding areas. Lily nodded, okay, will do. She paused, before asking, what about you, Bell-sama? The boy kept his eyes on the horizon, and he had half a mind to just go track down the enemy's base, but ultimately held back against it. Bell answered, I'll keep an eye on this front, in case they still come. The Prum nodded and turned to transform into a bird again before flying off. The boy turned to face the wide plains again, but the Rakia army never showed up the whole day. For days later, the Rakia army still didn't show up, and Bell had sent Lily, Lena, and Samira to scout out what the enemy was up to. A few of the other Amazonesses were kept on lookout duty in case the Rakia army ended up marching on again. That left Bell and the others in the village. The villagers all looked on in awe as Bell, Welf, and Aisha all carried large stacks of timber from one end of the village to the other. Rena smiled gratefully as the 3 dropped the logs on the ground. Thanks again for helping. I never really realized just how strong adventurers are. Bell chuckled sheepishly. Well, when you have our faunas boosting us. Aisha snorted. For the most part, yes. Welf laughed softly, but we're happy to help, especially when you have your festival tomorrow night. A random villager walked past them. Hey, thanks to all of you. We're actually ahead of schedule. Most of the villagers around them voiced their agreement, and Bell laughed softly. You're all too kind. All we did was just move stuff around. Rena smiled, and that alone helped a lot, not to mention you're still keeping an eye out for the Rakia army. Welf folded his arms. Speaking of which, Lily's taking a while, huh? Aisha scoffed. If you're worried they're caught by the enemy, she's got Samira and Lena with her. I wouldn't worry. The blacksmith smiled dryly. I was more worried about whether they got lost or not. Bell chuckled. I think they'll be fine. He turned. Come on, We have more stuff to move. Line break. 2 more days passed, and yet again, the Rakia army didn't show up. Today was also the day the village would have their festival. Belle stood at the village square, where a huge unlit bonfire stood. Good day, Belle. The boy turned to see Carm walking to him slowly, and he greeted, Good afternoon. Carm smiled. I can't thank you enough. You've not only proven to have protected our village from the Rakia army, but you and your companions have even helped finish our preparations for the festival. Belle chuckled. It's nothing. I think it's a good change of pace, especially for some of them. The elderly snorted. Well, considering some of my men have had to stay in bed for a day or two, I'd say so. The boy's face turned red slightly. I meant my companions. They've been through quite a bit recently. Carm chuckled. I know, and I meant my men. Unfortunately, our community is pretty much limited to this, so some, if not most, don't have experience with women. Belle palmed his face, right? The village elder laughed wholeheartedly, but no harm done, I'd say. He paused, or rather, I'd say there is. In a way. Belle raised an eyebrow. Really? Why? Carm chuckled. When the fire is lit, we have something called the harvest dance, you see. The boy folded his arms. The harvest dance? The older man nodded. Generally, men will ask the ladies to dance, and if a single unmarried man asks a lady for a dance, it means they like them. If the lady accepts, then they become a couple. Belle nodded in understanding. I see. Carm chuckled. On rare occasions, some women will ask the men, but that's usually really rare. He nodded, before rubbing his temples. I see. Carm laughed. You see why the ladies were annoyed now then? Belle sighed. Yes. I guess I can understand where they're coming from. The boy shook his head. Unfortunately, there's only so much I can tell my companions to do. Refraining from offering their services is unfortunately not within my authority. The village mayor laughed again. No harm done really. Belle chuckled. If you say so. Carm nodded, until he spotted a few women approaching them. And I do. Now. The boy gave him a questioning look at the sudden raise in voice, and his curiosity would soon be satiated. The village mayor smiled. I heard from that Renard of yours and her Amazoness friend that your cooking is to die for. Rena spoke up with a few women behind her, and it just so happens we are in need of a helping hand. Belle let out a breath. Harahim and Aisha. He chuckled. All right, we can have a look at what we're working with. The boy followed the women to an open space, where a few tables were set out with various ingredients and a few outdoor stoves. One of the women spoke. Usually each year we do roasted chicken and duck, some roast lamb, bread and vegetables, so that's pretty much all we'll have to work with. Belle glanced over the ingredients at hand. I can work with this. Is there a theme or something we want to stick to? That question surprised the ladies, and Rena shook her head. Not really. I mean, I guess if you had to have one, it'd be just to celebrate harvest and being together. Belle nodded, and a smile grew on his face. All right, if you don't mind me butting in and changing the menu, I have some ideas. One of the women asked, What do you have in mind? The boy gestured to the ingredients around them. I'm thinking of making a stew with the chicken, then we can stick with the roast duck as you normally would. If you're okay with trying something Eastern, we can also make mapo tofu. Belle went on to describe various dishes and how to make them, and Rena and the women had to take some time to process what he was talking about. Rena pinched the bridge of her nose. That is a lot of options. Another woman sported a similar look. Why yes. Belle chuckled. Well, if we can't choose, we can just make all of them. I'm sure we have enough ingredients here. A third woman asked, Do you think we can make it in time? The boy just smiled. Definitely. Rena took a deep breath. You know what? If Belle thinks we can do it, then let's do it. Belle's smile widened. Then let's get to work. Soon, the boy started directing the women towards their respective stations, instructing them on what to do. As the group worked, Carm and a few men stopped by to watch what they were cooking, and the village mayor couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. That night, Welf had a dry smile on his mouth, something mirrored by all of the Hestia Familia members. The blacksmith looked at their Familia captain blankly. You went all out, didn't you? Belle chuckled sheepishly. Well, we sort of got carried away in the moment. A random Amazon escaped when she saw the amount of food prepared, and she looked back at Belle. Dee, did you come up with this? The boy smiled. It wasn't just me. I helped a bit, but everyone else did the heavy lifting. Now that's just an understatement. It was more like you did most of the heavy lifting, and the majority of us did all we could to help. The group turned to see Rena walking towards them, and Makoto greeted, Good evening, Rena Dono. The woman smiled. Good evening. Rena looked around. The festival's pretty much started, so please enjoy yourself. They quickly noticed the villagers all moving towards the tables with the food, and the woman smiled awkwardly. WL, as much as you can. Welf laughed softly. I see Belle's cooking never fails to impress. Belle snorted. Hey, it's not just me, okay? Daphne chuckled. Well, I suppose the fact that you helped is more than enough. Cassandra giggled and nodded, and Aisha started to walk forward. In that case, let's not wait any longer. I'd hate to miss out. Harahim gaped. Hey Aisha-san. The Amazoness grinned back at her. Hey, if y'all want to wait, I won't complain cause there's just gonna be more for me. The Renard quickly chased after her friend, and Belle sighed in exasperation. Sorry about that. Rena giggled. It's all right. I can understand where they're coming from. The woman gestured to the crowd, where Wealth and the others were also joining in on the festivals. Let's join them, shall we? Belle nodded, sure. A short while later, everyone was enjoying the food and chatting amongst each other. Haruheim ended up garnering the attention of many young men, but thanks to Aisha, Daphne, Cassandra, and Makoto, they kept a respectful distance. Not to mention the many Amazonesses taking the chance to offer their services again. Wealth and Belle stood at his side, quietly enjoying the food as they watched everyone socialize. The blacksmith commented, it's a shame Lil Lily isn't here to enjoy this, huh? Belle smiled. Her, Samira-san, and Lena-san. Yeah. Remind me to cook something for them when they get back. Wealth snorted. Pretty sure she'll ask for it even if I don't. The boy nodded. Probably. I can see that happening. The redhead looked at his friend. So, when are we gonna go back? Belle shrugged. No idea. Depending on what Lily and the others find. We might just go straight for the enemy camp. Wealth hummed. I see. Not a bad idea. If we can end this quickly, we can go home sooner. The boy chuckled. Glad you're looking forward to going back. The blacksmith snorted. And you're not? I like this place, but sitting here and doing virtually nothing is not gonna let me forge a good sword. Belle laughed softly. Patience. I'm sure we'll be going back soon. All right. A shout from the bonfire caught their attention, and they noticed a middle-aged man standing there. The man smiled. The sun's going down, so what do you say we start the harvest dance? Everyone exploded into cheers and roars, and soon, various men and women started to pair up and dance around the bonfire. Wealth raised an eyebrow. A harvest dance? Huh? Belle nodded. Yeah, apparently it's to celebrate the year's harvest and pray for a good harvest the following year. The redhead hummed. I see. The boy smiled, and well, apparently if a single male asks a female to dance, it's sort of like a proposal. Wealth hummed again. I see. Belle chuckled. Good thing I told the others about it in advance. The pair looked over to see some of the younger men asking some of the Amazonesses to dance, only for them to refuse. The blacksmith snorted humorlessly. Yeah. You wouldn't happen to be open for a dance, would you, Belle? The pair turned to see Aisha approaching them, a glass of wine in hand. At that exact moment, back in the hostess kitchen, Ryuu was in charge of helping Mia cook for the night. The elf held a wooden ladle as she stirred some soup, and she felt a disturbance. Crack. Before she realized it, the ladle in her hand had been snapped in half. At one side, Mia raised an eyebrow as she fried some vegetables. What did you do now, you clumsy elf? Rhea stared at the broken ladle in her hand. I have no idea why, but I just felt really annoyed all of a sudden. The dwarf snorted. Go get a new one, and don't break it. The elf nodded. Thank you, Mamma Mia. Belle felt a shiver run down his back, and he smiled awkwardly. I think you might have drank a bit too much, Aisha-san. The Amazoness scoffed. I'm not a lightweight, okay? She threw an arm over his shoulder. At least ask Haruheim for a dance. Yeah? She'd be over the moon if you did. The boy just chuckled awkwardly. Well? Before they could continue their conversation, however, a familiar voice reached their ears. Belle-sama. The trio turned to see Lily, Lena, and Samira entering the village. But what caught their attention was the fact that the two Amazonesses were lugging two tied-up figures with them. Belle blinked as he pushed Aisha off of him. Lily. What? The two figures were Marius and Ares. The Prum smiled at him. We managed to find the enemy camp and captured their god and general. The captain of the Hestia Familia nodded. I can see that. But why? Lena giggled sheepishly. We kinda got caught? So we had to fight our way through, and one thing led to another. Samira nodded. It was a good fight. Marius sighed. A level 3 against a battalion of level 1s, of course. Belle looked at the two tied-up men. So, I guess if you two are here. Lily nodded. At the moment, most of the men in that battalion are out of commission. They still have yet to recover from your noble phantasms, Belle-sama. Ares snapped his head up at Belle. Noble phantasms? You're a heroic spirit. Belle walked up to them. No, but I'm the heir to the throne of heroes. I think you'd know what that means, god of war. Ares. The god blinked. Oh. The habits of Zhuge Liang showed, as Belle stared at them. Now, what do you two plan to do? Marius stared at the boy, and he felt wary looking at him, opting to stay silent. His patron god, unfortunately, was not as smart. I propose you join my army. Together we can rule the world. Ares grinned despite being tied up. With your noble phantasms and my blessing, we would dominate every corner of the world. Belle blinked in surprise at his words. Before he sighed, unfortunately, I'll have to decline your offer, Ares. The god blinked, genuinely surprised. Wait, what? Why? Marius couldn't take it anymore. We are at war. You buffoon. Of course they wouldn't join you. Not when they're kicking our asses. Everyone's sweat dropped, and Wealth couldn't help but comment. Well, when you put it that way, it couldn't have been any more obvious. The crown prince of Rakia cried. Finally someone gets it. Thank you. Marius turned to look at who spoke up, and he blinked. Wait, you're Wealth Kratzo, aren't you? The blacksmith blinked in surprise. You recognize me? Wealth took a good look at who it was. Wait, Marius? Belle raised an eyebrow. You know him, Wealth? The redhead sighed. Why, yeah. Marius is the crown prince of Rakia, and we used to play together before I left. Ares' eyes lit up. OH. the lost child of Kratzel. You can join us too. With your magic weapons and his noble phantasms, we'll rule the world. We'll even overlook the fact that you left us. Welf sighed. I feel sorry for you, honestly, Marius. The prince sighed. Yeah, well? It is what it is. Lily spoke up. I hate to interrupt the reunion, but shouldn't we decide what to do with them? Belle nodded. Definitely. All of them looked at Belle, but before the boy could decide, Ares spoke up again, or rather, shouted, Before you decide our doom, I challenge you to a duel. Mano a mano. Everyone, including Marius, simply stared at him as if he was dumb. The villagers, on the other hand, all were just watching behind them in slight disbelief. Belle took a deep breath. Since Lily, Lena, and Samira did an excellent job bringing you here, we might as well bring you back to Oreo. Ares blinked. Eh? The boy nodded. Load. Gilgamesh. To their surprise, the golden aura formed around Belle, and Ares quickly realized what was going to happen. Wait, we can discuss terms. We can nego dash. Before anyone could react, Enkidu's chains were wrapped around the god, earning a yelp from him. Belle stared at the god. I'm sure the other gods back in Oreo can decide what to do with you. The boy glanced back at the crowd, before adding, but for now, you'll have to stay put. Ares gaped. Wait, are you just going to leave me here? Belle nodded without a second thought. Yes. The boy paused, before he added, but. Marius, was it? The prince nodded. Why yes. Belle nodded. You're welcome to have some food for the night. Let me know if you want some. Marius blinked in surprise. Oh, okay. By now, most of the members of the Hestia Familia and Ishtar Familia had joined them, and Daphne asked skeptically, Are you sure this is a good idea, Belle? The captain of the party nodded. Yeah, it'll be fine. No one here has the ability to break those chains. The stronger the divine power, the stronger the chains will bind him. His eyes glowed with power and authority. Besides, if anyone from the Rakia army comes, well, I'm sure they already know what's coming. Most of the villagers shivered when they heard the coldness and ruthlessness behind his words, and they were quickly reminded of how strong Belle really was despite how kind he'd been. The cold look vanished, and Belle looked back at the villagers and comrades. Sorry about that. Please don't let that affect the festival, okay? Rena nodded slowly. All right, of course. Karm chuckled and shook his head in exasperation. Before he turned to his fellow villagers, you heard him. Let us continue. We have a feast tonight. It'd be a shame if we let it go to waste, no? Line break. A short while later, Belle stood inside Karm's room. The mayor looked outside of his window, where they could see Ares still chained up, with Marius still tied down by a chain but a lot less restrained. Karm glanced at Belle. So with the god captured, I believe that concludes your business here. The boy followed the old man's gaze, and he nodded. Yeah, that seems to be the case. I plan to stay the night, and we'll leave first thing at dawn. The mayor nodded. I see. Though you did come here to fight against the Rakia army, Ares and his vassals have never done harm to our village, so I hope his punishment won't be too harsh. Belle raised an eyebrow. Why so? Karm chuckled softly, perhaps because of how easily you fended them off. They just don't seem to be the malicious type, not to mention that Marius seemed like a good person. The boy hummed. I see. Frankly, I'm leaving it to the gods in Oreo, and knowing them, it'll probably be something more humiliating than anything. The mayor nodded. In that case, then I'll leave it at that. Belle smiled. It's getting late anyway, so I'll be retiring for the night. Karm chuckled. Very well. Good night, Belle. The boy headed for the door. You too. Line break. The next morning, Belle and his party along with the chained Ares and Marius stood at the edge of the village. Karm and the other villagers all stood before them, and the mayor spoke again. It has been a good few days. Thank you for everything, all of you. Belle smiled. Anytime. I know it's still against your customs, but if you need help. Karm laughed wholeheartedly. Of course, we might very well take you up on that offer. The boy nodded. Until next time then. Belle turned to where their carriage was parked, overload. Achilles. In an instant, the 3 horses and chariot appeared, and everyone boarded the carriage. As they did, Ares gaped. Why, you're using Achilles' powers as a means of travel? You're a genius. Naturally, no one bothered to respond as they zoomed back towards Oreo. A short while later, in a meeting room inside the Tower of Babel, Ares alone sat in the center of the room, still chained by the chains of heaven, while Belle stood at a corner of the room. The boy stood in silence, and normally he would be in awe of the many gods that were seated before him. But with the influence of Gilgamesh and the memories of the various heroes he had inherited, all of a sudden the gods didn't seem so impressive anymore. Are you okay, Belkuin? Are you sure you don't want to sit with us? The boy turned to see Hestia and Artemis, and he smiled. It's fine. It already feels weird being here. I think standing in the corner is better. Well, it's not like anyone will dare do anything to you, not when you have his powers flowing through your body. Belle turned to see Ishtar walking to them, an uncomfortable expression on her face. The boy smiled softly, not letting Gilgamesh's displeasure affect him. Unfortunately, I can't keep Enkidu's chains without using his powers. Ishtar snorted. Is that so? I think it's quite unnecessary. If that's what he wants to do, then you can't really stop him now, can you? The 4 turned to see Loki, and the red-haired goddess thinned her lips as she walked up to Belle. What's done is done, so make sure you watch your back from now on, kid. With that said, Ishtar and Loki went to sit down, and Artemis sighed. I can sort of understand where they're coming from. She glanced at Ares, who was still chained up with Enkidu's chains. Hestia nodded. Belkuin, I think you should release him. He may have waged war on Oreo, but he's still a god. Bel looked at the two goddesses, and he sighed. Fine. The powers of Gilgamesh left his body, and so too did Enkidu's chains. The boy looked at his two patron goddesses. I'll be heading back first then. Okay? Artemis nodded, of course. Hestia got an idea. Oh, and can you make something for lunch? Bel blinked, before a smile formed on his face. All right, what do you want? The goddess folded her arms. I can't decide, so how about everything you can think of? The boy chuckled, if we have enough ingredients. With that said, Bel left the building, and Hestia and Artemis both went to sit at their seats near Loki and Ishtar. Soon, most of the gods who bothered to attend were seated, and Hermes stood next to Ares, who now sat on the floor cross-legged. The god of messengers sighed at the side of the war god. All right, Uranus has given me full reign on this, so we'll decide what to do with Ares considering he declared war on us. A random god yelled, execution. Everyone looked at him as if he was dumb, and he shrunk. Sorry. Loki cackled. How about we get him to pay a hefty fine? Enough to keep all of us filthy rich for a few years? Reiki is pretty wealthy, right? Hermes pointed at her. Good idea. We'll keep that in mind. Get the entire Ares familia to act as clowns in Oreo. Get them to run around the continent naked. Gods and goddesses continued throwing random ideas out, usually dumb ideas that mainly involved heavily damaging Ares and his country financially or just plain up humiliation. The more they discussed, the more Ares wanted to just straight up go back to Tenkai. Line break. Later, Bel was in the hostess of fertility, and he sat at the bar, sipping on a glass of soda. You seem pretty free, Naya. Bel glanced back at Anya. Yeah, Hestia-sama and Artemis-sama are in that meeting to decide Ares' punishment, and I don't feel like going home yet. Chloe snorted as she walked past with a tray of food. And you come here? Syr giggled. I think it's perfectly fine. We get to spend more time together, right? The boy chuckled. Exactly. Mia scoffed. I don't mind you spending time and money here, but you could help, you know? Bel just smiled at her words, and Rhea sighed and shook her head in exasperation while putting in an order for some customers. You managed to bring Ares and the crown prince of Rekia back to Oreo. The boy stirred his soda with his straw. Well, it's a bit of a story, but I guess we have the time. Mia cut him off. Not for them, they don't. You can tell us what happened after hours. Bel blinked, before he chuckled. Right, of course. The boy continued to enjoy his soda, the other waitresses taking the hint to focus more on work. Until he heard another familiar voice. Now why the hell are you here alone, rabbit? The boy turned back to see Bet-san. The werewolf scoffed and sat down next to him. Give me a mug of meat. Mia just nodded, while Bel asked, drinking already? Bet scoffed, just came back from dealing with the dungeon. Finn had me babysit the small fries today. The boy smiled. How'd they do? The werewolf snorted humorlessly, like shit, but at least they didn't screw up much. Bel chuckled, right? Bet glanced at him. So, what about you? Would have thought you'd have some of your shitty teammates with you. The boy hummed, no, not today. The werewolf stared at him for a bit, before scoffing, whatever, not my fucking problem. Mia slid the mug of mead to Bet, who quickly grabbed it and started downing it. The werewolf let out a big breath, before asking, so, when are you up for that rematch, you shitty rabbit? The boy grinned, anytime, any place. Bet smirked dangerously, oh, really now? Before the pair could continue, Mia cut in, if you want to start something, do it outside, you fucking lightweight of a werewolf. Bel shivered at her glare, and even Bet felt uncomfortable. Sorry, Mamma Mia. The waitresses giggled at his reaction, and the boy went back to drinking his soda. Bet, on the other hand, just grumbled and downed more of his meat. Later that evening, Ishtar was in her office, having read the report from Samira and the others after they returned. The goddess sighed and massaged her temples. Why now? She glanced at a letter on the table, and she could already feel the haze weight on her being, as if warning and stopping her. Ishtar sighed again. What a pain. At the end of the letter was the name of the person who wrote it. A familiar name. Thanatos. Author note. That's it for this chapter. A bit on the shorter end, but it also marks the end of the Rekia arc and the beginning of the Xenos arc. It might take a while to get the next chapter out because of burnout from work, but I'll try to get it out as soon as I can. As usual, read and review please. Chapter 32. Author note. Hey, I'm back with a new chapter. Axel Allen, I'm happy you think this has the same potential as Heroic Myth, though pretty sure it won't come anywhere close. Now honestly, I already have an idea which heroic spirits Bel will get from this arc, so you'll just have to find out. And another thing I don't think anyone noticed was that Asterius, Black Mino, wielded a lightning magic axe, and remember what Bel used to defeat that Minotaur before? Elder Titan, I'm not gonna lie. Even as I was writing the past few chapters, I didn't feel motivated, it was all a filler to me. In hindsight, I probably should have skipped them and came straight to the Xenos arc, simply because that's where the things I have planned are. Spirit Blade. First Hassan is one I'm still thinking on how to bring in, but eventually Bel will reach a point where he can use his powers. So yeah, here's the first chapter of the Xenos arc. Triple X. 2 days later, Bell and the rest of his familia were on the 19th floor. The group of 8 had easily made their way through the first 18 floors, making their way to the 19th. Right now, they were surrounded by a horde of firebirds, lizardmen, and battle boars. Aisha yelled, Haraheim. The Renard nodded, having finished her chant just in time, Yukai no Kazuchi. Magic swirled out from the blonde, granting the Amazoness a level boost. Aisha dashed forward. Bell? The familia captain nodded. Load. Heracles. The stone axe sword appeared in his hands, and Bell dashed forward in sync with Aisha. The pair dashed into the horde of monsters, swinging their swords constantly as Aisha began her chant. The others didn't even need to do much, for the two easily took care of a majority of the monsters. All of them stood on guard, watching as Bell and Aisha zipped across the area in perfect synergy, switching places with each kill as the Amazoness chanted for her magic. Then the Amazoness finished her chant. The name of mine starving blade is Hippolyta. Set. 9 lives. Both adventurers held their swords up, magic swirling around Aisha's blade, while Bell focused all of his strength into the axe sword. Hell chaos. The pair swung their weapons down, unleashing a giant shockwave that laid waste to every monster before them. Daphne did a quick scan around them, and she nodded. We're clear. Everyone relaxed, and Lily jogged forward. All right, my turn, I suppose. Cassandra perked up. I'll help too. The Prum smiled dryly. You don't have to, you know? The healer looked down. I didn't do much. So? Welf snorted, and? Neither did I. When you have Bell and Aisha with us, both level boosted, I don't think there's much we need to do. Mikoto sighed. Speak for yourself. You're a blacksmith, not a fighter. I am the one who should be ashamed. Haraheim spoke up. I think you're doing great. Mikoto-chan, you helped protect us when some of the monsters broke through. The samurai hung her head, and it was only that one single lizard man. The Renard's smile strained. Bell chuckled. Don't feel bad. If it helps, Aisha-san and I will take the backseat later. You can take the front with Welf, and maybe even Daphne too. Mikoto blinked. Oh, really? The familia captain nodded. We all need a break. That way none of us will be overworked, nor will we be sidelined. Daphne hummed. That's actually not a bad idea. The blacksmith smiled dryly. Well, I guess we'll have to try it then. Aisha chuckled. Don't worry. If you fall, well, that's that. Welf sighed and shook his head in exasperation, of course. Bell looked around. Anyway, we're somewhat in the middle of the floor, so we should take a quick breather while Lily and Cassandra collect the magic stones. Everyone nodded, but before they could, a screech reached their ears, followed by a faint but audible scream. Bell's eyes widened in attention, and evidently everyone heard it too. Mikoto reached for her sword. Did everyone hear dash? Before she could finish her words, their captain was already gone, and Daphne grumbled. Damn it. Aisha sighed. Let's go after him. Welf and Daphne, stay here and look after the others. Mikoto, you're with me. The samurai nodded and followed her fellow swordswoman after their captain. With Bell, the boy dashed through the thick forests, leaping up onto the thick tree branches to boost his speed. In the blink of an eye, Bell had already put in a sizable amount of distance between himself and his party. That also meant he was nearing the source of the scream. The boy leaped off another branch, and he heard the screech again. This time, he recognized it, the screech of a firebird. Sure enough, the boy quickly spotted one in front of him, chasing after someone. Bell took a deep breath. Load. Ushiwa Kamaru. Yusamidori appeared in his hands, and the boy dashed forward in a burst of speed. In the blink of an eye, the monster exploded into a shower of gore and ash, and Bell landed on the ground. A whimper reached his ears, and the boy turned to see the person he had just saved. Bell began, Are you Okadash? He froze, simply because the person before him wasn't a person at all. No, it had pale almost blue skin, with pointy ears, long silver blue hair and amber eyes. A handful of scales covered parts of its body, and a single red gem rested on its forehead. Despite not having the lower body of a snake and the wings, Bell was sure the figure before him was a Vuivra. But what stopped him in his tracks was the numerous wounds on its body. They were bruises, cuts, and scratches, some of which Bell recognized to be from blades, and some that looked like they were from monsters. It was as if the Vuivra had been attacked by monsters and adventurers alike. That wasn't to mention its expression. Tears threatened to fall from its eyes, and those eyes also held something Bell came to know very well. Fear and despair. If Bell didn't know better, he could have sworn that this was a human disguised as a monster. But it wasn't, no. This was in fact a monster, not a human. So how was it that the Vuivra was trembling in fear? How was it that it had tears threatening to fall? But before Bell could ponder on those thoughts any further, another screech reached his ears. Another firebird. Bell turned almost immediately, but before he could strike, his eyes widened. Simply because the flaming bird had its beak wide open, its flaming breath ready to burn down the pair. The boy stopped thinking, and instead acted on instinct. Load. Imaiwai. Swapping Ushiwa Kamaru for the counter-guardian, Bell raised his right arm. Set. Faker Cho AIS. 7 petals formed before them, and the Vuivra's eyes widened in awe at the sheer beauty of the barrier as it held strong against the blast of flames. The shield disappeared as soon as it appeared, and Bell wasted not a moment to draw the Hestia knife, not bothering to trace a weapon this time. In the blink of an eye, the firebird exploded in yet another shower of gore and ash. The boy took a deep breath, his back growing warm and heavy as he quickly realized what he had just done. Memories from Imawai's life surfaced, and flashes of a girl with purple hair and a girl with white hair came to mind. It wasn't wrong to help others. Bell took a deep breath and stood up, and he turned to the Vuivre. But before he could move, voices reached his ears. Where the fuck did that Vuivre go? Find it. Now. His eyes stayed on the monster before him, and as soon as they heard those voices, her eyes widened with fear. Bell quickly knew she was being hunted. Bell gritted his teeth, and he made his decision. Load. Gilgamesh. He felt an uncomfortable feeling, as if the king disapproved of his intentions, but the boy pushed them down, quickly summoning a black robe and threw it over the Vuivre. Bell spoke calmly. Cover yourself, especially your fingers. The monster looked confused, but also still scared, and she quickly obeyed. Hey you. Bell stood up to see a group of adventurers approaching him, led by a bald man with a tattoo on his face. Grant scowled at him. Happen to see a Vuivre around here? Bell met his gaze, and he put himself between the Vuivre and the men. No, but do you have a potion? My friend here was badly burnt by a firebird, and I just ran out. Grant glanced at the hooded figure next to the boy, and he clicked his teeth in annoyance. That's not my problem. Let's go. He barked at his companions, and the group quickly went further into the forests. The boy let out a breath, and he summoned a potion from his treasury. Here. The Vuivre blinked, but before she could react, Bell uncorked the vial and helped the monster down it in one go. In almost no time, her wounds vanished, and the Vuivre could only blink in surprise. She looked down at her hands, her legs. Every cut and scratch, every bruise was gone. Bell nodded to himself in satisfaction, before he let out a breath. Now. Before he could continue his line of thought, Makoto's voice reached his ears. Belldano. The boy stiffened. Before he looked at Vuivre, keep yourself hidden, don't make any sound. Okay? The Vuivre nodded shakily, and Bell turned to see Aisha and Makoto. The Amazoness sighed. By the gods, how are you so fast? The boy smiled. Well? Makoto noticed the hooded figure behind their captain, Belldano. Who's this? Bell followed her gaze, and his features steeled. She was attacked by a firebird. Aisha hummed. Is that so? The boy nodded. Let's call it a day here. We should go back to the 18th floor at least. Makoto nodded. All right. Bell glanced at the Vuivre. Let's go. The four walked back to where they'd left the rest of their party, and as they walked, Bell made sure he was at the back with the monster behind him. It was going to be a pain when he had to explain himself. A short while later, the group was back on the 18th floor. Lily set her bag down and turned to their captain. So, Bell-sama, care to explain? Did your hero complex kick in again? The boy chuckled. Well, yes. Welf chuckled in exasperation. I knew it. Daphne snorted. Do you even know her name? Bell shook her head. She was burned pretty badly by a firebird. I gave her a potion from Gilgamesh's treasury, but I think she's still traumatized by it. Cassandra looked at the hooded girl with sympathy. How cruel. Haruheim nodded in agreement. There must be something we can do to help. Makoto smiled. Perhaps we can ask Miyake-sama for help. All the while as they discussed, Aisha studied the hooded girl, and she asked, that's good and all, but shouldn't we at least know who she is? She sighed as she approached the Vuivre. I know she's got burns, but we should at least know who we're helping. Bell's eyes widened. Wait, Aisha sa-. The monster panicked when the Amazoness neared her, and she took a step back, stumbling as she backed away in panic. In her panic, she also tripped over the uneven ground, and she fell on her back, the hood falling off as she landed on the ground. Bell froze, as the Vuivre's face was shown to his companions, and before he realized it, he moved. Load. Imawai. Aisha quickly found the boy between herself and the monster, and by then, everyone was already on alert. Lily had her crossbow locked and loaded, and Welf, Makoto, and Daphne all had their weapons in hand. Cassandra and Haruheim, on the other hand, both looked more shocked than anything. The Amazoness stared at the white-haired hero calmly. What is the meaning of this, Bell? The boy met her gaze firmly, but as soon as he did, he almost faltered. Lily yelled, get out of the way, Bell-sama. Do you know what you're doing? Aisha started. I'm not one to kink shame, but getting one of them from the wild is just dash. Bell cut her off. It's not like that. He trailed off, and Lily took the chance to speak up again. Bell-sama. That's a monster. They're enemies of humanity. Welf tightened his grip on his sword. Move away, Bell. Makoto stood in front of Haruheim protectively. Belldano, please. Daphne and Cassandra, on the other hand, watched silently, studying their captain. The boy fell silent. Before he took a deep breath, enemies of humanity. Memories of a different time, a different world surfaced in his mind. Memories not from pan-human history, but a lost icy world. Memories made possible simply because a version of Atlanta had been summoned there. Memories that he only caught a glimpse of now that he had met the Vuivre before him. And who made that decision? Bell's words shocked his fellow familia members, and Haruheim asked, Bell-sama, did something happen between you and her? The boy nodded. Yes, she dash. This is madness, Bell-sama. If you won't listen to reason. Lily cut them off and fired her crossbow at the Vuivre. But before the arrow could reach the monster, Belle's lips moved. Trace, on. A sword cut the arrow down, stabbing into the ground, and everyone stared in shock as a dozen blades appeared around Belle and the monster. Aisha narrowed her eyes, noting that all of the blades were aimed at the ground, but she knew if need be, they could turn in the blink of an eye. You're serious? Belle took a deep breath. Yeah, I am. Mikoto spoke up, tightening her grip on her sword. Beldano, please, calm down. The boy looked at every one of his fellow familia members. I am calm, but if none of you will let me explain. The swords around him vibrated with power, but before they could continue, they heard a voice from the Vuivra. Belle. Everyone, even Aisha blinked in surprise, and Daphne couldn't help but voice her surprise. Did it just talk? Belle turned to the Vuivra, and he knelt down. What did you just? The monster's lips moved again, this time with more clarity. Belle. The boy nodded. Yes, that is my name. The Vuivra spoke again. Belle, your name is. Belle? Mikoto gaped. It talked. Welf could only stare in shock. You've got to be shitting me. Haraheim stepped forward. Belle-sama, would you mind continuing what you were saying? Aisha blinked when the Renard stood beside her, not afraid of the fact that there were a dozen swords poised at them. Haraheim. Belle looked at the blonde, and he nodded. She was attacked, by both monsters and adventurers alike. The boy glanced back at the monster, but more importantly, she was crying, afraid, and alone. Lily frowned. And that justifies what you're doing? Belle nodded, meeting the gazes of his companions. Yes. It is not wrong to help others. The Prum tightened her grip on her crossbow. If this gets out to the public, we, the Hestia Familia, will be done for. The boy stared back at her firmly. It won't. I won't let it happen. Lily looked like she wanted to argue more, but in the end simply let out a deep sigh and lowered her crossbow. Oh, for the love of. Fine, do whatever you want. Daphne sighed in exasperation. Let's say we go along with it. What do you plan to do? Belle? The white-haired rabbit looked at her. For now, we bring her back to our home. I want to find out exactly what's going on first, why she can speak like a normal human being. Welf nodded. I see, that sounds fair. Aisha asked, can't we just leave her here in the dungeon? Belle shook his head. No, if we leave her here, she'll be attacked by adventurers and monsters. It's too risky. Mikoto asked, do you think Hestia-sama and Artemis-sama will allow it? Lily and Welf gave her a blank look, and the blacksmith asked, why do you think they won't? Daphne chuckled. Yeah, I'm sure they will if it's Belle asking. The boy shook his head. I don't know. If they don't agree, I'll just have to find another way, probably even ask Mamma Mia for help. Welf palmed his face. I seriously doubt that dwarf will allow it. But you do, I guess. Aisha sighed. By the gods, all right, if Hestia-sama and Artemis-sama don't allow it, I should have a place in the entertainment district. Belle blinked. Really? You do that? The Amazoness snorted. Of course, you seem pretty determined to help her already anyway. The boy nodded. Yeah, I guess I am. Daphne sighed. Guess we're doing this then. She sheathed her sword, and everyone else took the hint and put away their weapons. Belle let out a deep breath as he dispelled the projected swords. Thank you, all of you. Line break. Sometime later, Belle and his group waited until night fell before they left the dungeon. Now, they were back in their mansion. Hestia sighed as she stared at the Vuivra that was sat next to Belle. For fuck's sake, to think you'd bring a monster back. Artemis studied the blue-haired monster, and one that can talk too. Belle nodded. Yeah, I want to look after her for now. The goddess of the hearth sighed. I don't know. Whether she can talk or not, in the end she's still a monster. The goddess of the hunt nodded. True, if this gets out, it won't be pretty. Lily sighed. I knew it. The boy didn't back down. Hestia-sama, does the hearth not accept all? And Artemis-sama, she may be a monster, but it doesn't change the fact that she is a part of this world. The two goddesses blinked in surprise, and Hestia sighed, if you put it that way. Artemis shook her head with an exasperated smile. You got us there, but we never said anything about not taking her in. Belle blinked. Wait, what? The goddess of the hearth looked at the Vuivra sitting close to Belle to the point she might as well be cuddling up to him. Look, a talking monster is not something I'd think I'd see, but when you see how frightened she is, I guess we can't say no. Artemis snorted. And you already brought her in. It's probably not worth the trouble sending her back into the dungeon. Hestia nodded. Then that settles it. We'll look after her for now. The boy let out a breath. Thank you. The goddess of the moon smiled in amusement as she folded her arms. Anyway, does she have a name? Belle blinked. A name? Artemis nodded. We can't just call her a Vuivra every time, right? Hestia looked at the monster. Do you have a name? The Vuivra didn't meet her eyes, and instead leaned into Belle. Name. Belle. Said boy smiled awkwardly. That's my name. Daphne hummed. Well, it makes sense she wouldn't have one. She wouldn't have a reason for one. Cassandra asked. Then should we give her a name? Welf sighed as he sat down on a chair. Belle should name her then. Aisha raised an amused eyebrow. What? You don't want to pitch in? The blacksmith snorted. Leave me alone. Besides, it was him who wanted to bring her up. He should name her. Belle hummed. I guess. He looked down at the monster. Is there a name you prefer? The Vuivra just tilted her head. Belle? Everyone chuckled/sighed at her reaction, and Lily asked, How about you just give her a name, Belsama? The white-haired rabbit closed his eyes. How about Velusine? Everyone blinked at his suggestion, and Haraheim sighed. Belsama, did you just change the M in Melusine to a W? The boy smiled. Yes, I did. Is it not okay? The Renard massaged her temples. No, it's okay, but... Lily sighed. I guess for Belsama, that's a pretty good name. Aisha chuckled. But for a monster, that's still a pretty long name. Welf nodded. Pretentious too. Makoto nodded in agreement. Pretentious. Daphne palmed her face. You've got the memories of so many heroes. Surely you'd have a better and more practical name in mind? Cassandra just giggled at their reactions. Belle's smile turned force. Look, her blue skin just reminded me of the legends of the Melusine spirits. So? Artemis smiled in exasperation. I think something simpler will be better. No? The boy folded his arms. Then, how about Zoe? The goddess of the hunt dropped her smile. If that meant to be a joke, it's not funny. Belle shook his arms frantically. It was just an idea. We'll call her something else. Hestia snorted in amusement. Before she hummed, we can still use Belkuin's idea. Maybe just shorten it. The boy blinked. Shorten it. Like Ween. The busted goddess grinned. Bingo, that's it. The Weaver blinked. Ween. Is that my name? Belle nodded, if you're okay with it. The newly named Ween beamed. Ween. I like it. My name is Ween. Everyone smiled at her reaction, even Lily, and Hestia asked, So, what do you want to do now, Belkuin? The white rabbit leaned into the sofa. For now, I want to find out what's going on, see if anyone knows why Ween can speak. Lily nodded. Leave that to me. Belle nodded. Thank you, Lily. But try to keep a low profile. I don't want this to go out so quickly. The Prum snorted. Who do you think I am? The boy smiled. I'll be counting on you. Lily grinned. Of course. Makoto hummed. I can ask Takamikazuchi-sama if he knows anything. Hestia nodded. Do that. I'll ask Hephaestus if she knows anything. Daphne folded her arms. I can try asking some former Apollo Familia members, but I'm not confident if they'll be willing. Belle nodded. Only the ones we can trust. It's okay if you can't find anything. The redhead nodded. Okay. Aisha spoke up. You know, come to think of it, Ishtar might have an idea. Everyone looked at her, and Artemis asked, Really? The Amazoness nodded. Potentially, anyway. We used to dabble a bit in, well, poaching monsters. Never really understood why, but if monsters like Ween exist, that makes a lot more sense. Belle nodded. We'll ask her as well then. Aisha, Haraheim, and I can go look for her tomorrow. He looked at everyone. Try to gather information however you can, but be discreet. We don't want this to spread outside those we trust. Welf asked, what about the Loki Familia and Freya Familia? Belle looked at Ween. Before he answered, no, make sure they don't know. Especially the Loki Familia. If we need to, I'll go to them myself. Line break. Meanwhile, beneath the guild, Auranus sat in his throne, silently continuing his prayers to the dungeon. We have a problem, Auranus. The god opened his eyes to see the familiar hooded figure of his companion. What is it? Fels? Fels answered, a monster with intelligence came into contact with some adventurers, and they have left the dungeon. Auranus raised an eyebrow. And who are these adventurers? Fels? The hooded figure responded, the Hestia Familia, or more specifically, Cranel. The god hummed, the heir to the throne of heroes. Fels nodded. What do you want to do? If this goes on, he might wipe them out. Auranus raised an eyebrow. And why would you think so? Anyone else wouldn't see it, but years of knowing the sage allowed the god to easily read Fels' emotions, and the sage was panicking. Fels answered, Cranel is the heir to the throne of heroes. He might deem the monsters to be a nuisance in his quest to be a hero. Auranus hummed, like how Fin Dame would. The hooded figure nodded. Yes. The god closed his eyes, but at the same time, he may become their greatest hope too. Fels frowned under his hood. It is but a chance. It's too risky. Auranus snorted humorlessly. As risky as us supporting them? I think not. This might be worth a try. The sage scowled. Auranus, you can't be seriously dash. The god cut him off. For now, we watch them. I trust LYD and the others do not know of this monster's existence. Fels shook his head. No, they already do. I notified them when I realized her existence on the 19th floor. Auranus hummed. Then it can't be helped. We'll still watch the Hestia Familia. I want to see if they can become their hope. The sage fell silent. Very well. Line break. The next day, as everyone went around gathering information, Belle, Haraheim, and Aisha were in the Balit Babili once more. Ishtar sat in her office, blowing out a stream of smoke. So, to what do I owe the visit? Belle stared at the goddess. I have a question, Ishtar. The goddess of fertility raised an eyebrow. What is it? The heir to the throne asked, do you know anything about monsters that can speak? Ishtar blinked. Monsters that can speak? Belle nodded, or well, ones with intelligence. The goddess blinked, before she laughed. Now this is a good one. Monsters that can speak or are intelligent. Aisha stepped forward. Ishtar, we used to hunt and capture monsters from the dungeon. Surely dash. Ishtar held a hand up. Unfortunately, Cranel, I don't have the answers you seek. Not all of them. Belle narrowed his eyes. But you do know something. The goddess nodded. I don't know a lot, but I do know they exist. The boy nodded. Go on. Ishtar hummed, my familia used to have connections with other not so, shall we say, pleasant familias. They were into trafficking monsters, you see. Everyone listened as she continued. A while back one of the other gods asked me about whether monsters would sell well as sex slaves. Ishtar snorted, what a joke, or at least, I thought it was. But imagine my surprise when they brought them before me, sirens, mermaids, arachnes, and even vuivres. The goddess chuckled when she saw their expressions. Ah, so you've seen one of them. Aisha asked, why have we never seen or heard of them? Ishtar snorted, I only had Fern or Tammuz deal with that sort of transactions, and they usually brought the monsters to me to evaluate. Haraheim blinked, evaluate? The goddess nodded, to see if they were suitable to be sold as sex slaves and the lot. Fortunately, I know at least one person for every fetish out there, so they always had a customer for them. Bel narrowed his eyes. Who are these familias? Ishtar raised her arms in a surrendering manner. All right, calm your tits. I stopped dealing with them the moment that Hayes came into play. I'd rather we keep it that way, okay. The boy stared at her, but you can at least tell me who they are. The goddess scoffed, and risk my life? I don't really care if I stay in Gekai anymore, but they are a nasty lot, and I'd rather not be sent to the reincarnation cycle. Besides, I don't even know if they still do it. Ishtar and Bel stared at each other for a good moment, and the boy decided it wasn't worth the effort. Bel sighed, fine, let's get back to those monsters. Do you know more? Ishtar shook her head, unfortunately. No. I only know they exist, but where to find them, and how to find them, that is beyond me. The boy took the chance to breathe. I see. Thank you, Ishtar. The goddess snorted. Think nothing of it, but you've piqued my interest. Why do you want to know? He turned to the door. That's none of your business. We're leaving. Haraheim and Aisha nodded, and they started to follow him, until Ishtar spoke up again. The look on your face, you're planning on doing something stupid, aren't you? Bel looked back at her. What do you mean? Ishtar smirked when she saw his face again. Yep, you are. This will be interesting. The boy frowned. What are you talking about? The goddess chuckled. Let me know if you need help, all right? Bel looked more confused than anything, and he nodded. I'll keep it in mind. With that said, the boy and the two women left. As soon as they did, Ishtar chuckled to herself. Well, I guess I didn't have to be worried after all. If things turn out well, I might be free of them both. Thanatos and I close. Line break. At the same time, Lily had her magic on, disguised as a short elf with a white hood on. The prum in disguise walked down the stairs into an underground bar, and she calmly sat down in front of the counter. A glass of Alv's pure water, please. The bartender gave her a look, before pouring a glass of Alv water and slid it to her. In response, Lily dropped some Valis on the countertop. Do you have any information on speaking monsters? The bartender took a clean glass and wiped it with a cloth. No, I don't. The prum in disguise took a sip from the glass. What about people who might? The bartender glanced to his side, where a Chianthrope sat. As if on cue, the Chianthrope inched closer with a knowing grin. That would be me. Lily quickly recognized Lillian, and she spoke in recognition. Madel. Lillian blinked in surprise. Oh, you know me? The prum asked, what do you know about the monsters? The Chianthrope giggled, a bit. She looked at the bartender. A mug of honeymead, please. The man nodded and filled a mug, placing it in front of her. Lillian took the mug. But well, I'd like to tell you, but my memory's a bit foggy. I'll need something to jog my memory, if you catch my drift. Lily sighed and dumped a small pouch of coins on the table. The Chianthrope's smile widened. There have been news, or at least rumors, of voices in the dungeon. The elf raised an eyebrow. Voices? Lillian nodded as she took the pouch of money. Voices. Some adventurers heard voices in the dungeon, even when they're alone, apparently. Lily nodded, processing that information, and the Chianthrope continued, and moreover, there's a group of people looking for information on these monsters, like you. The prum in disguise asked, people other than me? Who are they? Lillian shrugged, no idea. I want to know too, really. Lily hummed, back to the monsters, do you know where I can find them? The Chianthrope shook her head, unfortunately, I don't know. But rumors are that the voices can be heard in the middle floors. The prum nodded, I see. Lillian grinned as she leaned in. Speaking of which, you're an unfamiliar face. What mob are you with? Lily took that as a sign to leave, and she jumped off the stool without another word. The Chianthrope blinked. Wait, you're leaving already? The prum didn't bother responding, and instead vanished into an alley using her magic. Lillian tried to give chase, but with Lily changing her form multiple times, the Chianthrope quickly lost track of her. The member of the Hermes Familia frowned. What a pain. I gave out more than I planned to, and I couldn't find who it was. Hermes-sama won't be happy. Chapter 33. Author note. Hey, I'm back with a new chapter. It's been a while. I've been mostly busy with work. Managed to get Acheron on Star Rail and the Haibot Trung on FGO2, so that's also kept me busy a bit. But we're here with a new chapter. Arctic 04, that is a good one. We'll definitely keep it in mind. El Salvatore Darkness, Vlad 3 is someone I'm still debating on. I already have most of the heroic spirits decided, but we'll see. Demon of Wrath, the heroic spirits you listed are all possible. Solomon or Goetia is also possible, considering they are considered to be accessible through the Throne of Heroes. But those are extreme cases that are dependent on the situation. If Belle is desperate or despairs enough, we might see a beast or something totally different. Anime fan 13579. Now interesting you brought up the labyrinth. I was looking into how I can incorporate Asterios' fate into this, and his noble phantasm in theory can overlap with Gnosis. I believe it has been done in FGO before in one of the events, but I might be wrong. We also already have Theseus in FGO, so that would be another option. Daisic, no lemons in this story, mate. Axel Allen, now Dix is a level 5, and Asterios Xenos is shown to be able to fight some of the Loki Familia on even grounds, at least until Ace 1 Avenger mode. So if we are to look at what Belle can do, short answer, yes. Long answer, it depends on the situation and if Belle overloads multiple heroic spirits or just the one. But it is definitely possible. Maze, now I'm glad you think so. But I'm pretty sure I have a long way to go. Glad you liked the story so far though. Anyways, here's the newest chapter. XXX. The next morning, Belle was in the kitchen with an apron, skillfully dicing up some onions. Belle, what are you doing? Ween's voice reached his ears, and the boy didn't need to turn to know that the Vuivre was right behind him. The boy smiled as he put the diced onions away and brought out some ham. I'm making breakfast. Ween looked confused. Break, fast. Belle nodded. Yes. What do you like to eat, Ween? The monster blinked. What I like to eat. Ween hummed. I don't know. The boy blinked, and he chuckled. Then we'll have to fix that, don't we? The Vuivre didn't quite understand what he meant, but she still smiled anyway. Okay. Ween then leaned forward. But what are you doing now? Is this all for breakfast? Belle nodded. Yeah, I'm making English breakfast today. We'll be having eggs, ham, sausages, and beans with mushrooms and tomatoes. He paused. I should make some hash browns too. Ween tilted her head in confusion. Hash browns? The boy chuckled. I think you'll like them. The monster just looked more confused than anything, but she quickly went back to looking at the boy cooking with interest. Soon, Belle started to fry the hash browns and meat, and Ween's eyes widened when the smell hit her. This smells nice. The boy chuckled. Would you like a taste? Ween nodded excitedly. Can I? Belle smiled and cut a small piece of ham and bacon, placing it on a small plate. Here. The Vuivre quickly bit into the food, before she stared at Belle with glowing eyes. Can I have more? The boy chucked. Nope, I'm not done cooking yet, and we have to wait until everyone is here before we can eat, okay? Ween's face immediately dropped in disappointment, and Belle felt like he had kicked a puppy. The white-haired rabbit could almost feel the heroes engraved on his back laughing at him, and he refused to look at the Vuivre. Nope, Belle refused to give in. He would not. Line break. A short while later, Belle and the rest of his familia sat at the dining table, enjoying their breakfast. Ween, as expected, devoured the food before her with frightening speeds. Welf sighed. Belle's cooking strikes again. Huh? Lily snorted, like you want to talk. The blacksmith ignored the prum as he went through his plate at a decent speed. Aisha snorted. Well, you might be the first one to tame a monster through food then, Captain. Belle chuckled. Perhaps, but Ween's unique anyway. Daphne nodded. But it would be interesting to see if we can tame monsters with Belle's food. Makoto nodded enthusiastically. Agreed. Haraheim giggled. It may very well be a potential legend to be passed down to the future generations. Cassandra nodded in agreement. I like that idea. We can even publish it. Hestia laughed. Now this will be fun. The heir to the throne of heroes will be remembered for his cooking. Belle sighed in exasperation. To be fair, it's not even my own talent in the first place, you know? Artemis chuckled. Just accept it. In this world, you might as well be those heroes themselves. The boy just shook his head before he asked, so we didn't really get the chance to regroup last night, did we? Everyone looked at him in attention, and Welf spoke. I went to the guild, and I couldn't find anything about talking monsters. But I did hear that there are some monsters stealing adventurer equipment. Belle hummed. I see. It might be related, might not be, but that's something we should keep an eye out for. Hestia spoke up. I asked Hephaestus. Unfortunately, she didn't know anything. The boy nodded. That's fine. Anyone else? Daphne shook her head. None of the people I asked had any idea either. Lily spoke up. I couldn't find much too. They're mostly rumors about voices on the middle floors of the dungeon. Makoto nodded. Same here. The boy folded his arms. This is annoying. Artemis asked, what about your end? Did Ishtar know anything? Aisha answered, she did. But only that they exist, not much about their whereabouts. Hestia hummed, so we only know monsters with intelligence exist, but no more than that. Belle nodded, I suppose. Daphne looked at him. What do we want to do? Everyone looked at the boy, and he let out a short breath. I think we should go back to the 19th floor. Belle looked at Ween, but I want to have Ween stay here. Lily nodded, so only some of us will go, is that right? The boy nodded, exactly. He looked at Aisha, can you stay here and look after the home? The Amazoness raised an eyebrow before she nodded, sure, I don't mind sitting this one out. The white-haired rabbit nodded, thanks, so it'll be myself, Welf, Lily, Makoto, and Daphne. Cassandra asked, so, I'm not going? Belle shook his head, no, not this time. We're going to rush all the way to the 18th floor in one shot. The smaller the group, the better. The healer nodded, oh okay. When asked with a piece of ham in her mouth, B Bell? ARR? You going away? Bell smiled. Talk after you've swallowed your food, please. The Weaver blinked before she quickly chewed and swallowed. Bell, are you going away? The boy nodded. Yes, but only for a bit. Well fast. So, when do we leave? Bell looked at his teammates. We leave now. Line break. A short while later, Bell and his group were on the 18th floor. The boy stopped outside Rivera before he looked at his group. All right, before we go in, I want all of you to remember, we're here to look for clues for intelligent monsters. Everyone nodded, and Bell continued. Unless they attack first, I want you to avoid fighting any of them. Lily's eyes widened. Bell-sama, what are you dash? The boy cut her off. Look, we can't be sure if the monsters we've been killing are intelligent. And I don't want to risk burning any bridges before we can build them. For Ween's sake. The prum blinked, but before she could voice her concerns, Welf nodded. All right, gotcha. Lily gaped. Welf-sama. Daphne nodded. It does make sense, but if they attack, all bets are off. Bell nodded, of course. Makoto hummed. Very well. Beldano, we'll do as you say. The prum sighed. Fine. It's not like I can do much anyway. The boy nodded. Thank you. Bell turned to the entrance to the 19th floor. Let's go. After a short while, Bell and his group were in the forest on the 19th floor. The boy looked around, trying to look for clues that would lead them to their answers. As they walked, Makoto asked, Beldano, how are we going to know what we're looking for? Daphne looked at them. Yeah, the dungeon heals itself every day. We don't even know where you met Ween. Bell smiled. Actually, I have an idea where we found her. Welf blinked. You do? The boy nodded. Follow me. The group made their way through the forests, and sure enough, they reached where they had found the Vuivra. Everyone quickly went to look around, and Makoto spoke. I don't see anything that would help us. Lily sighed. Of course, if they were truly intelligent, they wouldn't leave hints out in the open just like that. Bell nodded. But that doesn't mean we can't keep looking. Daphne nodded. You're not wrong. Before they could continue, Lily spoke up. Bell-sama. The boy looked at her. What is it? The prum pointed in a direction. There. Bell followed her line of sight, and his eyes narrowed when he saw a hooded figure moving through the trees. Daphne asked, What do we do, Bell? The boy spoke. Leave this to me. He started to walk forward, and Makoto spoke up warningly, her palm on her sword. Beldano. Welf grabbed her by the wrist. Wait, remember what Bell said? The samurai looked at him, and was about to argue, before she sighed and nodded. Right, sorry. By now, the hooded figure had stopped, as if waiting for Bell to approach. The boy asked, Who are you? The hooded figure seemed to study Bell and his group, before a female voice reached their ears. The smell of my brethren. It lingers around you. Bell narrowed his eyes. Your brethren. Are you dash? The hooded figure cut him off. White hair, red eyes. You are the one Fells warned us of. The boy blinked in confusion. Fells. She paid his question no heed. Hero of human order, do you believe we can coexist? Bell's eyes widened, before he took a deep breath. I do. His answer seemed to surprise her, and she asked again, even if we are enemies of humanity? Bell stared at her. Are you? Enemies of humankind? The hooded figure fell silent, before she answered, You kill us, and we kill you. Does that not make us enemies? Is that not our fate? The boy responded, No, our fate can change. The hooded monster asked again, How can you be so sure? Bell stared at her firmly. We can understand each other, if we try. She smiled under her hood. Thank you. You have given me hope, and a lot to think about. The hooded figure backed away, but before she could leave, Bell called out, Wait. She looked at him. What is it? Bell noticed the slitted pupils and what looked like blue hair. Are there more of you? Monsters that can speak. The figure smiled under her hood. Yes, there is. The boy started. We have a dash. She cut him off. Now is not the time, nor is it the place. Our enemies still lurk in these forests. Bell's eyes widened. What do you mean? She shook her head. This is all the time I have for now. We will meet again soon, hero. I hope to learn of your names the next time we meet. With that said, the hooded figure leaped into the air and vanished into the trees. Everyone watched in surprise and shock as blue feathers fell from where the hooded figure vanished. Lily walked up to Bell. Bell-sama, what was that? The boys stared at the tree where their new friend had disappeared. If what she said is true, then Ween won't be alone. In fact, there might be a lot of them out there, in hiding. Bell let out a deep breath. Come on, we found what we needed. Let's go home. Daphne blinked. Wait, that's all? The boy nodded. Yeah, and what she said. Enemies lurk in these forests. I don't want to stay here any longer than we need to. No one had any reasons to stay here, so they followed their leader out of the dungeon quickly. Line break. A while later in the evening, Bell and his two goddesses were in their office again. Hestia hummed, I see. So potentially there's a group of intelligent monsters just like Weenkuin out there. And they're in the dungeon. Bell nodded. Yeah, I want to seek them out, figure out what is happening. If Artemis recognized the look on his face, and she asked worriedly, Bell, what did you see from your memories? The heir to the throne let out a sigh. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that these monsters are like us. They speak, they feel, they live. The two goddesses shared a look, before the goddess of the moon asked, You seem very invested in helping Wayne. Why? Belle sat down on the sofa, Artemis-sama. What do you think if news of talking monsters went out to the public? Artemis answered almost immediately, panic and outrage. The boy nodded. People fear what they don't understand, and adventurers are not the best people. They will almost certainly try to kill them off. Hestia nodded, but you don't like that. Belle clasped his hands. Enemies of humanity, enemies of humankind, of human order. That's what Lily called them. That's what that monster called themselves. The goddess of the hearth hummed. You don't agree? The boy shook his head. Human order. Humanity. What does it mean to be human? To simply be humanoid? To look like a person? But a human isn't just about looking the part. He looked at the two goddesses. We are human because we act human. We feel. We eat. We live. Just like Ween does. Hestia sighed. You've really thought about this, haven't you? Belle nodded. When I saw Ween, all those memories just came rushing. And now I know. There are others like Ween out there. Artemis asked, what do you plan to do now? The boy sighed. I'm not too sure. We know that there are more of them out there, potentially a group of them. Hestia asked, do you want to bring Ween to them? Belle shook his head. No, not yet. I don't know if they will take her in. It is likely, considering she called Ween her brethren. He closed his eyes, and not to mention, that person mentioned something about enemies. That means someone else knows they exist, and possibly are against them. Hestia nodded, folding her arms. That is concerning. Artemis nodded. If this enemy finds out about Ween, then they'll probably come after her too. Belle nodded. That's why I want to be careful. For now. The two goddesses nodded, and the goddess of the hearth spoke. All right, we'll lay low for now then. Artemis nodded. Before she looked at the clock, speaking of which, aren't you going to be late? The boy's eyes widened. Shit. Belle dashed for the door. Thanks, Artemis-sama. I'll be back later. The two goddesses just watched in amusement as the boy dashed out of their home. Line break. A short while later, Belle, with Deion's powers active, reached the restaurant. You're late. The white-haired rabbit grimaced as the dwarf's voice reached her ears. Sorry. Mia scowled. I don't want to hear it. Now get this to table 10. She slammed a plate of fried fish onto the counter, and Bella quickly took it and brought it over to the designated table. As she quickly worked, Syr giggled. Tough day? Bella sighed as she went to clean a table. More like a long day. The silver-haired waitress asked her sister, what happened? The hero in disguise shook her head. Not now. Syr puffed her cheeks. Fine. Be like that. She turned and went to guide more customers to a table. Bella giggled. Before she went to take more orders for another table. Hi. What can I get you today? Yes. Can I get 2 plates of fried rice, a porterhouse steak, and Mia's special spaghetti? The white-haired rabbit noticed who it was, and her smile strained. Sure. Simply because the people at the table were Bet, Loki, Lafia, and Ace, and the goddess was giving her a knowing and smug grin. Loki knew. As if on cue, Bet's nose twitched, and he looked at Bella suspiciously. Hey, I never really realized it, but you smell like the rabbit. Her eyes widened ever so slightly. H, huh? The werewolf smirked. Are you his chick or something? Lafia's eyes widened. H his chick? W what? The white-haired girl almost sighed in relief. I'm not sure who you're talking about, but you must be mistaken. I don't have a partner. Bet stared at her skeptically. Sure. Whatever. Bella took that as a chance to leave. I'll be putting in your order now, so it shouldn't be long. With that said, the white-haired girl swiftly made her way to the counter before moving on to serve other customers. After a short while, Bella and the others were cleaning up the shop. As they worked, Syr asked, so, Belle-san, you've been training with Ryuu at your Familia home a bit recently, right? Bella put some chairs away. Yeah, why? The silver-haired girl smiled. And tomorrow's the usual day you train, yes? The white-haired girl nodded. Yes, that's correct. Syr asked, almost shyly, can I come and watch? I'm doing the night shift tomorrow. Bella was about to say yes, until she quickly remembered Ween being at their home. The white-haired girl recollected herself, actually. I won't be able to make it for the training tomorrow either. Ryuu, who was nearby, raised an eyebrow as she wiped some tables. Oh, did something happen? Bella nodded. Yeah. She debated if she should come clean, but in the end decided against it. Something came up. Syr pouted. Ah. The white-haired waitress looked at her friend. But I mean, you can definitely come next time. The silver-haired goddess in disguise instantly beamed. Yay. Lonwar snorted. Get a room, please. The 3 of you. Chloe nodded. Agreed, Naya. Bella and Ria's faces reddened, while Syr was simply too happy to care. As they worked, the elf studied her training partner, and she hid a frown. Soon, they finished their shifts, and as Belle was about to leave his room from the pub, he heard Ria's voice. Belle. The boy turned to see the elf, now dressed in a simple long white and green dress. Ryu-san, what is it? The elf studied his expression. Is something troubling you? Belle paused. Troubling me? Ryu nodded. If there is anything on your mind, you can tell me. The boy opened his mouth, but the moment he did, the reactions of his Familia members when they saw Ween came to mind. Belle shook his head. It's nothing. Don't worry about it. The elf furrowed her brows. Belle dash. The boy cut her off. It's nothing, Ryu-san. Thanks for asking, though. With that said, Belle left the building, and the elf could only watch as her friend went back to his home, reassigned to herself, before she went back to sleep. Line break. With Bell, the boy made his way through the streets of Oreo for the Hearth Mansion, until an unfamiliar voice caught his attention. Why, if it isn't the heir to the throne of heroes? Fancy seeing you here. The boy looked onward to see a god with dark blue hair wearing what looked like a jumper. Bell immediately felt Gilgamesh's presence on his back, warning him. The boy asked, "Who are you?" The god smirked. "Oh dear, on guard immediately? You don't have to be so stiff, you know?" He slowly walked towards the boy, but well, guess I can't blame you. We're pretty dodgy, aren't we? Us gods, I mean. Bell frowned, as the king of heroes' annoyance seeped through. No shit. What do you want? Ikelo's smirk widened. Is that Gilgamesh's aura I can feel? Guess I gotta be careful, eh? The white-haired rabbit felt uneasy, as if something was off, and Gilgamesh's annoyance wasn't helping. Talk. What do you want? The god chuckled. Name's Ikelos, and one of my kids using me to do some fishing. See? Ikelos mimicked the act of fishing with his hands, and Bell simply narrowed his eyes. Okay. The god smirked. You wouldn't happen to know anything about a talking Vuivra, would you? Bell's face steeled, and he could feel Gilgamesh's presence screaming at him to rid the world of the god right there. But before he could speak or do anything, another familiar voice reached his ears. Beltan. The two turned to see Loki with her Cheshire grin along with Lafia, and the goddess grin widened when she saw Ikelos and Bell. I was just looking for you. Bell blinked in confusion. Why you were? Loki nodded. See, Lafia Tan here was whining about it being just the two of us. So I was hoping to get someone to walk with us. Lafia looked at her goddess, Loki-sama. Ikelos' smile strained. Well, unfortunately for you, I was already having a wonderful conversation with him. The redhead's grin widened. Really now? Can I join? Surely you'd have some interesting gossip, wouldn't you, Ikelos? Now isn't this just a wonderful coincidence? The four turned to see Hermes approaching them, and Bell blinked. Hermes. The god of messengers smiled. Why hello, Belkuin, Loki, and Lafia-chan. I was just looking for Ikelos here. Loki's grin widened. Excellent. Then I can take our dashing young hero here, while you take that emo-looking piece of shit with you. How's that sound? Ikelos opened his mouth to speak, and so did Bell, but Hermes cut them both off. That sounds great. With that said, the god of messengers pushed Bell towards Loki, who quickly grabbed him and pulled him away, while Lafia chased after them. Soon, the three disappeared down the alley, leaving Ikelos and Hermes. The god of nightmares stared at his fellow god. So, what sort of business did you have with me? Hermes met his gaze firmly. I have some questions for you, Ikelos. Line break. With Loki, Lafia, and Bell, the three made their way to a quiet alley. Loki looked back, and she sighed. All right, this is far enough. Bell looked at her. Why did you pull me away? The goddess of mischief looked at him, and she scowled, because all of us could feel that king's aura a mile away, and I swear you were about to kill him, weren't you? The elf asked. What happened? The boy looked away. I wasn't going to. Loki's lips thinned, and Bell refused to meet her gaze. Okay, I was considering it. The redhead grumbled and palmed her face for the love of. The boy asked, where are the others? Loki sighed. Bet and Ace are on the way back to our home. But fuck that. What the hell happened? Bell looked down. Ikelos. Might be an enemy. Lafia blinked. An enemy? Why? The boy opened his mouth to answer, only to remember who he was speaking to. Forget it. Loki raised an eyebrow. Come on. You can't just say something like that and tell me to forget it. Lafia nodded. You can tell us. We can help. Bell backed away. No, it's still too early. Thanks for your help, Loki-sama. I'll be sure to give you another jug of wine next time. Load. Ushawakamaru. With that said, the boy leaped onto the roofs and dashed off, leaving the red-haired goddess and the elf. Loki narrowed her eyes. Something smells fishy. The elf, on the other hand, was more worried about her friend, Bell. Unbeknownst to the three, a white owl was perched on a roof nearby with one artificial eye, watching them as Bell left the area. Line break. With Ikelos and Hermes, the two gods sat on a bench nearby. Hermes didn't look at his fellow god. So, I heard some pretty dark rumors about you. The god of nightmare smirked. Rumors? Now do tell. The god of messengers clasped his hands together. Word is that you're in cahoots with the faction of darkness, Evelus. Ikelos laughed. Me? An evil god? You must be joking. Hermes closed his eyes. There's more. You wouldn't happen to be involved in smuggling and trafficking, would you? Ikelos snorted. So you're saying I'm behind all of that? The god of messengers let out a breath. I have no desire suspecting a friend from Tenkai, but my resources led me to you, Ikelos. The god of nightmares smirked. Then use those resources and find out. You have so many of your children following in your footsteps. Even your captain has designed her flying shoes in your image. Ikelos glanced around, and whilst he couldn't see them, the god was sure that Hermes' children were around them. The god of nightmares chuckled, but I'll just say it here and now. I personally have nothing to do with what you're looking at. If my familia is involved, then it's all the kids doing. Ikelos smirked at his fellow god. See, everything they're doing, it's just so small. They think what they're doing is big, but in reality, it makes no difference. And this makes it all the more hilarious to me. Hermes' lips thinned. Keeping control and order of a familia is also the responsibility of a god. The god of nightmares laughed. Well, sorry to disappoint you, pal, but I'm starving for entertainment. So far, whatever my kids are doing seems funny enough, so I don't have a reason to stop them. The god of messengers narrowed his eyes again. You do understand what you're saying, don't you? I close snorted. Kill me, torture me, do whatever you want. Hell, you can even sick that kid with the heroic spirits on me for all I care. It won't stop my kids. He smirked in a deranged manner. All I want is entertainment, and it just so happens I am one of the few gods who don't care if I get entertained. If I go back to Tenkai, the kids will just hide it out and find another god who doesn't care, and everything will go back to square one. Hermes sighed. I suppose you're not wrong. I close chuckled and stood up. If that's all you wanted to ask me, I hope you got your answer. The god of messengers nodded. I suppose so. The god of nightmare smirked. See you around then. I hope we see some interesting stuff soon. With that said, Iclos vanished down the streets, leaving Hermes on the bench. The god of messengers sighed. What a pain. Line break. The next day, Bell was making breakfast again, until he heard Lily's voice. Bell-sama. The boy glanced towards the door. Yes, Lily. The prom had a concerned expression on her face. We received a letter from the guild. Bell blinked. The guild? Lily nodded. They want you to head to the guild building. The captain of the familia blinked. The guild building? The prom nodded, and she brought out a letter, and it looks like they want you to go alone too. Lily walked to the white-haired boy, handing him the letter. Bell gave it a quick read. Before he nodded. All right, I'll head over after I finish making breakfast then. The prom looked at him. You don't think? Do they know about Ween? The heir to the throne of heroes shook his head. I don't know. But if they do? He trailed off, but Lily knew if need be, Bell would stand against them too. The prom sighed. Just be careful, Bell-sama. Bell nodded. Yeah, I will. A short while later, Bell sat in front of Ina in a private room. The boy asked, so why did the guild call me over? The half-elf had a somber look on her face. The guild has decided to issue you a mission. Bell blinked. A mission? Ina nodded. Yes, unlike quests, missions are mandatory. Once it is issued, you must complete it. The boy hummed. I see. She brought out a sealed envelope. Here, the details of the mission should be in here. Bell nodded and took the envelope. Do you know what it is? Ina shook her head. I don't, and that's what I'm worried about. I've issued missions before, and I've always been told something about them. Until now, at least. The white-haired rabbit looked at the envelope. I see. He tore the envelope open before unfolding the paper. The moment he did, his eyes widened. All members of the Hestia Familia are hereby ordered to proceed to the 20th floor with the Dragon Girl. Sharing the details of this mission to anyone outside of the Hestia Familia, including members of the guild, is prohibited. Bell's mind raced. The mission issued meant the guild knew about Ween. But what the boy couldn't figure out was why did the guild want Bell to bring Ween back to the dungeon, and why the 20th floor specifically? The young hero had been to the 20th floor before, and he couldn't think of a reason why they would need to go there. There was nothing remarkable there. Which meant there were two main possible outcomes. One, there was something on the 20th floor that was related to Ween, and no one except the guild knew. Two, the guild was putting the Hestia Familia into a trap, and some other party would be there to take them out, including Ween. There were too many unknowns, and the fact that the mission only told them to reach the 20th floor was confusing too. But before he could continue his musings, Ina's voice reached his ears. Belkuin. The boy looked up, and he saw Ina's worried expression. The half-elf asked, is there something wrong? Bell took a moment to breathe. No, nothing's wrong. Obviously, Ina didn't buy it. What did it say? The order for the mission. The boy shook his head. I'm not supposed to tell anyone about it, apparently. The half-elf's eyes widened. What? Bell nodded, and he folded the paper up. I think I'll be heading back now. I need to prepare for the mission. Ina furrowed her brows. Oh. Okay. The boy turned for the door, but the moment he did, the half-elf called out, Belkuin. Bell turned to look at her. Yes. Ina pursed her lips. I don't know what the guild wanted you to do, but if you need any help. The boy smiled. Thank you, Ina-san. I'll make sure to do that, maybe after I finish the mission. Ina nodded. Okay, it's a promise, all right? Bell nodded, his smile almost wavering, of course. With that said, the boy left the building, and the half-elf decided to file her worries for another time. Line break. A short while later, Bell sat in Hestia's office with the rest of his familia. Hestia folded her arms. This is concerning. Aisha hummed. I wonder how they found out? Daphne folded her arms. No idea, but there's no point worrying about it anymore. What's worrying is that they didn't restrain us or get us to hand Ween over. Lily nodded, which means something will happen when we reach the 20th floor. Welf looked at Bell. What do we do? Bell let out a breath. There's not much we can do. It's a mission. We'll just have to go along with it. Artemis nodded. But be careful. Who knows what's going to happen? Everyone nodded, and Makoto asked, but why the 20th floor? I mean, we've been there before, but we found Ween Dano on the 19th. Bell shook his head. I don't know. But we're going to have to be prepared in case anything happens. Nobody objected, and Cassandra asked, did they specify when we need to head down? Bell shook his head. No, they didn't. Aisha hummed. Well, I've heard that some missions don't have a time limit, just that you need to complete it eventually. But obviously if you don't complete it, the guild will ask questions. Haroheim asked, so we should go down as soon as possible? The Amazoness nodded, that would be the case. In fact, you can say that the guild probably expects us to do it immediately. Bell nodded, and it is related to Ween, so I want to get this over with as soon as we can. Hestia nodded, we might get some idea on what's happening with Ween and the dungeon. The goddess of the hearth's eyes went to the mission order that now rested on the table, and she shared a look with Artemis. Bell closed his eyes, all right, we'll need to bring Ween with us. So going in at night would be ideal. He looked at his familia members. I hope that is enough time for everyone to prepare everything you need to reach the 20th floor. No one objected, and Haroheim asked, have you asked Ween-sama about going back into the dungeon? Bell shook his head. No, not yet. Welf raised an eyebrow. Why though? The Renard looked down. I was playing with her last night, and she's not fond of the dungeon. I think she has nightmares. Daphne hummed, a monster having nightmares of the dungeon. That's interesting. Haroheim nodded. Ween-sama was telling me about them, and I think it might not be a good idea to bring her back there. Welf hummed. Before he looked at Bell, what should we do, Bell? The boy took a deep breath. Let me talk to her, then we'll decide what to do. Worst case scenario, I'll tell the guild we can't take Ween with us. Aisha raised an eyebrow. You plan to go against the guild? Bell shook his head. No, not if we can. But if we can't go back to the dungeon, then there's not much we can do either now, can we? The Amazoness snorted. Guess not. Bell stood up. All right, I'll go talk to Ween. Everyone else prepare all you need for the dungeon. We'll meet up and leave at 11 p.m. tonight. After a while, Bell was in his room with Ween. The Weaver asked, what's wrong, Bell? The boy blinked. Sorry. Ween looked at him curiously, with a hint of worry. You seemed troubled? Bell blinked, before he chuckled. Am I that obvious? The Weaver just tilted her head in confusion, but the boy smiled. Ween, can you tell me more about yourself? The Weaver blinked. Myself? Bell nodded. We've been busy with so many things, and you mostly play with Haroheim for the past few days. So I never really got to ask about you. Ween nodded. Okay. The boy sat down on his bed. So, you were born in the dungeon, right? The Weaver nodded. Yes. Bell looked at her. Was there anyone else with you? Or were you? Ween shook her head. I was alone. It was cold, dark, and quiet. It was scary. The boy kept silent as the Weaver continued. No, I was alone. Monsters attacked me. Humans attacked me. I could only keep running. Bell nodded. I see. It must have been hard. Ween's eyes watered a bit. It was. But now I'm here. The boy nodded. We'll protect you, Ween. You're one of us now. The Weaver looked at him. Do you mean it? Bell nodded. I do. From the bottom of my heart. Ween looked down. But I'm a monster, and... The boy shook his head, before grabbing Ween's hands. No, it doesn't matter whether you're a monster or not. You're talking to me, you feel, you eat, you're alive. You are one of us now. The Weaver's lips trembled, before she threw her arms around Bell's neck. Thank you. Thank you. Bell smiled. You're welcome. He gently pulled her away from the hug, before setting her next to him. But Ween, I want to know how you're feeling here. Ween smiled. I love it. Everyone's so kind. Bell nodded. Glad to hear it. The Weaver looked down. But I just wished. The boy raised an eyebrow. Wished? Ween didn't meet his gaze. I just hoped that everyone wouldn't sleep at night. Bell hummed. Why is that? The Weaver gripped the edges of her coat. I have these dreams. The boy's eyes widened ever so slightly. Is it the dungeon? Ween nodded. Yes. In my dreams, it's always cold and dark, and I always feel very angry. Bell listened as she continued. I see people like you, and I always fight them. It always ends with everything turning red. Sometimes I kill those people, sometimes they kill me. It's scary. The boy asked, but you don't want to hurt anyone anymore? Ween shook her head quickly. No. I hate it. I just want it to stop. I don't want to hurt Bell and Haroheim and everyone else. She trembled. I just want it to stop. Bell pulled her into a hug. Ween, it will stop. You're not alone. Ween smiled at him weakly. Thank you, Bell. The boy nodded, before he spoke up. Now, I want to know. Are you okay if we bring you back to the dungeon again? The Weaver blinked. The dungeon? Bell nodded. We're all going into the dungeon, and I want you to come with us. Ween looked down, turning silent, and Bell added, it's okay if you don't want to. I understand. The Weaver shook her head. No, I'll go. The boy's eyes softened. Are you sure? Ween nodded. I will go. I'm still scared, but everyone will be there with me, right? Bell nodded. Yes, we will. The monster smiled. Then it will be fine. Everyone will protect me. The boy chuckled. Of course we will. Ween nodded. Okay, then we will go to the dungeon. Line break. Meanwhile, Fels was in Alrena's chamber. The god could feel the annoyance from his longtime friend. Is something wrong, Fels? The sage scowled. You sent the Hestia Familia on a mission to meet them. Why? Alrenas closed his eyes. You have been watching them for the past 3 days. Fels stared at him. And I have given you my reports of them. The god nodded. Indeed you have, and it is through your reports that I have decided to send them on this mission. The sage frowned under his hood. It is too early. Aurena shook his head. No, contrary, I believe it is the right time. We have asked Ray about her impression of them. She is in favor of them meeting the others. He opened his eyes and stared at the sage. Fels, I understand your concerns about him. But remember, Cranel is not only the heir to the heroes of humankind. He's also the heir to heroes who are humane. Fels fell silent, but Aurenas could easily feel the displeasure. The gods sighed. Fels, they have taken in the Vuivra as their own. There is nothing to be afraid of. The sage spoke up. You're right, but they are still monsters, and Cranel is one fated to inherit the legacies of those who slay monsters. Forgive me if I am worried for our friends. Fels looked at the god. You are also correct. We have monitored them for the past few days. The Vuivra has been treated as if she was one of their own. Aurenas nodded. That they have. The sage turned to the door. I shall reserve my judgment for now. For the sake of our friends, I hope he becomes their hope. The god nodded. He will. He already has. Fels didn't answer him, but instead headed to the door. I suppose I should prepare to meet up with the two goddesses of the Hestia Familia now, should I? Aurenas nodded. Thank you, Fels. Author note. Done. So that's the chapter. The next chapter will show us the meeting with the Xenos, and will also expand more on how the Ishtar Familia and the Thanatos Familia will be involved. Until then, read and review please. Chapter 34. Author note. Hey, I'm back with a new chapter. Work has kept me busy and exhausted the past few weeks, but I managed to finish this one today, so here we are. Guessed. Vritra is more of a god plush dragon. Perhaps we can see it eventually, but that's not the one I have in mind. Linox, it would be, especially in the face of the Xenos named Asterios. Guessed. Now I'd say Melusine and FGO isn't exactly Ween's counterpart, but close enough I guess. Honestly, I'm tempted to do it, but we'll see. Anime fan 13579, I think the points you brought up regarding Theseus' noble phantasms are all valid. But honestly, if you look at other heroic spirits that Bell has already inherited, then honestly this is pretty much just the same in terms of complexity. Besides, at this point, Bell's noble phantasms, especially passive ones, mostly become active when he loads them. Barbatus Lupus Rex, yes he did. Hunger is the enemy. Daisic, can't speak Spanish, so Google translate what you said, and I'm not sure exactly what you mean, but I'm guessing you're asking if this is a harem and who will be in it. For now, Rio is a definite yes, Lafia maybe, Syr/Freya maybe, but that's all I have in mind. Anim helps depression, honestly any beast would work. For now I think the one that fits him the most is none other than Gadako. Axel Allen, thanks for the review. For now, I will go up to Season 4. Season 5 with the Freya arc is coming soon, so I'm hoping to watch it before I do that arc too. Otherwise after that, well, we'll see. Father One Eye, glad you liked it the part with Gilgamesh and Achilles. I hope you'll enjoy what I have prepared for this part too. Raiden Stray X, that would mirror Ilya using Excalibur or Saber Lily. We might see it. Anyways, without further ado, here's the newest chapter. Triple X. That night, Bell and the rest of the Hestia Familia left for the dungeon, leaving Hestia and Artemis. As soon as the group left, the goddess of the hunt looked at her aunt, Hestia. The goddess of the hearth nodded. Let's go. The two goddesses made their way through streets until they reached the ruins of the abandoned church they used to call home. Artemis looked around. This is where the message told us to come. Hestia nodded. Now we wait. Whoever issued that message should show up soon. Soon enough, a hooded figure appeared from the shadows. The hooded figure greeted, greetings, goddesses Hestia and Artemis. Artemis asked, who are you? The hooded figure lowered his head slightly. My name is Fels, pleased to make your acquaintance. Hestia brought out the mission order from the guild, using sacred text as a way to send us a message. What a roundabout way of doing things. She snorted. I assume you must be quite involved within the workings of the guild to be able to do something like this. Fels chuckled. Whilst I can do something like that, unfortunately, it is not me. All I am here for is to be a guide and a messenger. Artemis asked, so that means whoever wants to speak with us is your master? The sage nodded. You can put it that way. Fels turned around. Let us move. It is quiet here, but I don't want to take any more chances. The two goddesses nodded, and they followed the sage out of the streets. Soon, they found themselves in a tunnel filled with runes. Hestia asked, what is this place? The sage explained, it is a secret tunnel, carved with runes so no one could navigate them. Unless you know how to control these runes, of course. Artemis nodded. Did your master design this? Fels chuckled. Unfortunately, no. This is all me. I doubt anyone alive would be able to figure this out. Hestia nodded. I see. Impressive. The sage nodded. Thank you. As they walked, Fels stopped. This will be as far as I will take you. Continue forward, you will find the person waiting to speak with you. Artemis looked at him. What about you? The sage turned away. I need to make sure your little hero doesn't kill my friends. With that said, Fels left without a trace, and Hestia sighed. All right, let's keep moving. The goddess of the hunt nodded, and the pair continued walking, the runes on the walls giving way until they reached a dark chamber. Hestia's face soured almost instantly, simply because the figure waiting for them was one they were all very familiar with. The two stepped forward, and the goddess of the hearth stared at the god almost coldly. Aurenas, I should have known. Auranas met her gaze firmly. Welcome, Hestia, Artemis. Artemis looked at the primordial god of the sky. Was everything you're doing, Auranas? The god nodded. Indeed, the mission was my decision, and mine alone. Hestia narrowed her eyes. Why? Why issue a mission for my children to bring Ween to the 20th floor? Auranas closed his eyes. I shall explain that in a moment. The goddess of flames asked, are they safe? The god of the sky let out a shallow breath. They venture into the dungeon. Unfortunately, I am in no position to guarantee their safety. Hestia's features darkened. If anything happens to them, there will be hell to pay. Auranas met her gaze, and he nodded. We will cross that bridge if it comes. Artemis placed a hand on her friend's shoulder. Relax, Hestia. They will be fine. Hestia closed her eyes. Before she nodded, all right. The twin-tailed goddess looked at the primordial god. Let us hear it then. The guild knows of Ween's existence, yet all you've told us to do is to bring her back into the dungeon. Auranas raised a palm. First, you are not entirely correct. The guild doesn't know of the dragon girl's existence. That caught the two goddesses off guard, and Artemis asked, then the mission? The primordial god shook his head. I said it before, that was my decision and mine alone. The guild is not aware of the details of the mission, only Fells and myself are. Auranas leaned into his seat, but I digress. So let us start from the beginning. He looked at the two goddesses in the eyes, Hestia, Artemis. Humans, mortals, prums, elves, dwarves, and demi-humans. All of these mortal living beings possess souls. Hestia nodded, yes, and Auranas nodded. When they die, they go through a cycle of reincarnation, a cycle that occurs closely to Tenkai whereas gods reside. Artemis furrowed her brows, and what does this have to do with Dash? Her eyes widened, and the god of the skies nodded. Then that begs the question, what happens when a monster is killed? Hestia blinked. When a monster is killed. Auranas looked at them. Before meeting the dragon girl, you would think monsters do not possess souls. But in actuality, they do. So what happens to those souls? Hestia frowned. You mean to say monsters have their own cycle of death and life? The god nodded. Exactly. When a monster dies, the soul returns to the dungeon, and they enter a cycle of death and life. He closed his eyes. This is but a hypothesis, but we believe the monsters retain memories from each cycle, or at least, parts of them. Artemis folded her arms, and you believe that is how they gain intelligence? Auranas nodded. Indeed. It was only a mere 15 years ago that we came into contact with some of these monsters, and we have been providing them with support through supplies and information. Hestia furrowed her brows. But why help them? The god of the sky stared at her. The same reason your little hero is protecting your Vuivra. That surprised the two goddesses, and Artemis folded her arms. I see. So you already knew that much at that point. Auranas nodded. Exactly. All of us know of the existence of lost belts and lost worlds. Yet we never gave it much thought, simply because it does not have anything to do with us. But the fact that humans can still be seen as humans after taking on the form of monsters is an undeniable fact. Hestia stared at him. So you judge the monsters with intelligence to be equal to humans. The god nodded. That is correct. But unfortunately, they are, at the end of the day, not humans. Hence that is why I bestowed them with a name. Artemis asked, and that is? Auranas stared at them both. We call them the Xenos. Line break. Earlier with Belle and the others, they managed to reach the 18th floor quickly. Now, they were taking a breather near Rivera. As everyone took the moment to catch their breath, Daphne approached Belle. Belle. The boy looked at her as he drank from a flask of water. What is it? The redhead had a concerned look on her face. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but the monsters we've fought so far. Daphne glanced back at Ween. They all seemed to be targeting Ween. Belle looked at the Vuivra who was with Haraheim, Cassandra, and Aisha, and he nodded. I noticed. It was like that when I first saw her. Monsters were after her too. Do you know why? The two turned to see Lily approaching them, and the prum looked at the four, and we should keep quiet about this too. Belle nodded. Agreed. But unfortunately, I have no idea. All we can do is make sure we protect her. Daphne nodded. And we know the monsters will definitely go after her first, so we can adjust our positioning based on that. The boy nodded, and he glanced at everyone. Before he nodded, all right, I think it's about time we get moving. Belle turned. Welf, Makoto. The two turned to him from some distance away, and Welf asked, what's up? The white-haired hero beckoned them to come over as he approached the others with Lily and Daphne. We'll be moving on to the 19th floor. That caught everyone's attention, and Makoto nodded. Understood. Belle nodded, before he looked at everyone else. But before we do, I want to change everyone's positioning. Aisha raised an eyebrow, a bit out of nowhere, but okay. The boy looked at Makoto and Welf. I want the two of you to always be with Ween, Haraheim, and Cassandra at all times. The five of you will stay in the middle of our group, Lily too. Belle looked at Daphne and Aisha. Aisha, Daphne, I want you two to cover the rear. The Amazoness blinked. The rear. The redhead hummed. I see, in case monsters come from us at the back. Aisha hummed, giving the formation some thought, before her eyes widened. Wait, this makes it as if we're Dash. Belle nodded. That's right. This will let us protect Ween easily. I'm sure everyone has noticed this to some degree. The monsters are always targeting her. This will let us respond easily. Welf sighed. Well, that makes sense. Makoto nodded. We will do our best to protect Weendano then. Ween approached Belle. Belle, is everything okay? The boy squatted down to her level and smiled. Everything is okay. Don't worry. The Weaver smiled. Okay. Belle stood up. All right. Let's get moving. Everyone nodded, and they all descended down the 19th floor. Soon, the group found themselves at the 20th floor. As they walked through the entrance, Lily asked from the middle, Belle-sama, what are we even looking for? Belle looked around at the front. Honestly, I have zero idea. But the guild wanted us to come here, so something's definitely gonna happen. The boy scanned the area before him, and unlike the previous floors, the 20th floor was more like a maze, an actual labyrinth. As they walked, Belle noticed something on the ground. Guys, look at this. Everyone caught up to him, and the boy picked up a blue feather from the ground. Welf's eyes widened. Wait a minute, isn't this Dash? Lily finished, that monster we saw before. Daphne pointed to the front. Look, there's more, and it looks like it's leading towards that direction. They all looked forward, and sure enough, more feathers laid on the ground, as if forming a trail. Aisha blinked. Wait, you think this is something a monster did to show us the way? Makoto nodded. Most likely. If it is that same monster we saw, then it should lead us to them. Cassandra asked, what if it doesn't? Belle looked at them. No harm done even if we follow the trail anyways. Harahime nodded. Let's follow the trail. Lily sighed. I think that's the only thing we can really do at this point. Belle nodded. Let's go. The group turned and followed the trail of feathers, making their way through the floor. Soon, they noticed a bunch of feathers in the middle of the corridor. Welf blinked. What the hell? It just ends like this. Daphne frowned. Why? This makes no sense. Lily walked to the feathers, but this is like in the middle of nowhere. Aisha looked around. Are there any more trails? Cassandra looked forward. Not that I can see. Belle narrowed his eyes, staring at the bunch of feathers, unless. Before anyone could do anything, Ween walked towards the feathers. I can hear something. Belle blinked. Ween? The Weaver looked at the feathers, before looking up at the wall before them. I can hear a song. Aisha blinked. A song? She looked at the others. Do y'all hear anything? Welf and Makoto shook their heads, and so did Daphne and Cassandra. The boy looked at Ween. Before he closed his eyes, Load, Atlanta. The powers of the huntress filled his body, including her senses as a hunter and hearing. Sure enough, he could faintly hear a humming. I can hear it too. It's soft, but it's there. Belle opened his eyes, and he approached the wall before them. It's behind this wall, and it feels like it's calling something or someone. Welf asked from behind. What do we do then? The boy placed a palm on the wall. Before he answered, we break it down. Everyone blinked at his answer. Load. Heracles. Without another word, Belle easily broke down the wall, much to the surprise of his familia members. Lily sighed. Please give us a warning before you do something like that. Belle gave them a toothy grin. Hey, it worked, didn't it? Aisha shook her head in exasperation. Let's get moving then. The group walked through the hole in the wall and soon entered a dark, spacious area. Lily spoke as she pulled out a lamp from her bag. Lights on everyone. Makoto looked around. Wow, to think a place like this would be behind the walls. Daphne nodded. Some sort of unexplored space in the dungeon. It makes sense though. Aisha nodded. Perfect for monsters to hide in. As they walked, Belle stopped, and Welf asked, What's wrong, Belle? The boy seemed to stare into the darkness. Makoto, are there any monsters nearby? The samurai blinked. I haven't checked. Why? Belle's eyes narrowed. Because we're being watched. That caught everyone's attention, and Aisha asked, Where? The boy looked around. Everywhere. We're surrounded. As if on cue, countless roars reached their ears, and Lily reached into her pouch. I'll spread some lamp moss. The prom tossed a handful of glowing powder all over the place, illuminating the area quickly. The moment she did, they saw them. Monsters all around them, glowering at them. And right in front of them was a lizard man, wearing armor plates and holding two swords. Belle narrowed his eyes. Armed monsters. The lizard man growled, before raising one of its swords. On cue, multiple humanoid monsters, all armed, placed themselves around them. Then, the lizard man lowered the sword, aiming it straight at Ween. Then all hell broke loose. All of the monsters charged, as the lizard man leaped straight for Belle. The boy grunted as he blocked the strike easily thanks to Heracles' strength, before he pushed the monster away. The moment he did, Belle heard Harahime scream, and he snapped his head back to see multiple monsters around them, Welf and Makoto barely holding them back. With the multiple monsters, even Aisha and Daphne struggled to keep them at bay. A roar caught his attention from behind, and the boy managed to summon the nameless golden axe just in time to block the slash from the lizard man. Belle took a deep breath. Are these monsters targeting Ween too? He narrowed his eyes. Overload. Imawai. With a burst of strength, the boy kicked the lizard man away. Trace. On. With a blue glow, countless swords appeared above them, and the lizardman's eyes widened. Oh shit. Unfortunately, Belle failed to hear the lizardman's words, and he sent out a mental command to send the swords raining. The lizardman dashed back, dodging the swords while managing to parry some of them. Some swords tore through some monsters, but ultimately didn't kill any of them. The boy narrowed his eyes. Trace. On. Wait. Stop. Please. A familiar voice reached his ears, and Belle turned to see a blue siren landing before him. Wait, please. Bell blinked, that voice. The siren sighed. I hoped our meeting would be much better. But thanks to some idiots, this happened. The boy blinked. Wait, if you're here. The siren nodded. Yes, we are not your enemies, Bell Cranel. Well frowned. So what was all that about? The lizard man grinned sheepishly. Why, sorry about that. We were trying to test you. Aisha raised an eyebrow. Test us. The lizard man nodded. We wanted to know if you'd leave our brethren to die if it got desperate. But well, I guess we underestimated you. Bell sighed. I see. He dispelled all of the swords around them, and he looked around. Sure enough, the monsters were all standing by, waiting. Some were nursing their wounds, but most of them were just watching. This might sound weird, but I want to say thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for protecting one of us. The lizard man spoke again, and the siren lowered her head in agreement. Bell sighed again. No need to thank us. We just did what we felt was right. Lily muttered under her breath. More like you did. The lizard man turned around. Would someone put on the lights? The area lit up with proper lamps, and soon Bell and the others got a better look at the area. The lizard man smiled. Before he turned to the group of humans, names LYD, as you can see, I am a lizard man. Bell thinned his lips. Bell Cranel. LYD grinned. Nice to meet you, Bell Cranel. Actually, do you mind if I call you Belchai? The boy blinked. I don't mind. The monster's grin widened. Great. LYD approached him and extended a hand. Let's shake on it. Bell glanced down, before up at the lizard man. But before he could shake the monster's hand, he felt countless gazes on him, and Bell quickly realized everyone was watching them. The boy looked past LYD to where the siren was, and she gave him a comforting smile and a nod. Bell nodded back, before he clasped LYD's hand firmly. Sure. Nice to meet you, LYD. The lizard man grinned, but before he could speak, the entire cave exploded with roars and cheers. Before anyone could react, the monsters swarmed around Bell. It's an honor to meet you. What was your name again? I'm FIA. Roar. Bell smiled awkwardly, until he noticed the majority of the monsters were still injured. Load. Gilgamesh. In an instant, the regal aura of the King of Heroes formed around Bell, to the surprise of the monsters. A number of golden portals appeared, revealing a dozen jugs and a number of glasses. LYD blinked. What's this? The boy released his hold on the king's powers. All of you are still hurt. Well, 'cause of me. These are all potions of the highest quality I have in my treasury. Please use them. Bell held up one of the jugs to the lizard man, who accepted it gratefully. LYD nodded. Thank you. The lizard man turned and spoke aloud. You heard the man. Help yourself with those potions. Do you really believe we can trust these so-called potions, LYD? A gargoyle landed on the ground beside the lizard man. LYD glanced at him. Grow. That was what our little test was for, and Ray has vouched for them. I think we can trust them that much. The gargoyle scowled. It might be a trap. Bell spoke up. If I wanted to kill you, I would have done so already when I had Gilgamesh's powers. Grow narrowed his eyes at him. You talk big, human. The boy shook his head. I speak only the truth. Bell took a deep breath, but that's not what we're here for. The gargoyle stared at him. Then why are you here? The boy glanced at Wayne. We want to know the truth. He looked back at Grow and LYD. I want to know what's going on. I want to know what. No, who are all of you? And if we are friends or foe? The two stronger Xenos looked at each other, and the gargoyle grunted. All right. Grow turned and walked away, along with a few other Xenos that didn't participate in the fight earlier. LYD sighed. Sorry about that, Grow. Well, we have our own problems, I guess. Bell nodded. Don't worry about it. The boy asked, so, do you mind telling me, just who are you? All of you. Every monster looked at him, and Ray answered, Xenos. We are the Xenos. Welf blinked, Xenos. LYD nodded. That is the name Fels gave us. And it is the name we go by, our society, our existence. Aisha asked, and all of you here are monsters? Ray nodded. All of us. The Amazoness furrowed her brows, yet all of you can understand us, as if you're humans? LYD shook his head. We have no idea why. Some of us can speak, some of us struggle to. But it is just how it is. The lizard man chuckled. But anyways, let's sit and talk. Now that we have the annoying part out of the way, we can have a feast. The humans all blinked. A feast? A short moment later, the whole group of both humans and monsters sat around a bonfire. Plates of food consisting of roasted vegetables, fruits, and meat laid on the ground around them. Bell looked around him. Wow, did you really go out of your way just for this? LYD grinned. Well, we were hopeful. And we wanted to celebrate our first meeting with humans who'd accept our existence. Ray chuckled. I just never thought it'd be with the heir to the throne of heroes. The boy blinked. You know what I am? Grow snorted from opposite of them. Fels told us about you. The heir to every hero in human history, of which most are known to have slain monsters. LYD nodded. Fels was skeptical, which didn't help things, I guess. But Ray vouched for you, so here we are. And I still am, mind you. Another voice reached their ears, and LYD grinned. There you are. We were waiting for you, Fels. The group looked back to see a robed figure approaching them. Fels stared at Bell for a moment, before he sighed, but I suppose I was worried for nothing. The sage spoke again. This will be our first meeting, hero of human order. My name is Fels. Bell nodded. Bell Cranel. Fels nodded. I know. The boy asked, so, that means the guild knows about you? The sage nodded. That is correct. The guild, or more accurately, the god Aurenas and I, have been providing them with support through supplies and equipment. We're also liaising together to prepare for a time where the Xenos can live in peace and coexist with humanity. Daphne looked to his side, to where Ween was happily talking to FIA and a few other monsters. I see. So the purpose of this mission was to bring Ween to you. Fels nodded. That is one part of it. The other is to see if you deemed their existence appropriate. Bell Cranel. Bell blinked me. The sage nodded. Correct. The god Aurenas has high hopes for you. I was skeptical, but I suppose I was wrong. Bell shook his head. No, you're right to be skeptical. But the memories of heroes that slay monsters are not the only heroes I've inherited. Fels fell silent. Before he nodded, then we should be grateful for that. Bell looked at Fels. So, are you a monster too, Fels? Elwidi spoke up. No, Fels a human. The sage shook his head, former human, to be precise. He pulled down his hood. I suppose if we are to work together, I shan't keep this a secret. Everyone blinked in surprise, and Welf's eyes widened. Holy sheet. Daphne kept her surprise minimal. You're a Spartoy? Fels nodded, as I said, a former human. Elwidi laughed. Fels a sage, you see. He's super strong. Lily's eyes widened. Wait, you mean a sage? Like from that nation of scholars, where only one sage achieved eternal life. That sage? The lizard man blinked, before he glanced at Fels awkwardly. I'm not too sure about that one. Fels nodded. That is correct, and do not worry, Elwidi. My identity is not something that has to be concealed. He looked at the other humans, but that is correct. I am the remains of what was once called the sage. My current state is the result of my foolishness in pursuing immortality. Bell nodded. I see. Fels looked at him. Just like the king of heroes you have inherited, I sought eternal youth. But unlike him, I had to create my own potion, and this is the end result. The sage looked around him, but that is neither here nor there. Right now, I am working with Aurenas to help the Xenos. That is all that matters. Bell let out a small breath. I see. Mikoto spoke up. Speaking of which, when we made our way down, all of the monsters were targeting Windano. Is there a reason why? Ray shook her head. We have no idea either. As far as we can remember, we have been hunted by our fellow monsters, as well as adventurers alike. Haraheim looked down. So you were put right in the middle, not amongst normal monsters, but not amongst humans. The siren nodded. Yes, but that's also why I think our mother prepared these villages for us. Aisha raised an eyebrow. Villages? Fels explained. We call them hidden villages. Adventurers call them safety points. Basically areas in the dungeon that do not spawn monsters. Well fast. But you said, your mother? She prepared these places for you? Who would have the power to alter the dungeon? LYD chuckled. The dungeon itself. We call the dungeon our mother because it is the dungeon that gave birth to us, and despite being hunted by both monsters and humans alike, our existence is permitted by the dungeon thanks to these hidden villages. Ray nodded, and thanks to these hidden villages, we can move around the dungeon safely and find new brethren and live together. Everyone nodded in understanding, before Aisha asked, so that means you can pretty much self-sustain. Why would the guild need to help you? Fel stared at the two senior members of the Xenos. That is up to you to answer. LYD nodded, before he looked at Aisha, then to Bell and the others. Often, we dream. The Amazoness blinked. Dream? The lizardman nodded. We dream. For me, I always see this giant yellow rock in the sky, moving across the sky before it turns red and sinks into the ground. Everyone blinked in confusion, and LYD smiled. You all call it the sun. Haraheim asked, wait, so you've seen the sun before? LYD shook his head. Not once. But I think. At some point, in one of my previous lives, I must have lived somewhere where I could see the sun. Bell furrowed his brows. Previous lives? Ray nodded. Previous lives. She looked at Bell. Us Xenos, we have ones who can talk, and those who can't. The ones who can, we learn how to speak quickly, as if we were remembering how to speak. Others struggle a lot. Bell's eyes widened. Wait, so you're saying all of you here are reincarnated? Fels nodded. That would be the case. Just as humans have our own cycle of life and death, so do the monsters. LYD looked at Aisha. Aisha Chai, all of us here wish to live on the surface. We have our own dreams we want to fulfill on the surface world. The Amazoness blinked, before she sighed. Well, now this has become large all of a sudden. Fel spoke, an intense longing, or at the very least, feelings and emotions towards the surface world and humanity. That is the one common thing all Xenos have so far. LYD chuckled, except for him though. The sage snorted, that one is an anomaly. An anomaly amongst anomalies. Mikoto blinked, him. Ray explained, we had another new member join us recently, but he's extremely obsessed with getting stronger. LYD sighed, yeah, he's much stronger than me, as much as it pains me to say it. The samurai asked, where's this person? I mean monster. The lizard man folded his arms, deep in the dungeon floors, training. LYD shook his head, but enough about him. Tell me about yourselves. Bell Chai. Bell blinked. Eh? The lizard man grinned. I want to know more about you, and all of your friends. We've told you about us, so wouldn't it be fair if you did the same? Bell blinked again, before he smiled. All right, it might be a bit of a long story though. LYD's grin widened. The night's still young. We have a lot of time. Line break. A while later, Bell and the others stood some distance away from the bonfire. LYD reached his hand out to Bell. It was nice meeting you, Bell Chai. Ray smiled. You have no idea how much it means to us to know someone like you exists. Bell nodded. The feeling's mutual. He looked at Fells. Fells, are you sure we can't bring them up to the surface under the pretext that they are tame and friendly? The sage shook his head. Not now. But that is something we will do eventually, and we will definitely need your help when that time comes. The boy smiled. Of course, you can count on us. LYD chuckled. We definitely will. Bell. Ween's voice reached their ears, and they all turned to see the Vuivre running to them. The monster giggled as she ran towards them. Today was so much fun. We should come find them more next time. Before Ween could reach the boy, LYD swiftly cut into her path and scooped her up. Nope, you're coming with us, Ween. The Vuivre blinked. Eh? Why? Ray explained, if you stay on the surface right now, eventually it'll cause trouble for Bell and the others. So we'll need you to stay with us for now for their sake. Fells nodded. For now, they have done an excellent job keeping you safe and hidden, but that can't continue. Ween's face fell. Then when can I stay with Bell again? LYD sighed. Not anytime soon, unfortunately. The Vuivre froze, but before she could start crying, Bell approached her. Ween. Ween looked at him. Huh? The boy took a short breath. Load. Gilgamesh. A golden portal appeared in his palms, and Bell pressed it against the back of Ween's hand. The golden glow vanished, revealing a red mark on Ween's hand. It looked like two verses inside a larger V, almost looking like a draconic head. Fell's eyes widened. Is that dash? Bell nodded. A command spell. He smiled at Ween. Ween, this will bind us together. Can you feel it? The Vuivre stared at the mark in awe. Why yes, I can. Bell nodded. With this, we will always be connected. And if you really need me, you can call me through this command spell. Ween's eyes widened. Are really? The boy nodded. I want you to stay with me at our home too, but right now this is for the best. So until then, this will have to do. Bell smiled. And well, I can tell where you are with the command spell, so I can come visit you when I come into the dungeon. LYD whistled. You can sense where she is with that mark? That's neat. The boy nodded. And if you need help, channel it through the mark. I will appear immediately. Fell studied the command spell. I see. Using the mark as a catalyst, you can cast a spell that transcends space. Bell chuckled. It's a bit simpler than that. Command spells are but contract spells with a massive amount of magical energy. Basically, it bulldozes the laws of physics and nature with pure power to achieve its goal. The sage nodded in understanding, but still an impressive feat. Ween looked at the mark. Before it, Bell. Can I use this when I want to see you? Bell laughed softly. Just tell me through our connection. I'll come find you if I can. But only use the spell in emergencies, okay? You only have 3 at the moment. The Vuivre nodded slowly. Okay. LYD nodded in satisfaction. We'll get going then. It's time we switched villages. Ray nodded. Thanks again, Bell, and all of you. I hope we meet again. Everyone nodded, and Bell smiled. Don't worry, if you're with Ween, I can find all of you anytime. The lizardman chuckled. That'll be good. Until next time. With that said, the 3 Xenos went and joined the other monsters, leaving Bell and his familia with Fells. The sage looked at the hero in training. I'll excuse myself then. This has been a fruitful meeting, and I hope we can work together to help the Xenos. Bell nodded. Of course. Let us know if you need help. Fells nodded. We will. Until then. The sage vanished into the shadows, and Bell looked at his friends. All right, let's go home. Everyone nodded, before Makoto asked, was that okay? Leaving Ween with the Xenos. The boy nodded as they walked. Yeah, I'd prefer if we kept Ween with us. But we can't hide her forever. Letting her stay with the Xenos will be good thanks to their villages. Daphne asked, how are you so sure? Bell closed his eyes. We didn't talk about this before, but the Xenos have enemies, and I think some adventurers know and are hunting them. Welf widened his eyes in surprise. Then why didn't you tell them? The boy shook his head. I'm sure they know. Ray told us when we first met her on the 19th floor. For now, they've been safe. I hope it stays that way. With that said, the Hestia Familia went back to the surface. Meanwhile, in a hidden warehouse, Gran grunted in frustration. For fuck's sake, the Hermes Familia is annoying. It can't be helped. They're just that good, Gran. The bald man glanced at their Familia captain. But if we followed the Hestia Familia, we would have found their base by now. Dick shook his head. Patience. We had no choice but to shake the Hermes Familia off. And that took everything we had. He smirked as he glanced to his side, where a bloodied harpy laid in a cage. Now that we've gotten the Hermes Familia off our ass, we can start our hunt again. Chapter 35. Author note. Hey, I'm finally back with a new chapter. And holy crap, we are at 914 follows and 770 favorites. Let's keep it going. Not to sound ambitious, but I hope it goes up to 2K for each. But one step at a time, as they say. Anyways, God, it's been a while. I've been burned out from work, not to mention Star Rail and FGO. We're a week away from 6.5, and I have 700 SQS ready for Charlie. Guessed. Wait, no more. Here it is. Demon of Wrath. Asterios, DanMachi will definitely be stronger, but not in a way that he would inherit Asterios' fate/type moon. It will be fun to write their battle, though. As for the close familia, yep, they have it coming for them. And with Bell contracting the count, we'll have to see how the count will fit in. Anime fan 13579, the part where Bell meets Asterios, DanMachi, is something I've been planning for a while now. So look forward to it. Guest, yep, Daphne and Cass are in the Hestia familia. Zoral Slazzle, your review is for Chapter 5, but I'll reply anyway. Right now he is definitely limited in his use of UW. Yes, he would have to manually search for weapons, but not unlike how Yumawai already does. He can't summon the reality marble yet, and he can't add to it. Anyways, here's the newest chapter. Enjoy. XXX. That morning, Bell was in Hestia's office, relaying everything that happened to Artemis and Hestia. Everyone else had gone to wash up and sleep, given that they had stayed up most of the night. That left the captain to speak with their goddesses. Hestia sighed, I see. So Ween's gone with the Xenos. Bell nodded, yeah, I did give her some command spells in case she needs me. Artemis nodded, good thinking, it will also let us help them if they need it. The boys sat down on the sofa near the desk, they have a group down there, different monsters, different Xenos. The two goddesses simply stayed silent, and Bell looked at them, I want to help them. Artemis asked, do you have an idea how? The boy looked down, I have a few. But potentially, we could bring them up, and I can use one of my heroes, maybe Gilgamesh's treasury, and say that they are intelligent and tame. Hestia spoke up, Belkuin, Arenas, the god behind the guild, said that they have been planning to bring the Xenos to the surface. Bell nodded, I know, but if we can make it reality quicker, I want to help. Artemis placed a hand on Bell's shoulder, I think we shouldn't rush this. You of all people should know, the people of Oreo and this world will not easily accept them. The heir to the throne of heroes sighed, I know. The goddess of the hunt smiled, rest for tonight, we just discovered their existence. If Arenas and the Xenos have their plans, then we should help them along the way, but not now. Bell slowly nodded. You're not wrong. He took a deep breath, thanks, Artemis-sama. Bell turned for the door, I'll be crashing for the day then. Hestia nodded, rest well, Belkuin. Artemis smiled, good night. The boy smiled and exited the office, leaving the two goddesses. Hestia sighed, lost belts and lost worlds. Humans that look like monsters, huh? Artemis sat down on the sofa. The Xenos certainly fit that criteria, and from what Bell has told us, they are pretty much just that. The goddess of the hearth massaged her temples. I can sort of see why Belkuin is so adamant in helping them. The goddess of the hunt snorted. Perhaps inheriting all the existences of those heroes isn't such a good thing after all. Hestia sighed, definitely, I can feel the headache coming already. Artemis chuckled, I'm sure he'll be fine. He's not alone anymore, and we have Ishtar's familia too if need be. The goddess of flames looked out the window, I sure hope so. Line break. The next morning, Bell was mopping the floor of his training hall after his morning training session. Bell. The boy glanced back to see Aisha at the door. Aisha, good morning. The Amazoness greeted back, good morning, just finished with training? Bell nodded, yeah, you. Aisha snorted, I'd rather train in the dungeon, but not today anyway. The captain of their familia went back to mopping the floor. So, what did you need? The Amazoness chuckled, straight to the point, eh? The boy laughed softly, hey, you wouldn't be here in the morning if you didn't need anything. You'd be with Haraheim or one of the girls at least. Aisha just shook her head in exasperation, true. She sighed, I just wanted to ask about Ween. Bell glanced back with a raised eyebrow, what about her? The Amazoness frowned, it's not about her, more about the Xenos. The boy turned to fully face her, yeah. Aisha let out a deep breath, they're a nice lot, but they're still monsters. I know Fell said they have a plan, but what are we actually going to do? Bell fell silent. Before he answered, I don't know yet. But we can't rush it. We know what will happen the moment everyone in Oreo hears about them. The Amazoness nodded, chaos, at the least, everyone will want to kill them. The boy nodded, exactly, they only number in 40s, 50s if we're being generous. A small monster familia, even with us, up against everyone else in Oreo, we stand zero chance. Aisha raised an eyebrow, even with your heroes? Bell nodded, if we exclude the Loki and Freya familia, then we have a chance, probably. But as I am now, against Finsan and the Loki familia, I cannot win. The Amazoness lips thinned, makes sense. The boy chuckled, well, it also depends on what we call winning. Aisha blinked, what do you mean? Bell put the mop into a storage room at the end of the training hall. If we want to defeat the Loki familia in a fight, well, depending if I can draw them to fight one-on-one, I might have a chance. If our objective is to keep the Xenos safe and hidden, there are ways too. The Amazoness eyes widened in realization, I see. The boy nodded, yeep, depends on what we have to do. Aisha palmed her face, you have it thought out, haven't you? Bell laughed softly, well, it's been on my mind for a while. Finsan definitely will not let them be, for better or for worse. The woman sighed, I was an idiot for worrying. Well, all of us were. The boy shook his head, no, I'm relieved. I was worried you, or any of you were to be against it, I would have probably gone off and did it myself anyway. Aisha snorted, that's not saying much. considering you make up 90% of our fighting power. Bell snorted, don't be like that. All of us are equal in this familia. The Amazoness scoffed, doesn't change the fact that you're the strongest. The boy smiled dryly, then just get stronger, Aisha. Aisha sighed, easier said than done. The woman shook her head, anyway, I can let the others know, our captain's got it all covered. Now they don't have to worry about that Vuivra in the dungeon. She turned to leave the training hall, but before she did, oh, and just in case, do you want to bring the others in the Ishtar familia in on this? Bell paused, I'm not sure yet, we'll cross that bridge when we need to. Aisha hummed, all right. With that said, she left the room, and Bell was left to his own musings once more. Later that day, the captain of the Hestia Familia was in the guild building. Bell stood at the reception at Ina's station. Ina-san, the mission is complete. The half-elf blinked. Belcoin? The boy repeated, the mission we got before, it's done. We need to inform the guild about it to mark it off officially, right? Ina looked confused. I'm not sure if that is enough. Before they could continue, however, a fat elf walked to them from behind Ina. Ina. The woman blinked. Royman-san? Royman looked at Bell. Thanks for informing us. We will mark the mission as officially completed. Ina blinked. Wait, what? The older elf looked at her. That is concluded. Leave it at that. With that said, he turned away, leaving them as he disappeared down the hallways. Bell turned. I'll be off then. Before he could leave, however, Ina called out, Belkuin, wait. The boy turned to her. Yes? The half-elf pursed her lips. Can we talk? In private? Bell blinked, but nodded nonetheless, sure. A moment later, the two sat in a private counseling room. The half-elf had a concerned expression on her face. Belkuin, what happened on that mission? Bell let out a breath. Nothing. It's been done and dealt with, Ina-san. Ina frowned, but that explains nothing. Usually missions involve extensive reports, but you just came in and said it's done. What's worse is that Royman-san confirmed that that is sufficient. The boy closed his eyes, hints of Zhuge and EMY leaking through his voice, and isn't that enough? We completed the mission from the guild, that's all there is. The half-elf's face fell, and Bell immediately felt bad, but despite having nothing but trust for his advisor, he couldn't risk revealing the Xenos to her. Ina looked down, I see. The boy couldn't bear looking at her crestfallen expression, and he stood up. If that is all, I'll be leaving then. Ina nodded, and as Bell turned to the door, the young woman couldn't help but speak again. You've changed, Belkuin. The white-haired rabbit stopped at the door. I guess so. With that said, Bell left the room, leaving Ina alone in the room. Line break. Meanwhile, with Ishtar, the goddess stood in an alley in the entertainment district, an uneasy expression on her face. Now I'm hurt. We've been trying to reach you for ages, but you just never wrote back. A hooded figure stepped out of the shadows, followed by a woman with spiky pink hair. Thanatos smiled creepily. Well, that's not good. Ishtar made an impatient face. Talk. What did you want? The god of death laughed. Why, to catch up. After we lost our shitty copy of the Gugalana, we've been under pressure. If you pull out now, we're screwed. The goddess sighed. Unfortunately, I will no longer be able to help you. Thanatos raised an amused eyebrow. Now why is that? Ishtar snorted. Because I have a command spell and hay is on me. If I so much think about helping you dash. She froze, but after a short moment, Ishtar growled in annoyance. That happens. The god blinked. Oh, that's annoying. Ishtar nodded. Everything you do is undoubtedly evil, considering you call yourself an evil god. The spells on me forbid me from doing anything of that nature. I might as well be a good goddess now. Thanatos sighed. Unfortunate, really. Valletta smirked. Should I put her out of her misery? Ishtar snorted. If you do that, well, go ahead if you want the heir to the throne of heroes after your ass. The god blinked. Oh, so you have him on your side. Is that what you're saying? The goddess sighed. More like I'm on his, involuntarily. But at any rate, I have contingencies. If anything happens to me, I'll pretty much sick him on you, or anyone. Bell Cranel with Gilgamesh's powers. I think it'll be fun to watch him tear you to pieces. It was a bluff. Ishtar had zero sway over him, but the goddess also knew the boy had a knack for helping people he considered his ally. Fortunately, the goddess knew she barely qualified as one. Barely, but still one. Thanatos hummed. Well, that won't be pleasant. The god of death shook his head. All right, you win. For now. Ishtar narrowed her eyes. Oh, is that a threat? Thanatos smirked. No. He turned. Come on, Valletta, we should go. The woman blinked. Wait, we're not killing her? Thanatos shook his head. I'd rather not a Bell Cranel come after our heads. Valletta raised an eyebrow. What's so scary about him? He's not even level 4. The god fell silent, and Ishtar laughed. Oh, you sweet child, you don't know, do you? The woman glared at the goddess. I think I want to kill you. The goddess of fertility smirked. Bell Cranel is the heir to every hero in human history. And not our history, but a different history with heroes that easily surpass the likes of the Zeus and Hera Familia. Valletta snorted. And what of it? Ishtar's smirk widened. He is fated to inherit their very existences, each and every one of them. Imagine a single person bearing the cumulative power of the Zeus and Hera Familias. That will be what you'll be up against. The woman scowled, but before she could start, Thanatos spoke up. She's not wrong. That is what Bell Cranel will eventually become. Frankly, I do not wish to poke him just yet. The god walked into the shadows. Come, Valletta, we're done here. The captain of the Thanatos Familia grunted in annoyance before following her god into the shadows. As soon as they left, Ishtar let out a breath. At least that's dealt with. The goddess turned away, contemplating if she should tell Bel and his goddesses about the Evolus. Unknown to the three, Iklos had been hiding in the shadows. The god of nightmares laughed to himself. Here I was hoping to get Ishtar to help with more trafficking for that dumbass captain of mine, but I think this will be even better. Line break. 3 days later, Bel walked along the streets of Oreo. The link between Ween and him pulsed, and he chuckled to himself. The link had been pulsing almost every day, and the boy had kept reassuring the Vuivra he would meet her the next time he went into the dungeon. Now, the heir to the throne of heroes was outside the Loki Familia home. Bel. The white-haired rabbit smiled when he saw Lafia and Ace at the entrance. Bel greeted, Lafia-san, Ace-san. The blonde swordswoman nodded to him, good afternoon. The elf smiled, good afternoon, come on in, everyone's waiting. Bel chuckled, sure, who else is joining us? Ace answered, Bet, Tiona, Tioni, Finn, and Reveria. The boy blinked, wait, even Reveria-san? Lafia nodded, Reveria-sama and Finn have been interested in your King of Heroes powers, so they wanted to watch. Bel hummed, I see. Yes, we shouldn't keep them waiting. Ace and Lafia both nodded, and they both entered the mansion. As they walked, the blonde asked, so, Bel, are we having lunch together later? The boy blinked, I don't mind if we do. Ace eyes gained a glint, can you cook? Bel blinked when Lafia nodded quickly, yes please. The boy sighed in exasperation, but his smile said otherwise, as long as I'm not the only one cooking, I don't mind. Ace nodded, and you could almost see her anticipation. Bel just shook his head again before they reached the training area in the Loki Familia home. Soon, the three reached the training field in the mansion, and Bel blinked when he saw everyone, including Gareth, Raoul, and Aki. Finn greeted, hello, Belcoin. Tiona waved enthusiastically, Argonaut-Kuin. The boy greeted back, hey, Finn-san, Tiona-san, everyone. Bet snorted, took you long enough. Reveria sighed, Bet. The werewolf looked at the high elf. What? The green-haired woman shook her head, no, never mind. Bel chuckled. Before he looked at Raoul, Aki, and Gareth, quite the big group we have, I thought it'd just be myself, Lafia-san and Ace-san and maybe Tiona-san and Bet-san. The dwarf laughed, oh don't worry, I'm here more to watch than anything. These two young lads, on the other hand, are a bit more keen than I am. Raoul nodded, you're still a level 3, but you're already so much stronger. I want to test myself against you. Bet snorted, as if a small fry like you can come close to beating him. Aki glared at the werewolf, and you didn't have to open your mouth. The werewolf glowered at her, you want to go, bitch? Finn sighed, calm down, both of you. Bet clicked his teeth in annoyance, but simply looked away, while Aki sighed and backed down. The prum sighed again, at any rate, Raoul here wants to have a spar with you, and I'm not gonna lie, so am I. Bel blinked, you too. Finn smiled, well, I heard from someone that you have a hero that uses a spear. I'm a lancer too, in case you didn't know. The boy blinked, before he chuckled, all right, I'll take you on then. Tioni sighed, and it always turns into Bel fighting everyone. Tiona giggled, I'll fight with him. We can do doubles. Gareth laughed, now that'd be interesting. Bet smirked, Ace and I can take on the rabbit and the elf. Aki raised an amused eyebrow, you think you can take on Bel and Reveria together? The werewolf glared at her, I meant the weaker one. Not the hag. Reveria took a deep breath, but everyone could see her anger seeping through her calm facade. If you call me a hag one more time, I might just team up with Bel and take you on, just you alone. Finn chuckled, now as amusing as that would be, I think we should let Raoul go first, then we can decide who'll be next. Raoul blinked, wait, really? The prum nodded, of course. Right now everyone is at their peak. If we have Belspar a round or two, he might be worn out. You want to see where you stand against him, right? The level 4 took a deep breath, and he nodded, all right, I'll go first. Bel nodded, okay. He paused, come to think of it, this will be the first time I'm sparring with you, Raoul-san. The older man smiled, yeah, don't hold back, okay? Bel nodded, of course. Gareth chuckled, all right lads, make some space for them. The group backed off to his side, as Bel and Raoul stood in the middle of the area. The older man drew a sword, and Bel drew his knives. Raoul noticed that the boy had not loaded a heroic spirit, but decided not to comment on it. The dwarf hummed, are both sides ready? Both men nodded, and Gareth cleared his throat. Very well, begin. Raoul dashed forward, swinging his sword at the boy. To any level 3, they would have been easily overwhelmed by his speed, but Bel has always been fighting at a higher level. With ease, the white-haired boy blocked the slash with the Hestia knife, and Raoul grunted as he pushed down. Bel pulled back, letting the older man lurch forward as he punched Raoul with his free arm. The older man stumbled back, grunting as he regained his footing. Raoul took a deep breath, as strong as ever, but I can't fall behind. Now, can I? The man dashed forward, swinging his sword constantly in an attempt to overwhelm Bel. On one side, Finn watched the fight with the others. Reveria looked at their familia captain. What do you think, Finn? The prum hummed, they're both doing well. is what I'd like to say. Aki paid attention to his words, despite keeping her eyes on the fight. Finn continued, under normal circumstances, you can say Bell is doing exceptionally well to keep up with Raoul. But we all know Belkuin is no longer bound by levels. In turn, you can say Raoul is doing good keeping up with Bell. Reveria nodded. I sense a but. The Prum nodded. As of now, Belkuin is not using any powers from his heroes, meaning his stats are in the into level 3. You can say he's using his inherited memories and experience to make up for it. But Raoul should still have an advantage in terms of strength. The High Elf hummed. I see where you're coming from. They're evenly matched. Finn nodded. Exactly. Bet snorted. What a joke. Aki glared at him, but before she could say anything, Gareth spoke up. I seem to remember the lad giving you a good fight with his hero's powers, as a level 2 no less. What does that say about you? The werewolf just clicked his teeth in annoyance, whatever. Tioni snorted, but before anyone could say anything, Finn spoke up again. Actually, you can also say Raoul isn't fighting to the best of his ability. Lafia blinked. Wait, really? The Prum nodded, a smile on his face. Yeah, watch. With Bell and Raoul, the two were trading blows over and over again, both now sporting visible bruises. The older man had a pained smile. You're strong, Bell. Bell smiled back, now holding Minotan in his other hand. You too, Raoul-san. Raoul's smile faltered. No, I dash. Raoul. Finn's voice caught their attention, and before they could react, the Prum tossed his spear at the level 4. Raoul blinked as he easily caught the spear. W.A. Captain? The Prum stared at him. You've been fighting Belkuin only with your sword alone. You're not giving everything you have. Use that. The younger man's eyes widened, before it changed into one of determination, right? Raoul twirled the spear in his right hand, swapping his sword to his left. Bell narrowed his eyes, dual-wielding. The older adventurer took a deep breath and dashed forward at the younger boy. Bell's eyes widened as the senior adventurer suddenly unleashed a combination of stabs and slashes at him. It took the boy everything to parry and dodge the blows, and even then the spear managed to nick him several times. Bell cursed as he backed away, but that only prompted Raoul to push on even more. The older man swung his sword down for an overhead slash, and Bell crossed his knives to block the swing. The two pushed against each other, and Bell grunted. To think adding a spear alone would make him this much harder to fight. The boy took a deep breath. Load. Imawai. The sudden change surprised Raoul, and Bell took the chance to push and kick the older man away. Sheathing his knives, Bell chanted, Trace on. In the blink of an eye, Bell held a red spear, one that got everyone watching on edge. Raoul's eyes widened as an instinctual sense of fear grew in him, but he managed to push it down. What is that spear? Bell twirled the spear, not unlike how Raoul did with Finn's spear, Gi Balk, or a fake anyway. One of Imawai's abilities is to recreate a copy of any weapon he sees. Unfortunately, I can't do the same yet, but I can call upon the weapons he's seen before. The boy had tried to recreate Heracles' axes before with Imawai's powers, but they always fell short, and it was more efficient to just use the actual weapons with the actual hero's load. But regardless, Bell wanted to practice using other weapons with Imawai in case he couldn't swap heroes in time. With that said, the boy dashed forward and Raoul quickly found himself under pressure once more. Simply because he was now facing a level 3 adventurer with the inherited powers of Imawai wielding the cursed spear known as Gi Balk. Not wanting to lose, Raoul gritted his teeth as he parried the red spear with his own, before swinging his sword at the boy. Not missing a beat, Bell drew the Hestia knife and blocked the sword, before pushing the older man away. The boy then backed away, and he decided to end the match. Set, fake. Bell bent down slightly into a stance, and everyone watched with interest. Gi Balk. It happened in the blink of an eye, and with a flash of red, Raoul felt pain in both arms, before he found Gi Balk aimed at his neck. His sword and Finn's spear fell to the ground behind him, and Bell's voice reached his ears. Yield. The older adventurer nodded shakily, before Bell dispelled the Gi Balk. Raoul massaged his hand shakily, before glancing back at his fallen weapons. What was that? Interesting, it looked like the spear had extended and split into two to hit Raoul's hands. The two turned to see Finn approaching them, and Bell let go of Imawai's powers. Yeah, sort of. Reveria furrowed her brows. If I didn't say it before, I'll say it now. You were dangerous, Bell Cranel. Bell blinked. Huh. Gareth laughed. Wow, to think Reveria would be so freaked out. I think I like you even more now, lad. Tiona asked, so what happened there anyway? Can that spear extend and split into multiple spears? Tioni folded her arms. It did look like that. Bet scoffed. Who cares? The point is the rabbit beat the weak shit. Aki glared at him, but before she could say anything, someone spoke up. It may have looked like that, but... For the first time, Lafia spoke up, and Reveria nodded in satisfaction. You understand too, don't you, Lafia? Bell caught on. I see what you're talking about. Ace asked, what are you three talking about? Finn hummed as he picked up his spear. I'm curious too. The high elf frowned. That spear, it is a cursed weapon. And what we saw wasn't as simple as the spear extending and splitting. It was reversing cause and effect. Aki blinked. Cause and effect? Bell nodded as he explained. Gi Balk's unique ability is that it determines a conclusion, and then creates it. Finn raised an eyebrow. Really now? Tiona raised an arm. I have no idea what that means. Reveria sighed, feeling a headache coming. For example, normal cause and effect would be like this. Bell thrusted his spear, so Raoul was stabbed. But in this case, it is reversed. The Prum's eyes widened. I see. Instead, it would be, because Raoul was stabbed, so Bell must have thrusted his spear. Bell nodded. That's right. And because the effect I determined was the spear striking both of Raoul San's weapons, Gibalg had to extend and split. The act of me thrusting is merely a formality. Akigate, wait, doesn't that mean it is guaranteed to hit? The boy smiled, pretty much. But the one I have for now is a much weaker version, so technically you can avoid it. Finn's lips curved upwards. That is interesting. Mind if I try my hand against that? I might not look it, but I pride myself as something of a lancer myself. Bell blinked, before he gained a confident smile and opened his mouth to answer. The moment he did, his command seal pulsed, and he could all but hear Ween's voice screaming. Bell. The white-haired rabbit's eyes widened, easily feeling the call and the fear behind it. Bell's jaw tightened. Sorry, Finn-san, something came up. I have to go. Now. That caught everyone by surprise, but before anyone could react, the boy took on a bright glow. The glow died down quickly, and when it did, Bell was nowhere to be found. Bet blinked. What the fuck just happened? Finn stared at the spot where Bell was mere moments ago. Reveria, what do you think? The high elf studied the spot. A teleportation spell? No, it felt different, and teleportation spells are extremely rare. Lafia asked, but wouldn't Bell have a hero that can teleport? Reveria shook her head. I don't know. Finn let out a breath. Well, not much we can do. We'll just have to ask him when we see him again. Line break. Earlier that morning, Ween was with a few Xenos. As explained by Fells and LYD, the Xenos would split into smaller groups and make their way through the dungeon before meeting up at a larger safe point. That left Ween with a Fomor named For, a War Shadow named Odd, a Harpy named FIA, and an Arachne named Rainy. The Weaver sighed as she stared at the mark on her hand. Bell? Why won't he come see us? FIA flapped her wings, floating down to her. He must be busy with things above the surface. Fells said he would be. Ween pouted, but he's been telling me he would come see me when he comes into the dungeon. The Harpy smiled softly. He's an adventurer. He'll come down eventually. Belsan's not the type to break his promises, is he? The Weaver shook her head. No, Bell is good. FIA smiled and nodded. Then you'll just have to wait. Ween sighed and looked down, I guess. You're better off forgetting him. The two looked forward to Rainy, who glanced back at them from the front. Ween furrowed her brows. Why? The Arachne took off her helmet and approached the newest Xenos. Listen, humans are liars. They are deceitful. They will do everything they can to get what they want. The Weaver stared back firmly, but Bell's different. He's kind. And he's strong. He'll definitely protect me. And all of us. Rainy sighed. You don't know who he truly is, do you? Ween looked confused. What do you mean? Bell is Bell. The Arachne walked over to the Weaver. Ween, listen to me. He may seem kind. He may seem like he wants to help you. Help us. She closed her eyes, but Bell Cranel, that human is a hero. Ween blinked. A hero? Isn't that good? Rainy sighed. For humans, yes. For us? For monsters? They're the worst kind of humans. Heroes slay monsters. That's why they are loved by other humans. The Arachne looked Ween in the eye. Ween, we are monsters. In the end, we will always be on opposite sides. Whether he means to or not, he will hurt you. The younger Xenos frowned. I believe in Bell. He wouldn't hurt us. Rainy blinked, and she sighed in frustration. I'm only saying this for your sake, Ween. But dash. Before she could continue, Ween winced and covered her ears in pain. Gil. FIA quickly went to her side, something mirrored by For and Odd. Ween, what's wrong? The Weaver grunted. I hear someone, crying for help. Am my ears hurt? The armored Arachne asked. Is it one of our brethren? Ween nodded painfully. Why yes, she's hurt, if we don't help her soon. Rainy shared a look with Odd and FIA, and the Harpy frowned. A siren? The Arachne nodded. Most likely. FIA asked. What do we do? Rainy frowned. We help, of course. Let's go. Everyone nodded, and they started moving towards the source of the screams. Soon, the group of Xenos reached a cave, and Rainy's eyes widened when the screams reached her ears. It's here. Ween nodded, as she's in pain. The Arachne frowned. I know, I can hear it too. FIA asked. What do we do? Do we go in? Rainy nodded. Yeah. She reached into her armor and brought out a gem. Grow, we found one of our kind. Ween heard her. We're gonna save her. Wait for us at the rendezvous point. The gargoyle's voice came back almost immediately. Wait, don't go in yet. We'll come to you. Where are you? Rainy scowled. No time. We can take care of this. Grow growled. It might be a trap. The Arachne shook her head. No time. We're going in now. With that said, she put the gem away, and Rainy looked at her group. Let's go. The sooner we help her, the better. No one objected, and they walked into the cave. The moment they did, their eyes widened in shock. Simply because at the center of the room was a large tree, and chained to the trunk of the tree was a siren that didn't look too different from Ray. But that wasn't what caught their attention. It was the numerous wounds, cuts, and gashes all over her body. The siren noticed the Xenos before her, and she managed to whisper, "Our run." Ween gasped, "WY? Who would dash?" Holy shit. Dix was right. The Xenos all turned around to see Gran walking out of the shadows, a giant sword in his hands. The bald man smirked. "To think a mere siren could draw you out. I'm just glad you fell for mine instead of Dix's." Gran brandished his sword, slamming it into the ground. 4? No. 5 of you, huh?" The bald adventurer grinned. "I'm not as hungry as our captain is, but this is a bit lesser than I expected." Rainey growled as she noticed more adventurers coming out from the shadows, easily numbering in dozens. A trap. Odd immediately dashed forward, his claws sharpening as he tried to take down Gran. But before the war shadow could react, the adventurer swung his sword, slicing the Xenos cleanly in half. Gran smirked as Odd fell to the ground, and he stomped on the Xeno's head, crushing it to bits as his body dissolved into gore and ash. FIA screamed, "Odd." Rainey growled, "You bastard." The bald adventurer grinned. "I think I understand how Dix feels now. This is fun." A random adventurer yelled, "Don't go too far, yeah, Gran. If we kill him all, Dix won't be happy." The bald man snorted, "Who do you think I am?" That one was enough. "We can rough the others up, and that'll be it." Gran brandished his sword again. "Now, let's begin." As Dix loves to say. The hunt is on. As if on cue, all of the adventurers moved, and Rainey growled, "4, protect Ween. FIA. Take them from the air. We'll take them down ourselves." The Fomor nodded, and the harpy immediately took to the air. By now, Gran had managed to close the gap between himself and the Arachne, and Rainey growled as she dodged a slash. But before she could counterattack, a scream caught her attention. The Arachne glanced around to see FIA on the ground, having been kicked down from the air by an Amazoness. FIA. "Think you have time to worry about others?" Rainey's eyes widened as she turned back just in time to block a punch from Gran. The moment she did, the man smirked and swung his sword, slicing off 3 of her legs, earning a scream of pain. But before she could even finish, Gran kicked her in the chest, sending her sprawling to the ground. On another end, Fur was getting bombarded by 3 mages as 2 other adventurers kept him busy. Another barrage of spells struck him, and the Fomor fell to his knee, grunting in pain. Ween watched in horror as the adventurers took her friends down with ease. F4. One of the adventurers that took 4 down approached Ween. "So this is the Vuivra, huh? If I didn't know better, I'd say she looks cute." "Hey, be careful with that one. Dix wants it alive." The man snorted, I know. He raised his sword. "Don't worry, I just want to hear her scream a bit." Rainey and Four's yells of worry reached her ears, but there was simply nothing the Vuivra could do other than back away. But the adventurer wasn't simply going to let her run, and before Ween realized it, she found her back to a wall. The Vuivra gasped, and she looked back to see the man slowly stalking towards her. But that wasn't the only thing she saw. FIA's fallen and bloody body. Fur on the ground. Rainey struggling against Gran. The bloodied siren still chained to the tree. It was simply too much. Ween's lips trembled until she remembered the seals on her hand. "If you really need help, channel it through the mark. I will appear immediately." The Vuivra closed her eyes as she held her hand to her chest, and she yelled, "Bell." The sudden call surprised everyone, but what surprised them more was what came after. The command spells glowed brightly, before one of them floated off of her hand. It then turned into a sphere of light, expanding quickly and blowing the adventurer away. As the light died down, Ween's eyes widened in relief as she saw the person she desperately wanted to see for the past few days. "Bell, are you okay?" The Vuivra nodded, "MMM." Her face fell despite the relief and joy she felt. "But who the fuck are you?" Bell glanced back, taking a quick look around him, and his face darkened. He saw FIA and 4 on the ground, Rainey facing Gran, yet she was missing 3 legs. He also saw the set of armor on the ground, and most importantly, the siren chained on the tree. The white-haired hero asked, "Did you do this?" The adventurers looked at him as if he was dumb, and the adventurer that was about to kill Ween scoffed. "Of course we did. Who else?" Bell stared at him. "Why?" The man smirked. "Why not? They're monsters. We didn't expect them to be lured in by a siren scream, though. That was awesome." At that moment, Bell felt something in him awaken, and time stopped. But this time, there wasn't a voice. No, Bell heard, felt a growl from the depths of his soul that led to the throne of heroes. This scene was way too familiar, and it infuriated Bell and the spirits within him to no end. "I am thou, and thou art I." Images flashed through Bell's mind as time resumed. "Thou hast acquired a new vow. Thy body shall serve under mine will, and mine fate shall be thy sword." A random adventurer yelled, "Wait, he's the little hero from the Hestia Familia. How's he here? Who cares? Hit him." The yells from the adventurers around him didn't reach his ears, for he was more focused on the images that were flashing through his mind. A wolf, a king of his tribe that rampaged the plains of America. A wolf that slaughtered countless cattle and sheep and came to be known as the devil incarnate. A beast that had his mate killed by humans, before he too was caught in a trap while seeking his mate's corpse. "Thou shalt let chaos blind thine eyes, and I, he who doth hold thy chains." Under normal circumstances, Bell would never come across this spirit. But because he had sided with the Xenos, this phantom spirit had managed to reach out to him. Their current situation made it even more possible. Let an oath be sworn here. I shall attain all virtues of all of heaven. I shall dispose of all evil of all of hell. Several mages fired spells at him, consisting of fireballs and wind blasts, but Bel paid them no heed, as he simply dodged them by dashing to his side. If thou dost accede to this will and reason, then answer my call. Come forth from the rings of restraint, O protector of the balances. Overload, Hessian Lobo. Energy exploded from Bel's body, pushing the adventurers back. Even Gran had backed away from Rainey, his attention torn to Bel's appearance. The white-haired hero now held two sword scythes, one in each hand. But what caught their attention was his features. The boy now had slitted pupils, his white hair grew longer, almost like a werewolf, and his nails sharpened into claws. Furthermore, there was a visible white aura around him, and everyone could see the aura flickering, sometimes into the shape of a wolf. Bel bent down. You will pay for what you did. Author note. Done. I want an honest opinion. How many of you were expecting that spirit? The next chapter will expand on what Bel has done, and what could possibly come out of it. I'll try to get the next one out ASAP too, but I'm gonna be busy as my family is coming over to visit. So we'll see how it goes. Until then, read and review please.